Today's guest, the infamous, the one and only, Nathan Apffel.
Today my guest is Nathan Apffel.
Nathan Apffel, the producers and the creators behind the docu-series, The Religion Business.
And joining me today is Nathan Apffel.
What are you doing out here? Like the church. We're members. You go to church here? Yeah.
We both ended up on Shawn Ryan.
Yeah.
You being on Shawn Ryan is what got me on Shawn Ryan.
But they know there's something wrong in the system. And then the system is cloaked in the concept of Christ as our Savior, salvation, and generosity and love.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the perfect mask for abusing people.
I really want to dive in and get, the other side of the coin here.
Full-time pastor's salary in America is $58,000. That's the median. Average teacher's salary is $74,000. So most pastors are making less than public school teachers.
Why does it matter if they do or don't file 990s to you?
Because the collective Christian institutional church has dumbed down Christianity in America and watered it down to the point where you have a bunch of sheep sitting in your pews now, not caring about anything outside of the entertainment on the stage. Do you hear yourself?
Nathan, do you hear yourself? You said,
Christ
hold on, no. I'm not going to let you get away with this one. You said,
churches do not file legal filings. You just said
they file their taxes. What are you talking about? Churches file taxes all the time.
What?
Churches don't file taxes every year, Nathan?
They do not file anything with the Fed.
They don't file. No churches has to file anything ever.
Rhythm Church's annual
I got
impact
it for you
report.
Right here. Here, I brought you a copy.
Perfect. Can I see it?
Sure, you can see it.
So see, I'm sitting here looking at this going, man, that doesn't make sense. Most of your congregants are probably sitting there going, this doesn't make sense either. And so what happens is you end up with this cute pie chart.
It's a great chart. Show the chart. It's a chart.
It's a great
chart,
It looks like something I would build in 10th grade.
It's a good chart.
Ruslan.
Okay, before we get into this video, guys, if you know me, you know that I am a huge fan of the hit show House of David, produced by my friend John Irwin and the amazing people over at Wonder Project. And so I already had the Wonder Project subscription within Amazon Prime watching House of David with my son, but I was even more ecstatic when they reached out to make sure that we get the word out about their brand new service within Amazon Prime. Now, it's not just for the House of David. When I signed up, I discovered that there's over 100 additional titles on here, edited versions of family favorites like The Patriot and Dead Poets Society and Antoine Fisher. Sandlot is on here. There are so many amazing titles. And the dope part is it's not just faith-based. There's a lot of Christian stuff on here, a lot of biblical stuff on here, but it's also value-based. And there's also like a new documentary on there with King and Country. And again, the best part about it is that you can watch it with your family without worrying about anything inappropriate popping up on the screen. It's only $8.99 a month, or you can save 17% by signing up for the entire year for only $89.99. And an annual subscription is a beautiful way to support the mission of the Wonder Project and also signal to the industry that this sort of entertainment that's faith-based and value-based is needed and demanded by our community. And it also helps the wonderful people at the Wonder Project continue creating and making amazing media. So hit the pinned comment and sign up for a free trial today, or better yet, save some money and sign up for an annual membership. Link is in the pinned comment and description. Let's jump into this conversation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Today's guest, the infamous, the one and only, the documentarian,
whatever you want to call it.
Nathan, how do you say your last name?
Apffel.
Okay. Yeah. My name is Ruslan, by the way. So I've been mispronouncing your last name. You've been mispronouncing
Ruslan.
Ruslan. It's all right. You got the Southern twang. Hey, before we jump in, let me just first say two things. One, what you went through here in North County, and I know the church that happened at. I'm so friendly with some of the pastors at that church. Is pretty horrific. And it didn't just impact you with regards to that pastor getting charged with SA. It rocked our whole area.
Yeah.
Every pastor here was
when
hit
you
hard.
said Will, I listened to your book. When you were talking about Willie, is that Willie Register?
Different Willie.
Okay.
Different. But
Willie's awesome.
Willie Register is the homie, and I was just with Willie at the beach 2 weeks ago.
Awesome.
So shout out to Willie Register, North Coast Calvary, the whole squad over there. So one, I want to acknowledge that that was awful, and it impacted the whole region.
Oh, for sure.
Like everybody was gutted because of that. And then to hear subsequently what happened with your brother-in-law. I say that to say that I understand how someone can come to similar conclusions as you, having gone through what you've gone through.
Well, those two are just small blips in the radar. I would start off by saying when you said Nathan sounds like he's hurt, I'm not hurt at all from what happened with that individual. I saw it as a huge line of events in my life that God used to bring me to this moment.
Gotcha.
So it's not church hurt at all. I've spent years of my life overseas in developing nations now where I've gotten to see small churches, home churches, poor churches, for-profit models that are there to not be a burden on their congregation at all. And so that's when I started coming back to the States. I'm like, man, our model is very pigeonholed and very hungry off of its congregants for survival. And so that's the lens the religion business came from. It wasn't like I
wasn't
was
church hurt.
No, not at all. I want to be very clear on that.
Yeah.
It wasn't at all. It was more of I see institutional church as my baby now.
Yeah.
And I want to bring it back to what its original purpose is.
You think subconsciously it could have been church hurt?
No.
Okay.
I wrestled with that a lot. We shot the whole show when I was 28. That was, I'd call church anger.
So there was a moment. Well, anger is a secondary emotion.
It was
to
a
hurt.
decade of
So you shot it at first when you were hurt and angry.
I was angry.
Then
We went around the U.S.
Yeah.
and we filmed it. I had a camera operator with me. And in edit, I started string editing it, and I'm 41, so this is 14 years ago now. It felt angry.
Got it.
Like
Okay.
when I would play back, I always say it was like me screaming at a brick wall. There was no solutions. There was no what brought us to this moment. It was, I was frustrated.
Yep.
And so God does his thing, and I shelved it, and I went back into TV and broadcast, and I continued
The second
my career.
time around, you felt like it wasn't.
And
that.
then the catalyst, so in my late 20s, then I started reading the Bible, like actually reading it cover to cover. And I'm like, wow, this is a different book than I was taught. And then I was living my own life, well away from faith. And I got a girl pregnant when I was 31. And when that baby came out, I've definitely against. And her mom was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to have this child. She lived out of state. And she's like, unless you move here. And so I'm like, okay, sold everything I had. And I'm like, I'm moving.
That's how you ended up in Utah?
That's how I ended up in Hawaii.
Oh, okay. So you were in Hawaii. How did you end up in Utah?
COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, I just couldn't fly. And I was working.
yeah,
they were just a nightmare. But so it was that me becoming a father where I realized what ultimate love was from a human's perspective.
Yeah.
That I was able to take that lens and shift it to my upbringing with church. And I said, I love some of those early memories. I love singing in choir as a kid. And so I took that fatherhood lens and I applied it to the church. And so the first time we shot, it was like in my 20s, I was pissed off. I'm like, there's serious wrongs being done in this institution.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't mature enough to articulate it. And so it was, again, out of my sin that God gave me this beautiful baby girl that understanding what the love of a father was.
You got here.
Brought me to where I could come here to this today and sit on Shawn and confidently present my arguments, sit here with you and confidently present my arguments. And
Okay. Well, speaking of sitting on Shawn, we both ended up on Shawn Ryan.
Yeah.
You being on Shawn Ryan is what got me on Shawn Ryan.
You're welcome.
So I was going to say, dude, thank you. Because I reacted to some of the back and forth with you and Russ B. Johnson, who's an acquaintance. Yeah. And I really didn't want to engage with anything else. I was like, I want to talk to Nate. I don't want to talk about Nate. I want to wait for that moment. And then that came out, and I had a few people that were close to me that were like, hey, you should really react to this. I think you could speak into this well. And so I did, and then oddly enough, the thing I didn't want to do is what got me on Shawn Ryan. And fast forward, Jeremy kind of probably nudged both of us along of like, you guys need to talk. Shout out to Jeremy and Shawn Ryan, all those folks over here. And so now we're here.
Yeah. A great team. Shawn was very nervous to talk with me. And so I give him mad props, and I give Jeremy mad props, and I give you mad props. We are a firebrand that we always say we're bulls in china shops, and it's so it's nerve-wracking to talk with us. Yeah.
Well, let me just say this. I think from my vantage point, two things. One, like I am a byproduct of the local church. Like broken family, father not in my life, mother's an alcoholic, arrested at the age of 11, assaulted, like the whole bit, promiscuous from a very young age on drugs. And so I can say with good amount of certainty and confidence that like I wouldn't be doing none of what I'm doing, nor would I be a stable husband and father had it not been for the local church. Like forget YouTube, just like a husband and father that's functional if it wasn't for the local church. And so I'm a byproduct of a of a flawed system, but a system that nevertheless discipled me, cultivated me, developed me, and released me to do what I'm doing now. On top of which, and people might think this is disingenuous, I really don't have a dog in the fight. I don't get.
You might after this call or after this conversation.
I don't get brought out to the mega churches. My friends who are mega church pastors aren't having me preach on Sundays. We're going the opposite route. I'm doing a theater tour in the spring of hard ticket sales. Just so that when I'm defending the church and when I'm celebrating the beauty of the church and what the church has been in my life, there's a whole chapter in my book about the local church that no one can put that asterisk next to my name and say, well, Ruslan, he's really in it for the money because he's getting these big fat honorariums.
There's one thing I assume you're a for-profit company, right?
Absolutely a for-profit company.
I respect that immensely.
And to be fair, I have been encouraged by some people to say, hey, like you should really consider a nonprofit. You're doing your Bless God Summit, which we do a big summit. It's our second annual. I lose a ridiculous amount of money on that, just giving away, probably we offered 100 tickets, so lost probably $40,000 this past March. It's coming up again this March. So I don't, so I've been told like, hey man, you might really want to start a nonprofit so that
please don't.
so that you have a way to collect donations because this is actually a ministry thing that you're losing money on. And I haven't seen the need for that yet. I'd much rather partner with local churches and say, hey guys, here's the needs. How about we tell people to give money to you and you guys fill in some of the needs that we have. We're doing a big outreach, the finale of the Bless God Summit, where we're gonna have some artists. I'll tell you who they are off the record. So I say all that to say, like, I don't have a dog in a fight. I love the local church. I think pastors have become, the stereotype of the pastor is the stereotype of the father in the 90s. It's the Al Bundy, Homer Simpson, like goofy, and they're just so easy to dunk on. They're so easy to make fun of. And I value pastors. I value my pastor.
So why are they so easy to dunk on?
I mean, there's probably a plethora of reasons why pastors are easy to dunk on. I think on a macro sense, I think people, especially post-COVID, are highly skeptical of institutions in general. Anything institutional, anything big, anything with power, people are already skeptical of. So I think that's a reason. I also think what is a stereotype? Do you know what a stereotype is?
Yeah.
What's a stereotype?
It's a stereotype is a quasi, fake allegory of a person. So you said, I don't watch TV, but Homer Simpson is what a pastor is. That's a stereotype.
The way that
you could say,
Nathan,
I called you your church hurt. That's a stereotype because you didn't know me.
Yeah.
So you put a stereotype, you pigeonholed me, and you said,
I don't know about the church hurt. I don't know about the church hurt thing, but a stereotype is it's a hasty generalization fallacy. It's a small sample that then is brought across a large group of people.
So church hurt, I would say in general, is a stereotype because as soon as someone's frustrated with their church, you go, they're church hurt. So that's a stereotype.
Maybe. Okay. Maybe I've never thought about it that way, but perhaps. So with pastors, you have some folks that have absolutely done some very goofy things. Some folks that you've talked about, that I've talked about, that we would lock arms in and say, that's terrible. That's 20,000 square foot parsonages, out of control. There's people that I haven't watched the docuseries, and I did ask you to send it to me. You didn't send it to me, but that's okay.
I bought your book. I didn't ask you for your book.
You bought my book?
I read it, or I listened to it on Audible.
Okay, what'd you think?
It was good.
Yeah? What'd you think about the chapter on church?
It was good.
Yeah?
It's interesting to know your backstory. The conclusion was solid. It helped me analyze my thoughts on on what we're going to talk about today. So and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to see your lens and where you're coming from.
I would have sent you a free copy of the book.
But I wanted to support you, bro.
Well,
so it's I wanted to understand your lens on stewardship. That was what I wanted to really hear about.
And I would like to hear more about that as we move on. So I say that to say that I think there are people that you have called out that don't want to sit down with me right now. And I'll tell you who they are offline. Like we are actively working and they don't want to talk to me because they know I'm going to ask them maybe some of the same questions you ask them. So, but the overall frame I think is, man, the stereotype of the pastor that's becoming today is much similar to the stereotype of the dad in the 90s, where was there some truth in an Al Bundy? Was there some truth in a Homer Simpson? Yeah, probably. There was probably some truth in that.
Yeah.
Was that most dads in the 90s? Was that how most men who were husbands and fathers carried themselves in the 90s? I would say, I don't think so. And so that's what I mean by now today, the pastor is the punching bag of the whatever community online that's disenfranchised and frustrated and maybe has some legitimate gripes, as you do, as I do, as Mike Winger does, as all kinds of people, Melissa Dotery. There's a ton of people that have done the same style of call out, some of the same people you've called out. But the difference is, are we now generalizing too broadly to the point where good pastors, pastors that show up to bury people, marry people, come to the hospital visits, are doing the counseling and doing a talk and leading a staff. My pastor, like this is my pastor all the time.
Jeff Morris?
Jeff Morris.
Okay, yeah.
All the time, showing up for, I don't know how many funerals he's done, you know? And there's good pastors that I think are catching some of the strays in the same way that it was easy to dunk on the dads in the 90s. And that's my concern is I want to protect pastors because once upon a time, I too was frustrated. Once upon a time, I did experience some stuff. I was at a church that did have some institutional issues. And by the grace of God, the system held up and it worked out. And I could tell you more about that later. And now I'm in a spot where like, man, I'm at a healthy church and I'm sitting underneath a great pastor and I get to travel.
What would you define as a healthy church? Just so I can
let me finish this thought. Okay. And then and I'm meeting a lot of pastors. I'm sitting with a lot of pastors. Some pastors, a lot of them are bivocational, laying concrete on whenever they can to make ends meet. Others are taking a modest salary, and some that have built churches and gone from a few hundred to a few thousand, and they make six figures. And I've met a plethora of them. And generally, and this is anecdotal, but I think some of the data that we can get into supports this. Generally, they're good dudes. Generally, they're doing their best. Generally, they're underpaid. Generally, they're really trying to preach the gospel. So what is a good pastor? Is a healthy church?
Healthy church.
Healthy church. Yeah, I think a healthy church preaches and teaches the word of God. I think that is the primary function of the church, is to locally gather for preaching and teaching of the word of God and for corporate worship. I think there is usually counseling available, some sort of care and shepherding available, much like North Coast Calvary, which has one of the best Christian counseling programs in San Diego. I think there's usually counseling available. There's discipleships, there's small groups, there's community, there's life on life. My preference is, multi-generational life on life. The older men who were in my life that were in their 40s when I was a teen or when I was 20, and the sacraments. And I think the church does the local sacraments. I think the church is the institution that Jesus established. He said the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And I believe that God is moving and active through the local church. And I don't know, at your church and where you go, we've seen a huge uptake within the last year of just young men flooding back to church.
For sure. They're looking for morality and they're looking for mentorship and leadership. 100%.
Yes, and they're looking for truth. I think they're looking for something transcendent. I think we've tried the new atheist, secularism, and I think that's failed people. So that's what I would say a local church is. A good local church is the local Ekklesia gathering
so
of
let's
believers.
Let's separate those two, or I would love to separate those two for a second, because the biblical church is just the gathering, right?
The local ecclesial gathering. That's what that word in the Greek means.
So
is church.
It means gathering. It's just it's humans.
Yes, it's a civic word.
Yeah, it has nothing to do
within a gathering of people within a civic context.
It has nothing to do with the structures in the legal architecture that we built around it.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to see if we were on the same page.
And I would say that the structures in the legal architectures were built with the 1950s, that the local church and how it's functioned predates any legal IRS structures, and it's predated that, and that's probably why it doesn't fall into whatever 501c3b categories.
But we're protecting, which I want to get into. Most pastors with good intentions, like you said, will protect the quote unquote local church, but the local church is based off of an IRS set of rules, not the biblical set of rules. And we can get into exactly what those are. And when you go through them, what we see today as a quote unquote church or a religious institution is just a checklist by the IRS.
Yeah, or it's a system to file taxes, to keep in order, to keep structure. I don't think, are you saying all structures are bad?
No. I'm just saying.
You have some sort of corporation that you guys
run. We have many. What I'm
saying
is the legal architecture that we call a church today is not a biblical architecture.
Sure, people make the same exact argument about marriage, though, Nathan. People will say that piece of paperwork doesn't mean anything, and it's just there to, this is the red pill space, to position the woman and give her incentive to leave, right? And it's like, well, there are protections within the context of a legally binding marriage that actually do protect women in case they are abandoned. That's the overflow of it. And so having a legal entity or a legal structure isn't always a bad thing. It's often a good thing.
So the marriage license is to protect the woman?
That's why some of the licenses with regards to, like, you can't abandon a woman, different era and time, without alimony, restitution, or was it alimony, child support, right? So there are absolutely cases where you want to protect the woman and you want to protect people and vulnerable children, because if you don't have any sort of legal recourse, a dude can just bounce. And so we would say, would you say the legal marriage, is there something wrong with that? That's a bad institution, that's a bad structure legally?
I have problems with how it's tied to the state. Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like you have broader problems with institutions in general.
I have problems with legacy institutions because legacy institutions have to reform.
Okay.
If a legacy institution doesn't reform, as technologies creep in, as modernity creeps in, those systems corrupt.
But every institution gets corrupted at some point.
That's why you got to reform them. Correct?
People are evil. And
wait. So you agreed with me on Shawn Ryan? I said every institution corrupts eventually, and all your followers say, he's saying anybody who says every institution or makes these broad assumptions and statements is his statement's a failure. So right there, you just said every institution corrupts. So you agree with me?
No, hold on, back up. The gates of hell will not prevail against the church. Yes, do we agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the church,
Ekklesia, the body of Christ,
the body of Christ, which is small and large. It's in homes, it's in buildings, and we can get into the church history of it if you want to. But it is very diverse.
With the best scholars in the world on church history. So you should have watched The Religion Business.
You should have sent it to me. I asked you for it in January, and you never sent it to me.
I can't send free shows on via Amazon.
You had it before the Amazon. You could have sent me a screener.
Anyway,
you're not giving me a screener?
A raw copy of the show? No.
Oh, come on, man. I've gotten screeners from all sorts of documentaries and all sorts of films all the time. No, really, from Amazon. I got stuff in my Amazon right now that was just sent to me from
I don't know how to send free screeners from Amazon.
I'm saying it happens. So anyway, we don't have to nitpick on that. So what were we? We were talking about the institutional church. You're saying
that church will not, the gates of Hades will prevail.
The gates of Hades will not prevail. You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you agree that churches can be big and small.
I agree there's one church.
Okay. Can churches gather in small settings and large settings?
Can gatherings be large and small? 100%.
Okay. So churches can gather and can churches gather in big buildings?
If they want to.
Okay. So churches can gather in big buildings. They can gather in small buildings. They can gather in homes. This has been the historic church, yes?
The building is not the church.
Never said the building was the church.
Okay. Yeah, that is the historic church. It's an organism that flows through systems.
Sure.
And that's why Christianity flowed through Rome and took over Rome.
Sure.
Was because it was an organic organism that moved through walls, through systems.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. So you're now talking about, will systems eventually corrupt? Is that the
Correct.
question?
Man-made systems and architectures will always fail.
So man-made systems, because there's people that are sinful, will have issues all the time. Every system, every corporation, every business, every nonprofit. So because systems will corrupt, are you then saying that we should flee the systems? Because this is why we got in trouble.
I'm saying we need to reform the systems, and we need the systems to be as transparent and accountable as possible, especially the local church.
Okay.
The Christ-centered church should be the beacon of accountability and transparency. It should be the light to the world.
Amen.
Instead, it functions in the darkest legal architecture in the U.S.
Okay, so let's back up. You believe that systems do get corrupt.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. But you say we reform them from the inside.
Yes.
Okay. Do you feel like you're reforming them from the inside?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you send a $20 donation to somebody and then you show up to their church and demand to see all their books, you think you come off like a friendly person?
I didn't do that once.
You've never done that?
No.
You've never sent a small donation and asked to see the salaries of pastors?
I've called them.
Okay.
I've emailed them.
Okay.
I emailed their lawyers.
So you have?
I reached out. No, before I showed up, I have called them.
Okay.
For years.
Okay.
I sent them emails saying, hey, I don't like who I am, Nathan Apffel, making this show. I gave you a donation. I want to see where it goes. I call their general counsel saying, hey.
You just said you didn't, Nathan.
You said you give them a donation and then show up.
And then show up. Okay.
No,
so you never showed up, but you've asked.
There was months in between of due
You've given a
diligence,
donation.
sometimes years.
And you've asked to see their records.
Yeah.
Do you think that is someone that is acting as a friendly person within the church?
100%. I'm here to call the church back to its original mission. You don't need to like me. These pastors don't need to like me.
I actually do like you.
Yeah.
Personally, you seem like a good hang.
Yeah.
So it's not about liking you. I'm saying when Luther reformed the church, when the Reformation happened, he did it from within.
Guess what? The Vatican didn't like Luther either.
He didn't. But but what did he do? He did it from within the institution. He
walked outside and he printed copies of the 95 Theses.
Yes, and put them on the wall of the church that he was a part of.
That was distributed widely.
But what did he put them first?
He didn't say, I want to go talk to the Pope.
Where did he put them first?
He nailed it to the wall or the door of the cathedral.
He did it within the cathedral and within the system of the church.
That's
so
what
my question.
I'm technically doing.
So my question to you is, you demanding to see people's books.
I don't demand to see anybody's books.
Okay.
I said, hey, Ed Young, you've got $15 million in real estate. No one knows your housing allowance. Can we get some clarity on this?
Mm-hmm.
And what did he do? He sicked his armed guards because his lawyer wouldn't respond.
Mm-hmm.
That's
What
me
did you
going.
what did you want clarity on?
I want clarity on how a pastor can own $15 million in real estate, build a real estate empire off the back of donor dollars without the donors knowing what his housing allowance is.
Is it possible? I don't know Ed Young. I've never met Ed Young a day in my life. Is it possible? Is it possible that Ed Young had a book deal, had a best-selling book? Is it possible Ed Young had some side businesses? I'm asking. I don't know.
Ed Young paid himself $240,000 a year in a tax-free housing allowance in 2005. Now it's probably close to $1 million a year. That housing allowance covers the down payment on the home, the mortgage payments on the loan, real estate taxes, property taxes, utilities, furnishings, and appliances.
What's his total comps package?
No one knows.
Okay, so wait, so his housing allowance is $250K?
No, this was in 2005.
Okay, so $250K in 2005. Okay, cool. I
No,
think,
that's his housing allowance alone.
okay, so I think
not
that's
his clothing allowance.
I think that's a bit exorbitant. Do you think that reflects most pastors?
Every pastor plays by this rule book.
Wait. There's a difference between having parsonages and having allowances for housing to save on taxes. And do most pastors do this? That is my question to you. Do most pastors do this?
Take a housing? I don't know. No one knows.
Okay, well, so let me put it to you this way.
They play in the same game, though. So
It
what
doesn't-
Ed
it
Young
doesn't-
is doing,
But
any
have you
pastor
explored
can do.
have you explored why the game is there?
In regards to parsonages?
No, in regards to the entire IRS system and why churches don't have to file 990s.
Yes.
Why?
I spent 15 years on this.
so
In
what?
1913, the Congress defined the nonprofit sector and carved it out for one reason. 12,000 organizations in the U.S., which included churches, were building local social capital in their communities. They were doing one thing the federal government could not do, and that is help their local brother and their local neighbor.
Okay.
So the IRS carved out this nonprofit sector and said, hey, these 12,000 organizations are doing really good work in their community. We need to give them a special carve out where they don't have to pay taxes. And boom, nonprofit sector is formed. It's the
That's
Wild West.
nonprofit sectors. I'm talking about why the churches opt out of not having to do 990s. Why
The
they don't have
IRS
to-
does not require them to file a 990.
Why?
What's the, I don't know, what's the...
Religious freedom. I could
Well,
read you the
yes, of
cases
course, religious freedom.
because there's privacy regarding how the money comes in, who's giving the money, how the money is spent, and the separation of church and state protects the church
Dude,
from
all
the
your
state.
followers say there's no such thing as separation of church and state, Nathan. And so you can't, like,
What are you
I
talking about?
agree separation of church and
Okay.
state. But this is the byproduct of separation of church and state. The revival capital of the world, which is Kenneth Copeland's scam, which is straight
I
fraud.
don't like Kenneth Copeland. You're pointing out people I agree with you on.
Rhythm Church's annual
Oh yeah, I got it
impact
for you
report.
right here. Here, I brought you a copy.
Perfect. Can I see it?
Sure, you can see
Okay.
it.
So let's go through this. This is because you don't file 990s.
We don't file 990s.
You do?
We do not file 990s.
Cool. So this is a 56 or 64 page document. There's two,
I earmarked it for you where you could see
there's
it.
2 pages. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
There's 2 pages. Okay, so look at our giving statement. Read it out loud, please.
Your giving statement.
Not
What is it?
our budget. There's our annual budget right there.
No, this is your expense.
Expenses. That's our
1.2
annual budget.
million.
1.2 million.
Yes.
Okay, so read through it. What do we spend on
I
it?
have it printed out and marked. What's your revenue?
1.2 million.
No, this is your expenses.
That's our overall gross that came in for last year. 1.2 million.
So you spend
So this
every
year-
dollar that comes in.
So this year we have 400K in reserves, and we have 2 million that's coming in this year. Yes, I know my church's
This is not
books.
a financial report, though.
Yeah, this is what we provide to our church of what comes in.
Gotcha.
So read it.
I've read it. What
No,
does
read it
Jeff
right now.
Moores make?
I know what Jeff Moores make.
So what does he make?
That's none of your business.
Is that part of the $444,000 in salary?
Yes.
Or is it different?
No, it is.
You have 15 staff,
We have 15 staff.
and
We live in Southern California, the most expensive city in the country.
yes. So you pay $444,000 in income and benefits for 15
Yeah, I don't.
staff.
I think they do benefits on their own. I believe they do benefits
Oh, I
on
thought
their
it
own.
was earmarked in
No. The benefits. I think we can do benefits on our own. But there's
all
also-
salaries
you
for
have-
Rhythm Church employees as well as employee benefits are tucked into that.
Yeah. So there's some benefits, but I don't know what they do specifically for health insurance. We recently had this conversation.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that's our budget.
So see,
So and I brought it for you. This. But wait. That's available for any single person that
It
walks
is.
in.
I have it printed out
Yeah,
right here.
yeah.
But here's the problem: if you don't file a 990, you said 1.2 million in expenses. Is that your actual revenue?
Our revenue. I just told you the revenue, Nathan.
No, but this is what
Nathan,
I mean.
I just told you
a
the revenue.
990 is a legal document
so
with
listen,
data
listen,
fields
listen.
that are
And
described.
I could read you why the
this
church.
is just loose. You can't.
I
even
could read you
understand
why the
this.
government, right here, the federal government, loses, let me pull this out. The federal government does not require churches to file a 990 because it's a separation of church and state. That is why we don't file them. Purpose, annual 990 is an information return that most tax exemptions have to do. Churches opt out under the IRS 633. Churches, their integrated auxiliaries, and conventions or associations of churches are explicitly exempt from 990. This isn't a loophole. It's written into the federal government. Now, I want you to think about this, Nathan. There's 300,000 churches that are around. 300,000 churches. If all those churches,
It's closer to 400,000.
Okay, 400,000, 300 to 400,000. If they were all to file the 990, they would overload the IRS system, which is already wildly inefficient. I'm so serious.
The IRS, there is 1.9 million organizations registered with the IRS.
Yeah, and add another 400,000.
So somehow that overloads the IRS?
On top of the smaller churches.
You submit it via electronic form on your
On top
computer.
of the smaller churches that may not have the same access to accounting and budgeting
So
and
that's
CPAs.
your reason for not filing a 990 is it would
My reason
overload
is because the
IRS?
Supreme Court has ruled that the state must keep hands-off internal governance of religious bodies according to Hosanna Tzuber in 2012. Okay, that is why.
It'll be in my by my laptop.
Okay, so the reason churches existed long before the tax system. So they are recognized as tax exempt.
No, the tax system was around before then, but it was refining.
Yes.
Tax system reforms.
We didn't
constantly.
have federal taxes until 1910. Okay, so churches are automatically tax exempt.
Yes, I
they don't
understand
even
that.
have to apply for a 501c3 status. You know that.
I know that.
Okay,
and that's
so
what's
they're
even
tax
crazier.
exempt.
Ready?
This
so
is
here's-
this is
you don't
what.
wait. This is a big one. You don't have to apply for 501c3 tax status. So you are a ghost to the government. So if I was a congregant getting ripped off and I called the IRS or filed a complaint, the IRS doesn't even know that my church exists.
Sure. Yeah, but if you don't like that sort of system, don't be a part of that sort of system.
Definitely not.
The pastor. You said you go to church.
I visit a religious institution once a month. for
Tell
my
me how
daughter.
that works for you. How does your religious wait? Is it? Do you like it? Is it?
No, I can't stand it. It's the most annoying thing ever.
So you go to church. You said kind of for your daughter, and you kind of wanted to grow up in church, and that whole deal.
No, my fiance or my ex-fiance like to go there.
You still kind of go. It's good vibes.
Yeah, well, she was born and raised in mega churches in Southern California, so she liked that. But a couple of my friends, one of my friends was a big part of the church for a long time, and he's got daughters, and so we would.
And so do you?
We would go.
You still go regularly?
No, I can't.
So you no
church.
longer go to any sort of Sunday morning gathering. I'm assuming you're in like some sort of home church.
Yeah, I go to multiple home churches.
Okay.
Yeah,
Once a week, once every other week, once twice
every
a week.
2 weeks. 'Cause I
Once every
travel
2
so
weeks.
much. Yeah.
Okay. So you go to a home church. I got a buddy of mine that comes out of I won't say a mega church, but a decent sized church around here. He decided to go the direction of saying, hey, I think there's something beautiful in the home church. And he he was a pastor, built an entire business of doing wholesale real estate and said, yeah, I don't really want to go the direction of this. I'm going to go home churches. And they're crushing it. And they got maybe 20 different home churches all over North County, but he still loves the local church. He still is connected to a lot of the pastors here. That is a beautiful option for some people. I'm glad that that's awesomely working for you. And so if you want to get back into the tax code, I have the tax code for you and I could read you
I have
when all
the
this
literal IRS
Sure.
regulations
So do I.
guideline. Right
So
there.
do I. And so
where are we going? I want to go back to this budget though, because when you file an I-90, I have 990s from Samaritan's Purse, which I think is hilarious. They're not in there. Maybe I dropped them on the plane. But it is a legal document that you have to fill out. Revenue, expenses,
I understand what a
top
990 is.
salaries,
Yes.
and that organization is legally bound to that document.
Sure.
So if they lie on that document, they will get in massive trouble. Churches have no legal document that they're held to account for. And so what happens
legal held
is
to
you
account.
end up,
Hold on.
you end up with this cute pie chart.
It's a great chart. Show the chart. It's a chart.
It's a great
chart.
It looks like
Nathan.
something I would build in
Nathan,
10th grade.
It's a good chart.
It looks like, okay, 37%.
37% to staff.
15% outreach.
That's really good.
20% ministries. What is ministries?
What is
I can read
ministries?
it
Is
for you.
our
Ready?
blessed local event.
Funds dedicated to specific ministry programs and initiatives.
Yes.
With Rhythm Church, this includes youth ministry, adult ministry, worship ministry, and
Beautiful.
more. What is
beautiful.
it more?
And some of the outreach we do is the
So you
soup
spend
kitchens,
$250,000
the Christmas.
a year on this,
on-
but
yes.
no one knows where it goes.
I know where it goes. Because let me break it down for you, Nathan. Can I
You
help?
know it, so that's what matters. You and Jeff know where it goes.
Can I help you? Can I help you with this? There's a difference between accountability and transparency. Okay. So the church, any five, you know that, you understand that they have to have boards. Some people abuse these boards, some people don't, but they do have to have boards. You know that a pastor cannot assign his own salary. You know that.
He can. He doesn't need a board.
Can he legally assign his own salary? You know that they have to have boards.
They can wash those boards with his wife.
No.
I could say, hey,
can
my
he
wife and I.
legally assign his own salary? Yes
I would
or no?
actually say yes, because
Come
there's no
on,
way.
Nathan. If we were to pull up,
who's
you
to
know,
prove? Who's to
it's
prove
not about
that
who's
he
to
assigned
prove.
it?
I just said what is legally required by the IRS. A pastor cannot.
See, this
can you
is
just
where,
concede
this
that point?
is where
Can you just
churches love
concede
that
that
pastors
point?
love to go. They go, hey, Nathan, it's legal. I don't care if it's
Okay,
legal.
so-
I care if it's moral.
So let me get to the moral part.
Okay.
So legally, they have boards. You cannot assign your own salary. You should know that. Most people know that. You got to have a board. Sometimes that board is your local elders. Sometimes that board is people from the pastors in the area. Sometimes it's pastors from outside the area. Not really a fan of that model.
Who chooses the salaries for Rhythm?
We have a board
Who's on it?
I'm getting there. That consists of both elders and pastors within the area and some pastors outside of the area that assign everybody's salary.
Reasonable compensation. is what
Reasonable
they call it,
compensation based on best practices and based on the standards of what a pastor is supposed to make. That's how that is assigned.
Where do we find out what a pastor is supposed to make?
We could pull up ZipRecruiter and I could tell you the data. The average salary for a pastor is
I don't care about
$50,000 a year.
ZipRecruiter. I want to look to the Bible. Where do we find out what
We can
a
get
pastor
to the
should
we can
make?
get to the Bible. If you,
I only
if
care
you
about
want.
the Bible. I don't care about ZipRecruiter.
Sure.
I don't care about
I'm just
anything
telling you
else.
what the average salary is. Okay. So accountability and trust are not the same. A church is accountable.
Accountability and transparency are not the same.
Sorry, accountability and transparency are not the same thing. Church is accountable. They do have a board.
Church is accountable.
Churches are accountable
To who?
To their board, because pastors can't assign their own. So you can waive it off, but I'm telling you, this is how this is set up. They're often also accountable to outside boards, outside audits. The bigger the church gets, if they want to have a building campaign. We're trying to get into a building right now. We're renting a building. We're in an old Episcopalian church, which, by the way, not sure what you guys have planned today. I'd love to take you to church with me. I think you'd actually really love it right after this. We built an old Episcopalian building. We don't own it. We're trying to figure out a building situation. Because of that, we are going through external audits, and the bigger the church gets, the more scrutinized their books are. Okay, maybe you don't know this, but this is how it works.
I do know it.
Okay.
So here's my
hold on,
question.
let me finish.
Okay,
You ask a
don't
question.
belittle me and say you might not know this. I spent 15 years researching this.
Hey,
So let's talk about audits.
Hold on. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I did not mean to. That, like, for real. My bad.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want to do that with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Accountability and trust. Accountability and transparency. Not the same thing. Churches are accountable. You may say, I don't like their degree of accountability, but they are accountable. There are boards. This is legally required. You may say, I want more legal requirements. Now, transparency is built on the side of maturity and unity. Transparency is built on.
Transparency is public data.
Let me get there. Transparency is built on accountability, on trust, unity, and maturity.
Transparency has nothing to do with trust, bro.
Nathan.
Nothing to do with trust.
Nathan, you have one kid. I have two kids. Okay. If I spend more on my 10-year-old's birthday than I spend on my 4-year-old's birthday, do I need to be transparent on all the details about my finances with my kids?
I'm so lost with this analogy.
I'm asking
We're
you.
talking about transparency and accountability.
Transparency.
I'm not talking about your own child.
Okay.
It's your money. We're talking about, because we've talked about religious architecture and legal architecture. We're talking about legal entities.
Yes. So legal
corporate entities.
Legal corporate entities. So what I'm telling you is when I worked in the nonprofit sector with adults with developmental disabilities, as a young, struggling, in-debt man.
I've heard this. I know what you're going to say.
And I found out with the salary of my president and the vice president, and I was making $15 an hour, like $12 an hour. I was frustrated. I was angry. I didn't feel like they should have been making that much. On the other side of being a 40-year-old now with a family and a kid and a business, I think they were probably undercompensated for the amount of work they did. Okay, I don't know how much you make. But
I'm going to say a pretty big statement here. I don't care if Stephen Furtick makes $40 million a year. The only thing I care about is that his donors know he makes it.
Okay, so let me get there. I don't know what Stephen Furtick makes. Okay, I'm trying to get you somewhere. So what I'm saying is maturity prevents people from being able to receive all the information. The young men at our church who are struggling, they're getting off their feet. Okay, if they found out my pastor makes 6 figures, okay, or whatever my pastor makes, that then creates because they're in a different season of life. They haven't figured out how to develop themselves in a career. That is going to create resentment in a context where someone is doing life on life.
You're making such a big excuse.
I'm not making an excuse. I'm not making an excuse.
Be able
This is why
rebuttal
corporations,
his or her
listen to me, Nate.
salary.
This is why corporations don't reveal what everybody makes.
Yes, they do. For-profit, publicly traded companies.
Okay.
If I'm a stockholder in that
Yes.
company, I know I can find out where every dollar goes.
Okay.
If I donate to a nonprofit, a secular
you
nonprofit,
have to-
via
hold on,
990, let me
hold on.
finish. I can find out where every dollar goes.
You can find out where every dollar goes,
If
and you
I
find
am-
out the top salaries.
Yes? Sure.
But you don't find out the dude next to you is making $20 an hour because he's
Yeah.
more qualified, and the person you're
That's
making
other
is 50.
employee- other employee compensation.
And so why is that a thing? Why do we not reveal everything to everybody? Are you saying that nonprofits are not transparent?
990s are
Okay.
there to hold
But,
the leadership accountable.
But I think we're
leadership.
Hold on. Nathan.
Ruslan.
I thought we were transparent absolutists. I thought everybody needed to know everything about everything.
No, dude, I'm saying the 990 is the benchmark for the nonprofit sector.
Yeah.
Churches should play at that at bare minimum.
Churches
I have a question
churches
for you.
are
You said-
opted out
you said that
because of
15
government
you said that
overfence.
the kid making $15 an hour or whatever would be jealous of the head pastor's salary.
Yes. Do you not know any kids that are making $15 an hour? When was the last time you spent some time with just young men?
Why, in God's name, would I personally think it's flipped? I think some of these pastors can't justify their salaries.
I think it's the opposite. I think you'd be shocked at what pastors actually do, how much they actually work, and what they make in comparison to whatever is
I know
happening.
lots of pastors.
Uh-huh.
I know what they do.
And most of
I know
them
how much they make.
And most of them are underpaid or overpaid.
Well, I do have a question about one of your stats. You said on Shawn, you gave this stat. You said
Hold on, you didn't answer my question. Hold on.
this is a question about
No, come on. Do you think most of them are
you
underpaid
said
or
an
overpaid?
average pastor salary is $58K. Does that include bivocational pastors in the U.S.?
47% of pastors are bivocational.
Yes. So does that $58,000 salary include those 47% bivocational
That's
pastors?
the median salary of a pastor. So take off the ones that are on the very bottom, the ones on the top.
No, I understand. But does that include bivocational pastors that have another job?
It's the average. So some of them might make 50 and do have another job because they need to make more. They might
Gotcha.
need
So
to
that
run-
number is a skewed data point because you used it against
you
used it against teachers saying, oh, they made $74,000 a year.
Yeah, and they get summers
Teachers have a full-time job
And they get summers off.
They don't have a second job.
And they get summers off.
See, you should. Episode 7 in the religion business is about bivocationality.
Okay, and I think that is a great model. Just like I think the home church is a great model. Hey, Nathan, just like I think there's congregational churches that reveal everything to everybody, and I think that could be a model for some people. The pastor that married me and my wife, Southern Baptist pastor. I know you have your own qualms with the Southern Baptist, but they're generally congregational.
Oh, no, I think there's some great people there. Yeah.
And they reveal everything to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that is a model that works for some churches. And I think other churches don't use that model and because they don't have to and they have their own reasons. And so transparency, again, built on trust and maturity. Not everyone is mature enough to know everything. If you don't
Transparency
think...
and trust do not go hand in hand. You know that, right?
You're cutting me off. Not everyone is mature enough to know all the details about the affairs of the house. Not everything has the capacity to understand the nuances and the idiosyncrasies of what it's like to be a 45-year-old man.
That's an
with
excuse.
a family and a wife, and what it's like to be a 20-year-old dude renting a room while you're figuring out your life. Not everyone has the maturity to understand it. This is common sense.
Not
Everybody
everyone
knows
has
that.
the maturity to understand Elon Musk is the richest man in
Yes,
the world.
we're not talking about Elon Musk. So
we're talking about leadership.
So
he could argue why he deserves his salary.
Yeah, I
package.
don't care to be
But that's
an Elon Musk apologist. So this is what I'm getting
saying
to.
you're saying you're belittling young adults, saying they don't have the maturity to understand why this pastor should make this much money. There's no transparency in that.
But
you're
listen,
saying, no, trust,
no,
Nathan. And that's the problem with the institutional church.
Nathan,
it's all about trust us, trust us.
I'm saying, in the context of where you're doing life on life with someone every single week, it is not a healthy dynamic for folks that are struggling and they're getting off their feet and they're just starting their lives to know what every single person and on staff or the highest earners in the church make. I'm saying that is beyond reasonable. Now, let me put it to you this way.
So it's reasonable to know the pastor's salary.
Can I get to my point?
You've been
I did not
talking.
say that. I did not say that.
Okay.
What I said is it is not healthy for everyone in the church to learn everything about everyone in the church's salary, because sometimes they lack the maturity and sometimes they don't have the unity. Now, let me put it to you this way. Nate, I'm one of the biggest givers at my church. Okay, I'm unified to the vision of the church. I'm giving, and I'm mature enough, and I understand what ministry is. I've been in ministry for several years. I understand how hard it is, okay? Do you think if I were to walk into my church tonight and ask to find out everyone's salaries, they would give it to me?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Because you have vested interest in that church.
Exactly. And so when you...
So every donor has vested interest. That kid who only makes $15 an hour, who gives $10 a Sunday has vested interest.
No. Nate, when you reach out to churches, because you gave a $20 donation.
I've never given a $20 donation.
Okay, $10 donation.
I've never given
a $100 donation. You made one donation.
I made multiple.
And you made multiple $100 donations. Okay. And now you're saying, hey, I want to see your books. I want to know what everybody makes. You do not have
No, I don't care what everybody makes.
I want to know what the salad pastor makes.
Each church I went after, this is where the religion business is educational. I found specific examples of loopholes in that IRS tax code that you pulled up. And I said, these are where the majority of tens of billions disappear every year. I want to find examples of those.
Okay. And we can get into the tens and billions stat that you threw out there if you want, because that was an estimate, not a real stat. But
all of yours are estimates, bro. You don't even know. Like I said, 58,000. Does that include bivocationality?
I told you 47% of pastors are bivocational. I already gave you that.
But then
number.
you said 50. So I said, is that 58K?
Yes. The average. I gave you the median salary of pastors.
All my stats
Some of
come
them
from
make
Stanford.
30.
I'll give you the
Okay.
link. So,
and I provided you all the stats for the sources for my stats. So what I'm saying,
when did you provide those?
I read them off on the Shawn Ryan podcast. You want me to give them to you now?
Oh yeah. I wrote those down.
I give you those.
The study banks. Yeah,
the study banks. So what I'm saying is, if the average pastor is making $57,000 a year,
58.
Okay, thanks, 58,000 a year, and you're saying that there's all these loopholes, is it possible that perhaps you are pointing out some loopholes that there may be some abuses somewhere? At the same time, most pastors are not abusing the system. Most pastors are not making multiple six figures with, $250,000 housing allowances and all that stuff. Is it possible? And so now what's happening is, again, back to the very beginning of this conversation, hasty generalization fallacy. We're taking too small of a sample size and we're now extrapolating it. And now there's young men who are looking at their pastor side-eyed. They're looking at their church side-eyed because they're saying, hey, I want to know everything.
They're looking at their religious institution side-eye. Every church plays by the same legal architecture that Kenneth Copeland plays by, that Ed Young plays by, that Mike Todd, Stephen Furtick.
Slow down. Yes, every church takes advantage of the taxes that were there for them. 1950s is when the 501c3b was established. The churches predate that, and they take advantage of whatever legal ways they can go about it. Every church does that. Now, every church does not do what you're describing, because I just pointed out there are congregational-led churches that are fully transparent.
No, see, this is where you are looking through rose-colored glasses. You talked about Southern Baptist, Second Baptist in Houston.
Okay,
is a congregant-led church. They just
Nathan,
rewrote their bylaws overnight in a dark room
that's
kicked.
Bad. That's bad.
But they can legally do it.
Okay, that's bad. But what I'm telling you is, listen to me. What I'm telling you is, you're pointing to the fringe and you're saying, see, this church did it, and therefore the entire system. It is no different than what we saw happen with Black Lives Matter. Hey, this police officer misbehaved. Bad. George Floyd. Bad. Ahmaud. Bad. Hey. 8 can't wait. Let's figure out policies to fix this. Versus saying the entire system is corrupt. It's all systemic racism. Burn down the system.
This legal system is broken.
Okay.
It is a non-transparent. You said transparency demands trust. That is unity. That is totally unity. Two words
transparency.
Run in polar opposition to each other.
Transparency demands unity and maturity. Okay, you are not transparent.
Transparency demands unity and maturity. Should we read the definition of transparency? Because I guarantee you,
I'm not talking about the definition. I'm saying
it doesn't demand either, bro.
No. I'm giving you an example of how transparency works in the real world. I am not transparent about every detail of my health journey on social media. However, my wife...
You don't need to be. It's your own.
Yes. However, my wife knows. I'm using a metaphor, okay? So with the idea of transparency, okay, there are times and places that some people get access to certain things within some context. If you want to be at a church that's congregational-led, I would say, praise God. Go join a church where everything is transparent. Pour your life into that church. Give to that church.
It's a legal corporation in the U.S. that's enjoying tax benefits.
And they should, should, because they predate any nonprofit organizations, and they should enjoy those tax benefits.
Churches actually were they originally collected taxes.
And they should.
Because the church was the safest place to hold taxes.
And they should keep the IRS out of their business, and they should keep the government out of their business. They absolutely should do all of those things. If someone says, man, I'm with Nathan, this is a stumbling block for me, I'd go, okay, here are other options for you. You can go join a congregational-led church. And yes, you're pointing to awful situations of them changing. That's wrong. That's bad. Go join one of those and be a part of it and be engaged and give and pour your life into it, or go join a home church like you have. Pour your life into it, meet every other week. That is awesome. Or you can go join a different type of church. We're churches that are bigger. There's 1,800 mega churches in America. That's 2,000 or more people. Oftentimes have external audits, oftentimes have more strenuous boards, oftentimes have more checks and balances because they have more resources to have people oversee their books.
Let's talk about the audits. So this is where it gets fun. So a secular nonprofit that files a 990, they can hire an outside auditing firm. That outside auditing firm will take their P&Ls, their bank statements. They'll take that 990. They'll aggregate all of it. They'll find problems with it. They'll say, hey, this is a pretty solid organization. Churches have no legal document that they're held to account for. What does that mean in regards to the documents that they give that auditor? Because the auditor will look at that document and say, I'm going to take this on its face value as true. I can download my bank statements right now as an editable Excel and edit any data fields I want.
Okay.
And then I can take that and turn it around to an auditor. And then that church can say, hey, we got this audit. There is no legal document that they're held to account for.
But you know what could happen though, Nate, is the same folks that if you push them to do the 990s, they could do the same thing. They can just lie and cheat. If a church wants to lie and cheat, bro,
but
they're
that's
gonna
a
lie and cheat.
legal document that they're held to account for at that moment.
As well as legal boards where they say they can't assign their own salaries. I'm using the same. You got to work with me, bro. You're saying, hey, there's these legal documents they're accountable to. I'm saying yes, and then there's legal standards for nonprofits where they cannot assign their own salaries. A pastor cannot do that. You're waving one away, even though there's a same.
Waving what away?
Like you're like waving it away. Like
I'm saying everything's malleable because there is no legal document that they're held to account for.
But there's still checks and balances, and there's still legal requirements.
Who's
of how
on the board
they go.
of Rhythm Church?
It doesn't matter who's on the boards.
That's the problem.
It doesn't matter who's on the boards.
In the secular world, those boards are public knowledge. Because guess what? If they're stacked with you, if Chris, you and I all had churches in North County and we all sat on each other's boards, you better believe we would probably start leaning in the bias of saying, hey, we all work really freaking hard. We deserve a bit more. And since all of us are buddies scratching each other's backs, we would push that. That is, the boards are an absolute joke in churches.
But you're starting with the presupposition that they are an absolute joke.
They are.
And you're starting with the presupposition of a hyper skeptic
because everything is dark and you say, Nathan, transparency is a good thing. It's unity and trust, which it's not.
It is though. When I said transparency is anchored on maturity and unity. So
transparency is based on being transparent.
Transparency is anchored. You don't share everything with everyone.
How is transparency based on unity?
Say you're struggling. Say you're struggling. Remove just the church for a second. Say you're struggling. God forbid you're dealing with something.
Yeah.
You had a relapse. I don't know. Whatever your vices were. Okay. You're not transparent about that on Instagram.
We're talking about church finances. I could care less about Instagram.
I just said suspend your belief for a second.
No, let's stay in the realm of finance, please.
So I'm getting there.
Okay.
Suspend your belief for a second about that. Just say you're not transparent about everything with everyone. You probably have I think probably some solid men of God in your life. Your buddy Chris seems like a great guy. That there's probably some trustworthy people who have unity and are mature enough to know when Nathan is struggling that you can open up and share specific details.
But that is not personal relationship. We're talking about the legal architecture of a corporation that takes in donor money.
Now,
two different worlds.
Now, what I'm saying is when you're taking in donor money, the only difference is there are boards that are, according to the tax code, well within the legal framework to establish to keep those checks and balances.
There's many differences. You're talking about a personal relationship between a friend and I.
Well,
we're talking about a legal corporation that has overhead, expenses,
the church
revenue needs.
But the church predates any legal corporation. We just talked about that. That didn't get established until the 1950s.
We're talking about transparency in regards to corporate structure.
So what I'm saying is 1950 is when the 501c3b was founded. That is when that started.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's when the 14-point checklist was
prior to that.
Yes.
Prior to that, we didn't have that. So churches have always functioned outside of any government regulation in America. That's how it's always been. So now you're saying, hey, you need to go and file these things for the nonprofit, just like any secular nonprofit. And I'm saying there's a reason why they don't have to do that. There's good reasons. Keeping the government out of the church's business is one of them. Privacy of the records and who's giving and how much are they giving and where's the money coming from.
Where is any of that in the Bible?
The Bible, we could get into the Bible if you want to talk about the Bible.
Where does it talk about privacy of records? Where does it talk about?
But that's an argument from silence, Nathan, and you know it. That's an
I don't even know
argument
what that means.
silence.
No.
You don't know what an argument from silence is?
No, that is me saying if we're Christians and Christ followers, I will point to scriptures as opposed to pointing to lax laws in the U.S. to justify my actions.
As a Christian, point to me where you can make $100, $200 donations and then pull up or email a church and ask them to see the pastor's salary. What scripture?
In the scriptures?
Yeah, what scripture do you have?
Christ talks about being the light constantly.
That's not.
He talks about give to Caesar what's Caesar's, give to God's what's God's.
Yes.
Like Christ is the beacon of transparency and accountability.
Okay.
And you're giving excuses for not being transparent.
No. I'm not giving excuses. What I'm saying, just so we're clear, this isn't transparency versus non-transparency. What I'm saying is,
what is it then?
What I'm saying is, there's a plethora of ways to participate in a local church. There's a plethora of ways. You can pick a home church. You could pick a congregational at church. You can pick an elder
You're not
at
going
church.
to the foundation though. You keep on going out to these examples of churches. All of them still play as soon as you file for 501c3 tax exemption. You play by the same rule book.
I understand, and
you've already agreed that every institution corrupts eventually.
So we don't burn down the institutions, Nathan. We don't say, hey,
I'm not saying burn them down. I'm saying bring transparency and accountability into them.
Yes,
and guess what?
And
the
I'm
wolves
saying,
will be exposed very quickly.
And what I'm saying is accountability and transparency aren't always the same thing. There is accountability built in right now. And most churches, right now, there's accountability built in right now.
No, it's faux accountability.
But again, you're assuming
there's
that.
no legal document that you can be held to account
You're
for.
assuming
You're a very
that.
good orator. You're good at speaking. You're good at explaining your position, like most pastors. What happens is
I wasn't expecting a genuine compliment like that.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, thanks, man.
People can position their way out of legitimate arguments, and the legitimate argument is there is no legal document you as a religious organization are held to account for, and since there's no legal document. It is all smoke and mirrors.
Why? Can you steel man to me why churches don't have to file 990s? I've said it to you multiple times. Why?
Dude, I've done the research.
Can you steel man for me why churches cannot file? They don't have to.
Why don't they
don't have to file 990s?
Because of separation of church and state.
Okay.
Yes.
And why else?
Why else? Because the government carved out the nonprofit sector because they were building local social capital.
Okay, no. You just conflated nonprofits with churches. I'm specifically
They're the same
speaking
thing.
about
One
churches.
is just religious exemptions tacked on top.
You think all charities are the same as all churches?
Charities, the nonprofit sector is one big lump. And then inside that body, it's like the nucleus is
but they're not
the
one and the
religious
same.
exemptions.
They're different institutions with different purposes and different
Yes,
things
but
that
I'm
they're
saying
executing.
legally,
But they're very not.
they're
Yes,
structured
I understand
from a
they're
high
the
level
same.
the same.
Yes, and then we've also agreed that there are churches that opt out and go full on for profit. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I want to say Hillsong had a whole full profit arm. The churches that don't have to file anything.
Well, that's a scam we can get into because you read about it, the associations, auxiliaries, and conventions. That's a scam that needs to be torn down because you're right. Churches are now starting for-profit investment vehicles cloaked as churches.
Yes, but I wasn't talking about that. I mean, that sounds super sketch, and I probably agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about churches that have record companies and build entire media companies. And
do you think a record company should be a church?
No.
Cool.
I would say keep that stuff separate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's and that gets really weird in terms of like what is and isn't for profit. But that's what I was referring to. If you're talking about investment holdings and that's above.
Oh, there's life insurance.
Yeah.
There's some churches that my
MLMs. Is that where you're going?
My good buddy and man in the trenches, cowboy in the trenches, Chris is about to expose. I'll tell you right now, there's major churches in the U.S. invested in the profits of war and death.
That's awful.
Yeah,
and
they're going to be exposed in the next 60 days. So get ready, guys, because there are churches that will, from the pulpit, say life is valuable, spread Jesus as they're making hundreds of millions in profit during war.
Yeah, that's terrible. I don't know anything about that. If you know more about that, that's fine.
And that is those auxiliaries, conventions,
you have
and associations.
your CIA connects.
Yeah.
No,
but this is just standard IRS
standard stuff. Yeah.
Like, this is just standard what you were talking about in the 50s.
Yeah.
And then in the 60s and 70s, because churches kept on lobbying Congress to add language in front of church. Mm-hmm. So church used to be a singular definition, which was already gray because of separation of church and state. The government can't define what a church is. The LDS church, the Mormon church, lobbied for the word auxiliary to be put in front. And auxiliary, if church is gray, auxiliary has no definition. And then
how much of this do you think is maybe impacted by like you being in Utah and it sounds like you?
I just moved to Utah.
Okay, but you've covered the Mormon stuff, which is fairly different than how mainline evangelical churches function.
No, they're just the epitome of it.
Yeah, they're like mandatory tithing, sort of stuff.
Yeah, mandatory tithing, but they've just figured out the business model. Yes. I tip my hat to them. They've created a massive financial Well, hey, like you were saying, hey, it's legal. They say the same thing. Nathan, this is legal. We should be
I think the mandatory tithing is a little weird. I think that's weird.
Can we go down the tithing rabbit hole? Because I think
no. Let me just say this. I'm all for transparency to the congregation.
But we have to agree on transparency. We have to agree on the definition. Trust and transparency are not the same
let me
thing.
just get this out, and then you can pick it apart. All for transparency. Forcing churches to file government-issued financial reports crosses into state oversight of religion.
Federal oversight.
Federal oversight of religion. By state, I mean the government. Okay, not the local state.
Yeah.
Churches are constitutionally distinct from secular nonprofits. That is a fact because they are houses of worship, not public charities.
Yeah.
They are not public charities. They answer to their congregants, not the state. There's multiple ways you can establish ways to answer to your congregants. Transparency is a moral responsibility, not a government mandate. That's the issue that people have with this whole, the government, we got to tell the government, we got to tell the IRS. Many of us, Nathan, are skeptical of the government. I think the government's wildly inefficient. I think if they had another 400,000 990s filed, who knows what that could do to the system when they're already struggling to just be basically functional as IRS agents.
The 990 is strictly a legal document that the corporation could be held to account for. You lie on that document, you can get in trouble.
Okay, so healthy churches disclose to members.
No, this is not disclosure, bro.
That is totally a disclosure.
This is not disclosure, guys.
The government's role is to investigate actual fraud and not to audit what the church is doing with their finances. That's the government's role. You say, hey, that's not disclosure. I think that's fine. I think that's beyond fine. I think anyone that's reasonable, if they walk into my church and they go, hey, I want to know what's the money being spent on? And we go, here you go. 30, what is it? 39% goes to staffing.
Yep. So
how much is
37 goes to staffing, including benefits, which that number doesn't make sense from a.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Because that's $444,000 spread across 15 full-time employees, which includes benefits. That's an average of like $29,000 salary.
We have part-time folks. My pastor doesn't make sense.
So I'm sitting here looking at this going, man, that doesn't make sense. Most of your congregants are probably sitting there going, this doesn't make sense either.
Why doesn't it make sense to you? I'm really puzzled because you think we're not spending enough on staffing?
No. Well, I don't know. Like, are you underpaying your employees per your own argument?
When people go into ministry, they're not going after a money grab, Nathan. Yeah. They're going because they feel called.
I agree.
To
Most
do ministry.
people go into it with good intentions and they get eaten by the system.
And including my pastor and including 95% of pastors I know go in with good intentions and they don't get eaten by the system. Let's say, they reform the system from the inside.
So you're spending about $150,000 on operations. And this is as if I went to your church and I donated constantly or tithe per your pastor believes in tithe. If I did that and I said, man, we spent $150,000 on teams, events, development, and other day-to-day operational needs, like what are we spending money on?
We do nights out for our volunteers. We take care of them. We give them gift cards.
Yes, you see what I mean, though? Like, these simple breakdowns.
But Nathan, you're asking me a question.
Yeah.
And as someone that, again, is deeply embedded in my church and understands how much is in reserves right now, how much we need to get a building, how much everybody makes, what the budget is going to be for this year. I'm answering all your questions. Why?
No, you're not. You're saying, oh, we did an outing. So you spent $150,000 on an outing?
No. We do regular events for volunteers. We do regular things where people volunteer appreciation night, volunteer giving night. We put together all sorts of stuff just to care for the volunteers, gift cards, that sort of stuff. We take care of our people, Nathan. So within that, I'm saying, hey, I have more access because I am more unified and I'm mature enough to know what's going on.
You're unified to what?
To the cause and the vision of the local church at Rhythm Church. And by the way, if I were to pick up the phone and call some of the same guys that you maybe want their numbers from or salaries, they would tell me.
Yeah.
They would tell me why. Because I'm unified in the vision.
A certain tier of giving that now.
No. I'm talking about,
you get a little more information.
I'm talking about folks who know my heart for the local church and I don't give there.
So hold on.
But do you understand my point though?
I hear you. I don't agree with it.
I didn't ask if you agreed with me. I'm just saying
I hear
understand.
You. Yeah.
As someone is more unified to the vision of something and they show maturity, they then get more access. This is how it works in a family budget. My wife gets to see all of the money that goes in and out, every single dollar.
So the more unified you are, the more access you get.
The more unified you are, and the more mature you are, the more you show yourself trustworthy, and you get access. Yes, my 10-year-old doesn't know how every dollar is spent in my house because he doesn't have the maturity. My sister-in-law,
so the smaller donors don't get access.
That is not what I said. I said
you
my
said
10-year-old.
once you hit a certain tier.
No.
Yeah.
What I said is my 10-year-old doesn't get the same access because he doesn't have the same maturity.
Why are you equating? You make these really bizarre equations of a 10-year-old equals someone who doesn't get access because of this. I'm talking about donors that actually give and finance Rhythm Church.
Because of maturity. Because the dude that just came out of a traumatic military experience, who has PTSD, he's struggling. The church has now taken him. We've provided care for him. We've gotten him therapy. We've gotten him counseling. He is not in a season of life where he's the same way I wasn't. And I'm just being honest with you. I wasn't. As a 25-year-old dude who came from a bunch of trauma and a bunch of baggage, I wasn't mature enough to know that my pastor.
Should say, hey, let's sit down. I want to explain how this business works.
Yeah, and as
instead, you're like, no, they're not mature enough.
No. That's not what I said. And as
that is what you said.
No.
Yes, you said my child's not mature enough. The people making $15 an hour aren't mature enough. I'm using your words.
I said, as I consistently showed myself to be faithful, I got more access.
What is faithful? Faithful in giving?
Faithful in serving, faithful in giving, faithful in walking out and being a member of the church and not disappearing for 6 months at a time, faithful in being present in a part of the body, as I am consistently in the
not
church.
President of the body. You're building an institution.
Okay, let's pause the institution conversation for a second, because you keep going back to that, and we can get into institutions.
That is what the religion business is.
I understand. We can get to the institutions.
Yes.
I'm specifically right now, me and you are trying to unpack this idea of transparency, and I'm saying that not all transparency and accountability is the same for everybody. You might say, Ruslan, I hate that. And I would say, man, I understand.
In a corporate structure, transparency is needed.
And I would say, I understand how you come to that conclusion. I understand how you come to that conclusion. What I'm saying is now you're taking your conclusion and you're making it dogma in an absolutist sense for all churches everywhere. Every church now has to file a 990 because Nathan
there needs
said
to
so.
be legal structure and safeguards on corporations.
And there is, and they
No,
can't
there's
assign.
not.
And they
What is
have to have,
what is one legal safeguard baked into religious organizations?
I gave you one though.
Board of directors?
Board of directors. You can't
Who's
assign
on
your
your
own
board?
salary. You can't assign your own salary. It doesn't matter who's on my
See,
salary.
that-
I'm not going to
so
tell you
you're
what
not
pastor.
here
I'm not going
the
to tell you what my
fallacy there.
pastor makes either.
See, so
I know I know who's on our
it
board.
goes back to your idea.
I know who's on our board.
Transparency is trust and unity. No,
Yes.
it's not. Transparency is transparency. Transparency is, hey,
Okay.
who's on your board? You should say, Nathan,
Let me
here's
give
who
you-
was on
let
my
me-
board.
let me give
Nathan,
you-
that is transparency.
Let me give you an example of how transparency goes wrong. Okay, with your 990 example.
Sure.
I got a friend that runs a pro-life organization. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's awesome. She founded this organization when she was early 20s, late teens. The amount she makes, I think, is very fair for the type of company she runs.
Yeah.
Okay. That information is taken and consistently weaponized against her.
Okay.
Instead of saying, hey, I as a giver, by the way, people who don't give to the organization, as a giver to the organization, I'm ecstatic exactly what she makes, and I hope she makes more. And I want her to make more. I want my pastor to make more. I want people who do good work and usher in goodness and beauty to be well compensated. We can go to the scriptures for that if you want to know why.
Oh, no. I don't want to know why. I want to have a conversation with you about it.
Sure. So, and that's what we're having. We're having a conversation. We're pushing back, and
Yeah.
you're waving off some of my points. I'm waving off some of your points. It's fun. So what I'm saying is that information of the publicly available 990, this person is salt of the earth. Amazing person. They live in one of the most expensive zip codes in the country.
Okay.
Not because they choose to, because that's where they're from. This is their home.
Yeah.
And not everybody is mature enough to understand her salary, why she makes a salary. And that right now in real time on X is being taken and being blasted and being used to attack her. Her salary.
Okay, she should be able to argue why she deserves that salary.
Yeah, she
in
should.
a public forum.
She should. And that what I'm saying is in a local church context, these aren't people on X. This is in a local church context where you have people in all sorts of seasons of life. You have people that are going through all sorts of mental health issues. You have people that are jealous, man. They do have envy. They are struggling.
Sure.
Okay. So in that context,
Human nature.
totally, I'm with you. In that context, not everyone should know everything about the pastor's salary. Why is that unreasonable to me? Why is that reasonable to you?
Because you just said, you've painted it very clearly. This is a business, a corporation. Your friend should be able to argue her salary and benefits.
And she does to her board.
Should be able. No. She files a 990, right?
She files a 990, which her salary is established by a board, an independent board, based on what's best practices.
Forum, she should be able to argue her salary.
She should.
Just like I should be able to argue mine. Chris should be able to argue his. You should be able to argue yours.
If we're running nonprofits, you mean?
Nonprofits or publicly traded companies.
Or publicly traded companies.
Because we are using donations or resources from our investors
Yes.
to build this.
Yes.
Ruslan, man, it's
all
so
good.
baked into my head, bro.
It's all good, bro.
If you've poured all your resources into this studio,
Mm-hmm.
you are risking your own capital and sweat equity to build this.
Mm-hmm.
So that is all you. As soon as you start taking money from other people to build something, you either have shareholders or stakeholders.
I understand.
At that point, those organizations need to be liable to the shareholder and the stakeholder. This includes religious organizations. Now, the government, I don't think the government should get involved in churches. I think governments are I think the US government is very bad at managing money. With that said, an informational 990 sheet is strictly a legal document that a church and its leadership can be held to account for in case its congregants or donors feel they're being taken advantage of.
Okay.
That is the missing link
so-
in the entire religious exemption
Sure.
sector is a legal document.
Sure. And so you're saying they should provide it so that the congregants can hold the
Can
church
hold
accountable.
the church accountable. 100%.
What if the congregants of the church don't care? What if they don't? What if they're not asking for a 990? Why are you?
That's the most unbiblical thing I've ever heard.
That's another argument from silence.
Why
are
always point to the scriptures to argue Christ-centered principles.
Why are you, as an outsider, dictating what other churches should do for their own congregations?
I've said I don't care what they do as long as the information is public.
If the congregants, the people that are giving, don't care for the 990, they don't care to know what the pastor makes. If some of them found out what the pastor made, it would be too much. If some of them found out, it would be too little. I personally think my pastor doesn't make enough. I personally think most pastors don't make enough. Why does it matter if they do or don't file 990s to you?
Because the collective Christian institutional church has dumbed down Christianity in America and watered it down to the point where you have a bunch of sheep sitting in your pews now, not caring about anything outside of the entertainment on the stage. And
Nate,
they don't. 13% of Christians have read the Bible.
Okay.
I go to so many.
6% have a biblical worldview, according to the latest Barnes.
I go to so many churches and I hear 1 to 2 scripture verses tucked in to the most watered down, vomitous sermon.
I can't speak to so many churches.
Yeah.
I'm only speaking
I go to different churches almost every other week.
I'm speaking to my church.
Yeah.
We've been in the book of Acts all year, verse by verse. Okay. So before that, we did Ephesians. I think we did Ephesians. So we teach people, we teach hard truth. We equip people. We send people out into their real lives to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Christians are more than 2.5 times more likely to adopt than non-Christians. Christians give 700 average non-Christian gives. The average Christian gives 3,000.
We've always said Christians are the most generous population in the world, and they're being most taken advantage of.
Most generous, most likely to adopt, least likely to get divorced, practicing Christians that go to church, least likely to die of suicide or deaths of despair.
Yeah.
Okay? So you keep saying like the system is broken, the system is broken, the system is
I
broken.
gotta stop you right
Hold
there,
on,
though.
let me finish this.
No, you said, this is a big point. You threw a bunch of stats out and you said because of the church. It's not because of the church.
Why is it not because of the church?
It's because of the gospel and the message of Christ.
That is established and sent out through the local church. Jesus said the gates
is not
of hell.
The local church. We've already affirmed this.
The gates of hell will not prevail.
The Ekklesia, the organic organism that flows through systems.
It flows through systems and isn't corrupted because of systems.
So those stats,
a marriage is not corrupt because there's a system there. A marriage is not corrupt because there's a legal document there, Nate. A marriage is still a marriage when God has united two people as one. A church is still a church.
So you agreed with me on that one.
Listen to me. A church is still a church, even if they take advantage of the tax code as they should. And they should.
A church is not a church.
Yes, a church is a church.
Do you think
a
the
local
institutional
church,
corporation is a church?
A local church that files as a 501c3b is a church.
No, it's a corporation. It doesn't
what
say
is the word
501c3 church on the top. It says corporation on the top.
What is a local church?
The local church is the body, the people.
No. That's the capital C church.
No, now you're getting into this weird lowercase, big case.
Let's. Do you want to jump into the Greek? Because the Greek means something specific. It means a local gathering. Does it not?
That's what I have said.
Okay, so a local gathering is the people that gather, and sometimes they gather in homes, and sometimes they gather in big groups.
That's the Ekklesia,
the moment they could be in buildings, they were in buildings because Christianity was outlawed. So there's always been churches, there's always been people gathering in homes and big gatherings, outdoors, indoors, Solomon's court. Okay, so a church, just because it takes advantage of whatever legal code, that doesn't mean that it's corrupted.
No, the corporation is taking advantage of the legal code. The church, the body, is not the one taking advantage of it.
So is my marriage not a marriage because we filed joint?
What are you talking about?
That's your argument.
No,
is
my argument
marriage
is the body the body, the people.
Yes, me and my wife for one.
And
the
your,
body.
and your pastor.
Yes.
Start a corporation.
Yes. We file for a marriage license.
These two things are separate.
What
that
is
corporate structure is a system. It's not organic.
Yes. What I'm saying is the marriage of me and my wife. That's a marriage. Okay. If we were in a different part of the world, we wouldn't have a marriage license in America. We would still be married.
Do you guys respect the legal architecture of the document you signed, of your legal license, your marriage license?
Of course.
Okay. So the church, this corporation, needs to respect the legal parameters of the document.
They do. That's why they don't file 990s.
Because there's no legal structure behind it.
There is. There's
you
boards.
can start a corporation.
There's audits.
I've already disproved the audits.
You have not. You have not disproved anything.
Because the audits are based off of there's no legally binding documents. Audits are actually built off of.
The audits are anchored on if a church wants to get a building, they're going to get their books completely ran through to make sure they can pay the note on the building.
That is an external audits. Those
are external audits from banks
and changed
for a loan from a bank.
100%.
Come on, man.
100%.
You think hard manual underwriting is going to fall into the trap of going through people's? I had to give them all my bank statements and my bank logins to get a loan for a home.
3 months worth, dude.
No,
I can edit those all day long.
Years worth. Taxes, all that. Yes. In California, maybe.
God I don't live in California.
Maybe it's a California thing. Years of taxes, bank statements, all that sort of stuff. So when a church is going to buy a building, they have to provide the same thing. On top of, again, bigger churches are also doing external audits. If they have a building campaign, they're doing bank audits. There's all sorts of audits that are happening.
The financial audits, those annual audits are a joke.
According to you.
There is no legal document they're held to.
Nate, the legal document we've already agreed on is 990s are not for churches. There is a reason for that.
No,
because of separation of church and state.
I think churches should file.
Okay.
So I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
I think if churches want to file, they can file. The issue is you're saying they all absolutely should file, and if they're not filing, then they're a false church or they're the institutional church or whatever you're.
No, they're leveraging the legal loopholes in America to build a corporation without any legal document they're held to account for.
Okay. Why would someone not want to leverage the legal things they can do to build a corporation or build a marriage or file their taxes to optimize the most amount of benefit for them? Why would someone not want to do that?
For them, well, first off,
for the local church, for their congregants, for what they're doing. Why would they not want to do that?
I would argue that most churches aren't there for the benefit of their congregants.
Well, again, that's another argument from silence. You're just making claims. You're
just
saying
we're
stuff.
talking about. No, I'm the one that actually brought data.
I got data too. We went over the IRS tax code.
Okay, so what are you talking about? I'm saying I think these systems, these legal systems, need actually, I don't think, I know. Any legal corporation that takes in donations or shareholder money should have a document that they're legally held to account for. Churches do not. And the board thing is hilarious because I've said multiple times, who's your board? And we're screaming about transparency and you go, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, because you're not a part of my church. Why would I tell you?
In the for-profit world, boards are known.
Why would I tell you?
In the nonprofit world, boards are known.
Yes.
In this weird carve-out.
No. Our boards are known in the sense that anyone that goes to our church can ask who's on the board. They can have access to the elders on the board. Everyone in our church knows the board.
So see, this is what's so funny. So why are we're talking, you said transparency is a good thing.
Yes.
And here you won't even say, here's the 3 or 4 people that help shape the mission and protect the integrity of this organization.
Yes.
I would be proud.
Why would you want to? Okay.
I would be proud to be like, you want to know who's on our board? Here they are, Nathan. Let's talk about
because it's a peripheral point that makes no sense.
No, it's not. And this is where pastors have lived in this world for so long that it's just through precedence and seminary that this is the status quo now.
No,
50 years ago, every church had their full financials in the foyer. You could flip through it.
We have our full financials in the foyer. You just don't like them.
This is not full financials.
You just don't like them.
This beautiful pie chart that I used to make in 8th grade.
It's a great chart.
Is not full financials.
Okay, so
let's 1.2 million went to these 5 colors.
Let's define full financials. So full financials, according to you, you want to know what every salary is of.
Not every salary. I think the top 10% salary should be known.
Okay, so when I go to North Coast and I sit down with Pastor Chris Brown, who I don't know if you remember, the very first time we spoke, you said, man, the people you're connected to, this is what you said to me on the phone. Let's see if you remember. Hey, these guys are the gold standard of this world. When I said, hey,
I don't know who Chris Brown is. John Foreman was the pastor when I was there.
No. North Coast Vista. Larry Osborne, North Coast Vista. Does that ring a bell?
It does, yeah.
Okay. So when you said, hey, these guys, because I said, hey, I just sat down with them, their top 3 execs make $150,000 a year. That is available for me. That is available for their entire church. He said this in a vlog on the internet. So they're not hiding what is the top line salary.
It, or is there a document that I can actually say, oh, there it is? Because guess what? Housing allowances, tax-free housing allowances aren't part of salary. So he can say, hey, I make 150 grand a year in my salary when he could be taking 300 grand a year in housing allowance.
I think that's total comps. I think that's total comps. Is the top 300? Is that,
yeah, so I assume what I said was that's awesome.
That's awesome.
That the big boys are making that.
Okay, so from your standpoint, do you still stand by that? Is that a gold standard for you, North Coast Vista, or do you not remember saying that?
I wouldn't say gold standard, to be honest, but
you said to me, hey man, the guys you're hanging with, the circles.
I wouldn't say hanging with either. So you're putting words into my mouth.
I'm paraphrasing. This is in January, bro. We're almost in November. Yeah. Do you remember any of this conversation?
I remember you talking about North Coast,
and you saying something to. I don't have a photographic memory. You saying something to the extent of, "Hey, man, the people that you're connected to, the churches that you're talking about, actually do a really good job." Maybe hanging with you didn't say, but you said actually you're doing a good job. Do you remember saying that?
I was probably referencing those salaries if that's what they make.
No, I said specifically church names and church pastors. Larry Osborne, Chris Brown. That's who planted our church. You don't remember saying that about them?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's fair. I don't remember where were we. We can go into some scriptures, but let's try to summarize where we are so far if we can. You believe transparency is the way. I think transparency has degrees. I think there are churches that are transparent. If people feel they hold to your position, I would encourage them to go to a congregationally led church, deacon-led church, elder-led church, home church. But I don't think that is an absolute standard for churches everywhere. Your position is, hey, it's for the sake of pulling records and transparency online. You think that if it's God's money, people should be churches should be transparent with their finances in essence. Is that a fair summation?
No, is a church a business? I think is where we need to go.
I think a church can be a business in the sense that a business has books and payroll and HR and
it's got money coming in and money going out. So it's a corporation.
So it's a business. Would you say your household is a business?
No.
Okay, what's the difference? You got money coming in, you got money coming out, you got a budget. Hopefully you're saving, you're investing.
That's my personal life is not a business. I'm not taking money, I'm not selling goods.
Okay.
My personal life is not a corporation. How am I selling services in my house?
I mean, how do you make money, Nathan?
You're an
entrepreneur. You have a business.
You said, is your family a business?
Yeah.
No, my family is not a business, dude.
Nathan, I'm being cheeky.
See, this is what.
Hold on. You missed it. I'm being cheeky in the sense that, hey, every single household has a budget.
You make these broad. You try to.
I make the broad statements.
I'm talking about salaries, and you bring up your 10-year-old kid.
Yes,
there's no correlation.
I mean, you don't. Maybe you don't see the correlation. I see
that is a broad assumption to go. Hey, should salaries be public knowledge? And you're like, but my 10-year-old shouldn't get.
My 10-year-old shouldn't know everything about everything, and there's maturity levels.
We're talking
not
about
everybody
corporate structure and salaries, and then you bring up 10-year-olds. So
in the same way,
make very broad assumptions.
In the same way. In a corporation of even a nonprofit, not everybody knows everyone's salaries. That is often there to protect people. In the same way, not everybody.
No, that's not there to protect people.
Why don't if you're working an entry-level job,
yes,
and there's someone else that is perhaps has more experience than you, and they're working an entry-level job,
yes,
why do nonprofits not have to reveal what every single employee makes?
Because the 990 is for top-line salaries.
That's not what I asked you. I said why do they not reveal to each other? If we're all for full
transparency. We're talking about
transparency.
legal documents. What are you talking about?
But you're missing the principle.
Are you saying employees should start telling each other what they make?
Nate, you're missing the forest for the trees. If I'm saying, hey, why you're for absolute transparency with the top donors, and I'm using that, my point is maturity.
I don't want absolute transparency for the top donors. Absolute transparency, or not absolute transparency, legal transparency, similar to a 990 for all donors.
Okay. And what I'm saying is, in the same way that we don't fully give transparency to everyone in a job, what are those reasons? If the person that's making $20 an hour finds out the person across the office makes $30 an hour,
they can find that out on a job board. I can say, oh, this job is going to pay me $30 an hour. This one's going to pay me $20.
I'm talking about folks who are doing the same job, but maybe different folks are qualified different. Different folks earn different credentials. Not everybody knows what everybody's making at a job. Yes.
You're talking about internal conflicts of staff.
Yes. Why?
I'm talking about
Yes,
you
yes,
go
but-
down
but-
these weird
no,
rabbit holes.
I'm not going down a rabbit.
I don't know. We're talking about a legal document that the
Nate,
business can be held to
Nate,
account for.
Yes.
And then you're like, two
yes.
employees
No,
might
no, no,
squabble
because
over their salaries.
Yes, and I'm saying that the same thing can happen in the context where there's a person that's newer to the faith and they find out what a pastor makes. That can be a stumbling block.
Actually,
in the same way,
I'm
in the same way that this can happen.
I think employees at a church or any corporation should know if it's a publicly traded company or if it's funded by donor dollars, what staff is. And here's the reason why.
You think everybody should know what everybody makes?
No one knows what Jeff Moore's salary is.
That's not true.
That's
not true.
You do if you're on a specific tier.
Yes, when there's
Does
trust,
his son work
when
for the
there's
church?
consistency, when there's trust, when
Does
there's
his son work for
consistency.
the
Yes,
church?
and I know what his son makes.
See, so this is the thing.
And other people, and board, and
you
elders,
deserve
and
to know.
pastors. Yes, because I'm committed to the church.
That is nepotism. And guess what?
That's
in
not
a corporate
nepotism.
world,
his son is an amazing sound guy.
I'm sure
and does,
he is.
and works his butt off.
I'm sure he does. Do you see where I'm going?
No, I don't see where
If
you're
those
going.
salaries are public
And is
knowledge to
underpaid.
donors, they would wipe off this idea that, oh man, Jeff hired his son because he wanted to give his son a job.
Or his son is an amazing sound guy. He's going to school for it, and he's the most qualified to do the sound. And
He
he's
is
been
the most
trained up.
qualified in all of North County, San Diego to do that sound.
That's a ridiculous statement.
Well, did you guys open a position and take in applications?
No, because it was a volunteer position that turned into a part-time job, and he's making below what he's really worth.
So it's a volunteer position that came into a salary. Ready?
No, I didn't say salary. I said a volunteer position that turned into a part-time job.
Oh, where is this? You have 6 jobs. Dang it, I deleted it. You have 3 volunteer positions. One is like YouTube producer. That's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So why did his get turned into a part-time job and not his YouTube position?
Because he's there every single day. He just works his face off.
Do you see where this goes?
No.
When there's no legal document or public information for donors, they make assumptions.
And again, if folks at Rhythm Church look around and say, "Man, Jeff is pulling up in a Porsche, and he's balling out of control," they can not give there. They can find a different church to give to if they feel uncomfortable. Why is that unreasonable? Like I think that
so just if he starts to drive a Porsche, then the red flags go up.
Nate, we got to work with each other on not cutting it. We keep cutting ourselves off. We got to stop. If someone goes there and they don't like how the money is being spent, they can ask. Those questions can be answered.
But the whole documentary is about them not answering those questions, and then you say you just walk in with a camera.
No. They can ask. Those questions can be answered. If they don't like the answers to the questions, they can go to another church, perhaps a Congregational-led church, perhaps a type of Southern Baptist church, where everybody votes on everything. I would say that I think that's inefficient. But there's no
why
substance.
is that inefficient?
I think if everybody has to vote on every dollar that gets spent, I think that's inefficient. I think buying a stapler and you need approval from the deacons and the elders, I think that's ridiculous.
So should we just stop voting in the United States because it's inefficient?
Sometimes, yeah, we should stop voting. Sometimes I think the government is, not the government, the nonprofit world, the for-profit world is more efficient when there's not a bunch of cooks in the kitchen. Yes, I would say that is the case a lot of times.
Let's talk about politicians because we both would probably agree government is a mess, right?
Yes.
Should politicians have term limits?
Should politicians have term limits? If I'm honest with you, Nate, it's probably a bit out of my area of expertise. I'll probably say yes.
Because so most politicians in the U.S. do have term limits. Why do you think we put term limits on politicians?
So they're not so they don't get old and irrelevant and check out from their job.
They don't get corrupted by the system because they're a servant of the people.
I think of like Nancy Pelosi, I think she's kind of checked out and done some shady stuff with the stock market.
Exactly. So she is a politician who has extreme sway in the government. Pastors mirror that very similarly. If they work in a system without transparency, without a legal document to be held to account for,
or like Nancy Pelosi,
they will eventually get eaten by that system.
Like Nancy Pelosi?
I'm
like
just saying
politicians? That is a wild logical conclusion.
Really?
The average pastor who's making $57,000 a year.
You keep on talking about those bivocational pastors.
Give me a number. Give me a number. What is a number you're comfortable with on the average pastor salary?
I don't care.
Okay. The average pastor.
Needs to know.
Can we say that the average pastor makes the same as a public school teacher? Can we agree on a number?
Where are we going with this?
Where I'm going with this
I'm
is
saying
the average
if I
person.
Don't know your if you're the only one that knows your pastor's salary.
I'm not the only one that knows my pastor's salary.
And if your board is a bunch of friends that live around the area that all have churches.
It's not how it works.
Then it eventually corrupts.
Nathan, that's not how it works. You keep assuming that's how it works, and you're making a lot of arguments.
Who's on your board?
I don't need to tell you who's on my board. I can tell you off the. I don't want to name these people. I'll tell you off the record.
I'm doing this. This is public knowledge in the nonprofit space. It's public
church is not a
knowledge in the
a church is not a
space.
nonprofit. I want to keep the church separate and the
church
government out of the church's
is a
business.
nonprofit with religious exemptions layered
I
on
don't
top.
want the government in the church's business. Me and you can disagree on that. You might think you might think the government's inefficient, but yet you want them to be involved. I don't think they should be involved at all. I don't think they're on a need to know basis, and they need to know very little.
Okay.
We disagree on that. We agree.
Well, trust me, the IRS, and I've talked with the IRS and the ex-head of the nonprofit sector at the IRS, and he goes, the government does not care about the religious church sector. The only thing they care about is the abuse that's happening in the sector because it is primed for abuse.
And this is where you and me both care about the abuse that's happening. The question, the entire core of this conversation is how prevalent is the abuse.
So you care about it, but you're still protecting the very information of your church.
I've given you repeated examples of how we care about it. I've given you repeated examples of how people get access. I've given you repeated.
You got to pay enough.
I've given you repeated alternatives. I've given you repeated alternatives of how someone can find other places that perhaps they are
like the SBC, everything. And then I gave an example of one you that's found corrupted.
One. So
There's
again, this is but Nathan,
like
this is what the hasty generalization fallacy is. This is what stereotyping is you're pulling out the most fringe, radical examples.
Ruslan, you're stereotyping. You said a young donor is like your 10-year-old child.
That's not a stereotype. That's a metaphor. You missed it. I don't know if it like.
I would consider that a stereotype. You're literally putting them together, saying this poor donor or this man who doesn't have much money is like my 10-year-old. You're stereotyping him like a 10-year-old.
Nathan, can we make a commitment to each other and not cut each other off?
Sure. You talk a lot more than me, so I want to start getting my points across.
Okay. I feel like you're doing a great job.
Because I have to step over you. You haven't asked me one question, really. You just talk.
What are you talking about? I've asked you a ton of questions.
No. You take what I say and you twist it and you put it in your own words and then you throw it back at me and I have to say that's not what I said.
Okay.
So I would really like you to ask me questions because I've been asking you questions trying to figure out your angle on things.
How about this? Let's do this. You ask me any question you want and then I'll ask you a question.
Beautiful.
We'll just go back and
Love
forth.
it.
Okay, so you ask me something.
So we can both agree that a religious institution is a business because it has money coming in, money going out. So let's go to the money source on this. Tithing. Do you agree with biblical tithing?
I've answered this. I think I said this to you privately and publicly. I believe tithing is a great principle, like Sabbath is a great principle. Me and my wife, $45,000 in debt, got sued, got our accounts levied, found out we had another $60,000 in debt while we were in the middle of a complete whirlwind while I was working that job that's actually why I got the job with the adults with developmental disabilities. And for us, 10% has always been a good benchmark. I think it's a tool. I think it's a principle. I've never once felt like if I don't tithe, my crops are going to be destroyed and there's going to be a curse on me.
Yeah.
Tithing and giving. And again, when I say tithing, I'm just using it short form as like, hey, 10%, good principle.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it in a legalistic sense. So yeah, for me, tithing, I would say is a good principle. It's just like Sabbath. I'm assuming you take a day off every week. Sometimes, yeah. But rest is good.
I love rest.
Yeah, I like to take naps.
I'm a great sleeper.
Jesus is ultimately our Sabbath, right? But we would say, hey, man, you should take a day off. It's good for you. Do I turn my phone off and like don't touch buttons and you know what I mean? I don't do that. So that's how I would view. That's how I view tithing. It's been, I'd say, man, for probably close to 20 years, kind of the principle we've stuck to. And brother, we're debt free. We're doing well financially.
Awesome.
Again, as someone that comes from a broken family, someone that comes from poverty, like communism and then poverty, welfare. I think there's something supernatural to that principle that when you give consistently, when you make it a priority, that something unlocks the heart of generosity. And so now my goal is to give above 10%. We give above 10%. We give to charities and nonprofits outside of the church.
I love it.
And we give through the church. And I want to be the biggest donor in my church.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think the modern day church staff can be assimilated or similar to the Levitical priests of the temple back in the day?
I think it can loosely. It depends on what stream you're coming from. When Paul is writing in 1 Corinthians 9, which we can look at if you want to, he definitely seems to talk about the right of a pastor to make a living in 1 Corinthians 9. And then he goes right into that as a metaphor parallel. I wouldn't say it's a one-to-one, but I would say
I'm not talking about the salary. I'm talking about specifically because I've heard a lot of pastors say the Levitical priesthood that upheld the temple, that, processed the animals and sacrificed the animals for for sin, it is the modern day church staff.
Yeah. So again, I think where they get that from is 1 Corinthians 9. And it definitely seems to flow into that. If you like, I could pull it up for you. We can
Pull
go
it
through
up. I'm very interested to see.
Okay, so I'll pull it up. So if you can look there or you can look here. And so this is, where we got? 1 Corinthians 9. This is my defense to those who sit in judgment on me. Don't we have the right to food and drink? Don't we have the right to take a believing wife along with us, as do the other apostles and the Lord's brothers and Cephas? Or is it only I and Barnabas who lack the right to not work for a living? So Paul is saying this is a right for people who preach the gospel to make their living off of the gospel.
Yeah. So this is, I would separate this completely because he's not referring to the Levitical priesthood there.
Okay, I'm going to get there.
Okay.
I'm just giving you the framework of like why I think pastors should be paid.
Okay. Yeah, but this is
make
different.
a living from their preaching. I'm just walking you through the scripture. Who serves as a soldier at his own expense? Who plants a vineyard and does not eat its grapes? Who tends a flock and does not drink the milk? Do I say this merely on human authority? Doesn't the law say the same thing? For it is written in the law of Moses, do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain. I'm sure you know what that metaphor means. Is it about oxen that God is concerned? Surely he says this for us, doesn't he? Yes, this was written for us because whoever plows and threshes should be able to do so in the hope of sharing in the harvest. If we have sown spiritual seed among you, is it too much if we reap a material harvest from you? So this is Paul making a living, sowing, reaping a material harvest. This is about his livelihood, making a living. I'm glad we agree on that. If others have this right of support from you, shouldn't we have it all the same? But we do not use this right. On the contrary, we put up with any other than hinder the gospel of Christ. Don't you know that those, and this is probably where some of that theology is coming from that you've heard, right? Don't you know that those who serve in the temple get their food from the temple, and that those who serve at the altar share in what is offered at the altar? In the same way, the Lord has commanded that those who preach the gospel should receive their living from the gospel. But, he's the exception to the rule, but I have not used any of these rights, and I am not writing this in the hope that you will do so much things for me, for I would rather die than allow anyone to deprive me of this boast. So Paul is saying, this is the standard. This is the right. This is what all the apostles are doing. I'm going to go above and beyond because I think in their context, I have it pulled up here. It's a Greco-Roman patron-client relationship that they had, and so he didn't want to feel like he owed them a favor because they were taking care of him. So he opts out of this. But later on in Philippians 4 and 2 Corinthians, he does allow people to financially support him,
support his work,
his ministry.
Yeah. So here's the reason why I ask.
So hold on. So we agree. Pastors and folks who preach the gospel are allowed to make a living for the gospel based on that passage.
We got to define a living.
Enough to live in the zip code that they preach and not have to work a part-time job.
And do they get to buy a home? Do you get to bless them enough for them to buy a property?
I would love my pastor to buy property. Unfortunately, he can't right now because he's just not making enough. I mean, we showed you what we spent on staffing, and I don't think it's enough.
Yeah. So here's the reason why I ask is because your pastor preaches tithing, and he preaches that the modern staff is the Levitical priesthood, and then he preaches that he teaches that there was no money back then. It was all, he said, wine and
agriculture and stuff like. Which
there was major currency back then.
But I've heard you say tithing is an agricultural
was wine, but he goes, there was no money back then.
Yeah, and it develops over time.
There was definitely
the economies develop over time.
No, there was coinage back then. There was coins. Christ is talking about give to Caesar.
You're talking about in Levitical terms.
Yes.
Okay. So in Levitical terms, they tithe off their agriculture.
Off their agriculture land because
so the system develops and then they start having fiat currencies.
Yeah, but there was fiat currency.
Well, not fiat. Is it fiat? You're saying there was fiat currencies in the book of Leviticus?
I can't remember what fiat means. It's
physical. It isn't physical fiat.
Fiat, or is it not tied to an asset? I can't remember. But there's currencies. They had coinage back in the Mosaic covenants. Like there was monetary exchange. Sure. So your pastor said there wasn't. There most definitely was. The tithes, the 3 tithes, came off the land because that land was a gift to you. So you only tithed in the tribe of Israel if you owned land because that land was a gift. You didn't earn it. You didn't pay for it. It was a gift. So God required something off that land.
Yes, to live off the
Levites, though, didn't own any land.
Yes,
they got nothing. They had the blessing to upkeep the temple and offer the sacrifices.
And they lived off of what was in the temple. So I think but the reason why I'm saying this is your pastor associates modern staff
with the Levitical priests.
So let me
finish.
Can I just walk you through the scripture on why people draw that conclusion?
Yes, but that's a fallacy because okay, when Christ came, he said, "I'm going to destroy this temple and raise it up in 3 days." That sin offering and sacrificial system disappeared. Christ was the final atonement for sin. The Levitical system died with it.
So why is Paul saying that?
Because he's speaking to Jews at that time. He's saying, this is what you understand.
First Corinthians isn't written to Jews.
What are you talking about?
First Corinthians is written to Gentiles.
But I'm saying the Jewish system was there.
Okay. So Paul is using a Jewish metaphor.
Because he is a Jew.
Okay.
Yes.
And he's speaking to Gentiles.
Yes.
Okay.
This
and
whole thing. That's why he's not just talking about Jews.
Yes. And so in this system, in this passage, he's talking about those in the temple. Don't you know that those who serve in the temple get their food from the temple, and
they
those
didn't take
who
a
serve at the
salary.
altar in what is offered on the temple? The salary is a evolution of an efficient.
It's not. It's your evolution.
Oh, okay.
The salary. There's no salary here. So when I brought a tithe, if I was offering, like, let's say a lamb, they would break down. They'd slaughter this lamb.
Yes.
Let's take a goat.
Yes.
And they'd break down the goat. They'd boil it because I needed to feed myself and my family as a Levite.
The priest was a butcher. I'm with you.
I could take 1/4 of that animal. Guess who got the other 3/4 back?
The quarters of the animal.
Yeah. So legs.
You take some. Yeah.
So the Levite would get 1/4. I can't remember if it was the right or left back quarter. And then you, as the tithe giver, would get everything else back, and you could eat it with your family. So the biblical Mosaic tithe is you get to enjoy the majority of your tithe.
Yes, I understand.
The Levites weren't paid a salary on top of that.
Yes, but they were taken care of from their work in the temple.
Yeah, that's food and drink.
Yes,
that's why when Paul goes,
that's what Paul is writing out here, is that those who preach the gospel can make a living from the preaching of the gospel.
They weren't making necessarily a living; they were sustaining.
I mean, that's
when
what
Christ
the word
said.
says,
When Christ
brother.
said, "No,"
you said you're
he
about
doesn't say salary.
He says living. He says living, not having to. No,
he's talking about laborers. Through
These
this.
dudes are bringing their wives with them. They're traveling. They're bringing their wives, and they're getting their expenses covered from their preaching of the gospel.
That means they're not buying homes. They're not accumulating wealth. They're moving from town to town, spreading the gospel.
And then in First Timothy,
that's why I think missionaries are the closest form to this, because they are literally a lot of times begging for money to continue their mission work. My uncle's a 32-year missionary in Kyiv.
So you're okay with a missionary receiving money, but you're not okay
for their travels and their expenses.
Yes, but you're not okay with the pastor receiving money.
I'm not okay. Well, I'm saying your pastor said, "Hey, I am a Levitical priest." He's 100% dead wrong there, because I don't think
he ever said he's a Levitical priest. I think you're putting words in his mouth.
I'll pull up the video right now.
You said that you're okay with missionaries making money.
So the Levitical tithe was the first that you would give. So you had your 10, and you'd be like, okay, this is for basically the priesthood. And the priesthood were the ones, the Levites, they took care of the temple. They were like, I guess you could say, like, kind of modern day, like church staff.
No. Kind of modern day, like church staff.
Seems like he doesn't believe his own argument, because the temple is no more. He's associating his corporation with the sacrificial temple.
Okay, so Nathan,
the 2nd century temple. Do you hear yourself?
Nathan, do you hear yourself? You said,
Christ
hold on, no. I'm not going to let you get away with this one. You said, my pastor said he is like a Levite priest. That's what you said.
He said modern church staff.
He said kind of like modern church staff.
Talk about botched theology.
You said he's a priest. You said he's Nathan, you said, your pastor said he is a Levite priest. That's what you just said. We can run this back.
Yeah.
That's what you said. That's not what he said. He said,
yes,
he said kind of like a modern day.
That's what they
Listen closely.
did. And because the Levites, the other tribes of Israel, were actually given a land as an inheritance, the Levites weren't. The Levites were like,
so he can never own property if he's associating himself with a Levitical priest. So don't buy him a home. Don't fund him.
But back then they didn't.
They had currency back then.
They had their grain. They had their animals.
So
no. I just want you to know you said one thing. Your pastor said he's like a Levite.
Kind of. I hadn't listened to the video.
You said your pastor said he's a Levite priest.
With a Levitical priest, which he is
what
not.
I'm saying is, you said your pastor said he's a Levite priest. What he did there is a lot similar to what it says here, which is a kind of like similar system. That's what he said.
There's no temple anymore.
Okay,
he's associating his 501c3 with the temple.
Okay, so then why is Paul writing this? Why is Paul writing this?
Because
he's using it as a continuation and a metaphor. And
so do you believe Rhythm Church is the temple?
I think it's an extension in the same way that Eastern Orthodox.
What was the point? What was the point of the temple?
You got to stop cutting me off, bro. In the same way that the Eastern Orthodox and the Catholics see themselves as an extension of the priesthood, that's how they view themselves. There are people that can make this argument, and they're making the argument from this passage here. If you don't like the passage, you get to wrestle through the passage. But it says
I
here,
think you guys have misinterpreted.
No one's misinterpreted. It says,
can you perform your own sacraments?
I could take communion.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
okay.
I could take communion.
Can you ask for repentance?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't actually need a priest to do either of those.
Yeah, but I confess to one another. So what I'm making the point here is, this says what it says. This says the continuation of the priest. It alludes to this.
Read it once more, please.
Let's read it once more.
So your church is the temple.
No, that's not. You're putting words in my mouth.
I asked you. I said now you're putting temple, and you said it's a continuation.
It's a similar framework, but it's not the same.
No, so let's take it down.
So when someone says it's kind of like, it's similar to, that's not saying it's a one-to-one.
What was the point of the temple?
The point of the temple was for the Lord to be with his people and for them to offer sacrifices.
Sacrifices, okay. And yes, to be with the Lord.
Yes, they make an atonement for it. Yes.
Sacrifices, that sacrificial system's done.
Yes.
Where does Christ dwell?
Christ dwells in all of us.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that is not even a continuation of the temple.
So then
that's a building where people can link up.
So exegete this for me, would you? Can you say this verse? I'm not saying this is a one-to-one. I'm saying this is a metaphor, parallel Paul is using. I'm not saying it's a one-to-one. I'm with you that we don't have to make atonement for our sins by killing animals. We agree on that. So what I'm saying is this is the example he's using. My pastor nuanced it, kind of, sort of, similar to. You said he made the claim he's a Levite priest. That's what you said.
He said the church staff is kind of like the Levitical priest.
which is nuancing.
So let's work backwards from this in his argument. So he started saying the tithe is a tenth, and then he did mention that there was 3, and then he goes, we're basically the Levitical priests, and if you work backwards from that,
he didn't say basically. He said kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of.
Okay.
So you have to have a building. So the justification is we have this building, this corporation. I am employed by this corporation. And so we have to justify taking money. We have to justify offerings. We have to justify why we're asking for money.
Hold on. No one has to justify anything, Nathan.
The system has to be justified.
No. People have agency. People have choices.
But your pastor's misinterpreting the tithe laws and the Levitical priesthood to justify people prop up financially a system that is not even biblical.
No, Nathan. People have agency. People have choices. We have more access to biblical literacy tools than ever before. Okay, I walked you through 1 Corinthians 9. We can go through. Yeah. We can go to 1 Timothy.
Let's go line by line.
We can go through 1 Timothy 5 as well.
I've got them all right here. Let's go line by line on that.
So no. Exegete this for me though. Don't you know that those who serve in the temple get their food from the temple, and that those who serve at the altar share in what is offered on the altar? In the same way. The Lord has commanded that those who preach the gospel should receive their living from the gospel.
What translation is this?
This is the NIV. Which translations would you like? I could pull up any translation.
I'm just very interested.
Shout out to our logo. I'm doing brand integration right now. Shout out to Logos Bible Software. You guys can get a free 60-day trial completely on us. This used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now you can get it for free. Thanks, Nate.
Cool.
Which translation do you want?
I'm just very interested on that living.
You want me to go into Greek?
No. But
Let's go Greek.
But I do want to talk about this first for a second. When they're talking about the Levitical priests, it's their food. It is not money. It is not like housing. It is not, hey, you deserve a house, because the Levites owned no property.
Okay.
They owned no land.
So the word living here means zoe, living, to be alive. This is the living that Jesus promises us in his scripture. So this is consistently to make a living.
No,
how
it's
you
not.
Sustain
Scroll
yourself.
up. Like you just
no. I'm saying to live, to make
alive,
a living,
to live,
to make. Do you have another Greek word?
To sustain. No,
would you like me to
let's look it up in the Greek. This has nothing to do with a salary, bro.
I didn't say anything about a salary. I said make a living to sustain one's
be alive
life
and sustain.
Yes. So a pastor can make their living to be sustained.
You correlated that with a salary, though. This has nothing to do with salary.
I don't know if I've ever said the word salary in this conversation. I think you have.
I think you were very focused on. So they deserve to make a living.
They make their living from the gospel. This says it over and over.
Yeah.
That I mean, I don't know how else to exegete this, bro.
So
he says, hold on, no. Or is it only I and Barnabas who lack the right to make to not work for a living?
Yeah.
So he's explaining
to
it to
not
you.
work for
I'm
food,
not working.
water, drink.
I'm not working for. Well, what do you think a pastor's working for?
So
food, water,
drink,
shelter. That's what we all need to sustain ourselves, Nathan.
Sustenance.
Yes, sustain ourselves. Yes.
Nowhere is Paul saying, "Hey, you deserve to live in the nicest zip codes and do X, Y,
I never
and Z
said
own
pastors
$15 million in real estate."
I think that's I'm not an apologist for any of that, Nathan.
Okay, so
I want my pastor to make a living. If we can buy him a parsonage someday, praise God. If he can earn enough to buy his own house, I want him to make a living, to have his food, shelter, transportation, health insurance covered, and to live.
See, but
well.
those aren't in the scriptures, though.
Well,
Transportation,
because they didn't have cars, Nathan.
You're missing
Come on,
you're missing
brother.
The point, though. I don't mind that you want to give them those things, but they need to be public information. For
Okay,
your
let's stick to the scriptures. Do you want? Do you see? Do you see? Reasonably speaking, I'm not saying Nathan, you're a bad guy. I'm saying, do you see how someone can read this and go, man, Nathan, I hear you. Bro, I'm reading this and it sounds like my pastor should make a living off of preaching the gospel. I don't know no other way to read this. These brothers had their
you're
wives.
Justifying the system.
I don't listen.
Corporate church.
Nathan, I don't have a dog in the fight. Okay.
You do though.
I don't.
You're the biggest giver at your church, or one of them.
Yes. I'm sacrificing.
I know.
To be
you
the
want
biggest
your
giver.
pastor to have nice things.
Absolutely.
You do have a dog in the fight.
But I don't have a dog in the fight. Like, it doesn't change.
You do.
No. It doesn't change my day-to-day experience. It doesn't change the trajectory of my career. If I'm honest with you, Nathan, I would do better on YouTube if I just spent all my time dunking on celebrity pastors and promoted your documentary. I would actually do better.
No, you wouldn't. We've been losing money for 2 years straight.
Well, because you guys are amazing filmmakers and you guys use really nice lenses.
So anybody who thinks we're making money is
sorry. So hold on. You're right. I'm not saying you're making money and you guys are killing it. What I'm saying is, as a YouTuber, you have to know that it would be in my best interest in the era of call out culture that we're in, to consistently call out celebrity pastors and to consistently do this. I did this in 2022. I consistently did this.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I said, man, I'm meeting more and more pastors. I'm meeting their boards. I'm seeing how they function. I'm seeing the men that they are. I'm seeing that they're not enriching themselves. And based on what I walked through in meeting new pastors, and I came out, I shared you a little bit offline of what I came out of, the kind of church I came out of. And I don't want to, you understand why I don't want to go into that. I came out of that. I didn't realize I was in an unhealthy situation. And my content went that direction. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you were. Maybe you weren't familiar with my content back then.
I wasn't. No.
Yeah, but that's what I primarily did. I made, hey, Mike Todd said something crazy. Stephen Furtick said something crazy. This person, hey, why does he get? I pulled up Furtick's. Bro, I pulled up Furtick's house on a YouTube video once. I understand. I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
It's in my best interest to go down that route and just dunk on pastors. Okay. So this is not a financial thing. That's what I mean. I don't have a dog in the fight. It would be the opposite. I understand what you're doing. You guys are making a film, bro. It's way harder than sitting in my garage and
no, the film's done.
Yeah.
We're making season 2, which is.
Do you understand what I just explained though? You understand my heart and what I'm saying. I wasn't trying to say you're
have a dog
enriching
in the fight,
yourself.
but that's
okay.
just.
So we could disagree.
Yeah.
So let's just say, based on the scripture, I'm reading it. Most people are reading it. Most scholars, most theologians, the folks that I'm looking up, and I have them here listed from all streams of Christianity, from the Didache all the way down.
What does the Didache in chapter 12 talk about? People going into towns and taking advantage of people.
Yeah, don't do that. But the Didache also says make sure that the prophets are taken care of. Make sure the prophets and the teachers
to what
are paid. They're talking about and paid, and they're quoting this, and they're quoting First Timothy.
They're talking about laborers. So this is when Paul always brings up the laborer is worthy of his wage. The Bible is rife with laborers gleaning your fields or planting, and you pay them at the end of the day. Because they are sustenance laborers. And it reminds me of back in the day when my dad would pull up to Home Depot and point out two like Hispanics and like jump in, careful. And it's like, but this is back when they were needing money. Like, and I remember this was how Southern California was. And guess what? My dad would pay him the end of the day because he wouldn't see him again. That is the type of laborer Paul is referring to. So Paul goes, now let me finish. Yeah. Paul goes, the laborer is worthy of his wage. So when he comes in, guess what? Eat what is put in front of you and drink what is put in front of you.
Yes.
So you're feeding and giving people drink and shelter.
Yes.
You're not giving them salaries, medical insurance,
what is the difference between houses. What is the difference between someone getting a day rate, a weekly rate, and a monthly rate?
Because it becomes a full-time career, which is what the Didache was pushing against.
It wasn't though.
If
the Didache said
comes
that
into your house for more than 3 days, they are trafficking in Christ.
Yes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Didache. If you want me to pull it up, I can pull it up. The Didache
I'm
talks
very
about.
well versed in the Didache.
Okay, so the prophets in the Didache are told that they should be paid. Yes, do we agree on that?
Pull it up because it's going to go back to that
I have it on here.
A point
for yourself, bishops and deacons in the Lord. And then here it says that in the Didache, it says that they are to be paid the teacher and the prophet. Let me see.
No, yeah, please find that verse. And that like the fact that you hung up on that, you make your living.
Yes,
like,
make your living.
That was not salary.
Yeah, but the salary is just a different tool, man.
No, it's not.
It is. Nate, I'm sure you guys have an incentive structure. You probably are going to get a commission. You might get a salary. You might get a hourly wage. You might get a day wage. It's all the same thing. You're getting paid for your time and your labor.
But my business, I'm not pointing to Scripture to justify my for-profit business.
Yes, and
churches I never should be pointing to Scripture to justify their system.
I never said that you were pointing to Scripture. What I'm saying is a salary, a day rate, a weekly rate, an hourly rate. To me, it's all the same. They had folks that would come together and would make money off of their preaching, off of their gifts.
I would argue there's not one line in the Bible that says this guy made a day rate of X because he preached the gospel.
Well, okay, we can get to 1 Timothy 5 if you want. Let me find this Didache quote for you so that we don't brush over that. Here we go. Didache 13. This is in the late first, early century. Every true prophet is worthy of his food. Likewise, a true teacher is himself worthy like the workman.
Yes, so food, water, shelter.
Yes.
There is no salary in there.
Okay, so wait a minute. Can someone have food, water, and shelter without pay?
The whole point of this type of description, which Paul talked about and then the Didache went into, is you have to be subservient to the generosity of the people you're preaching to.
That's every church. That's every church.
It's not. If I don't know what my pastor is making, they are not subservient to the donor saying,
sure
hey, this is...
If you don't like it, you can go to a different church.
You just said most of your people don't know his salary.
Yes. What I'm saying is if they look around and they have questions, if you're like, just say you were at our church, right? And you looked around and you were like, man, what's Pastor Jeff making? I wish you knew Pastor Jeff, man, because I think you would know him and be like, oh, this dude's like super normal.
I'm sure he's a good intentioned dude.
And you would look around and you would say, hey, what is this dude making? And if you felt a certain way and you asked and you were a member of the church, you were giving at the church, they would probably tell you. If you really wanted to know, they'd probably tell you, and then you can go, man, that's an exorbitant amount. I don't think you should make that much. Or you would look at it and go, hey, I think he needs a raise. Now, here's another quote for you, 4th century, John Chrysostom, on 1 Timothy 5:17. He says he attaches double honor to support and wages for those laboring in word and doctrine.
I don't care about the 4th century. I care about Christ's words in the Bible.
So in the 1st and 2nd century, they're talking about
Thomas Aquinas. I think it was Thomas. Was it Thomas Aquinas? I can't remember what. In like 110, he goes, "Cling to my robe like you'd cling to Christ." Like those.
Thomas was wilding on some stuff. That's fair enough. So what I'm saying is in the Didache, they're attaching it to like the workman. Yes, that's what the Didache is saying. The laborer. Yes. And what I'm saying is you want to get in the weeds on. Is it a day labor? Is it a weekly labor? Is it a monthly labor? Is it an annual? Is it this? Is it that? And I'm saying it doesn't matter.
You're subservient to the generosity of the people you're preaching to.
Yes.
As soon as your salary is not public knowledge, as soon as Ed Young's housing allowance is not public knowledge, as soon as car allowances, clothing allowances aren't public knowledge, you are no longer subservient to the generosity of others.
I'm saying the people I'm connected with.
You are building a sordid gain, which is the Bible speaks heavily against that.
The people I'm connected with, the churches I roll in, that's not how we roll, bro. And you should know that. Why are you
afraid of even saying this is who the board of directors are?
Because I'll tell you who the board of directors are offline. I don't want to put all these people on blast, man. What is it?
Okay.
You keep assuming that there's like fallen sense.
This is I want to do this fun deal with you.
Hold on. Can we go to 1 Timothy 5?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump over here because I think we got to lay out the scriptures, and then people can come to their own conclusion. So this is actually the structure of a church. This is how churches are to function.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I don't know what your view of the church is. I know you have a heart for meeting the needs of the world, and
100%.
you've done a lot of international works. So this is laying out on top of Acts 6, kind of echoing Acts 6, where they appointed people so that they can focus on devoting themselves.
Elders, overseers, yeah.
Right. And then they were giving themselves to teaching, and then other people dealt with the affairs of the widows. Okay. So 1 Timothy 5, verse 3 says, give proper recognition to those widows who are really in need. But if a widow has children or grandchildren, these should learn, first of all, to put their religion into practice by caring for their own family, and so repaying their parents and grandparents, for this is pleasing to God. The widow who is really in need and left all alone puts her hope in God and continues night and day to pray and to ask God for help. But the widow who lives for pleasure is dead even when she lives. Give the people these instructions so that no one may be open to blame. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. No widow may be put on the list of widows unless she is over 60, has been faithful to her husband, and is well known for her good deeds, such as bringing up children, showing hospitality, washing the feet, so on and so forth. So here, there seems to be conditions applied based on her faithfulness, based on her unity to the church, on if she can be on the list to be cared for by the widows. Do you agree?
Oh, is that what I was waiting to talk? Like,
we're going to get there. No,
Gotcha.
I'm building out the whole chapter for you. So even in this, the access to benevolence is not just to willy-nilly anyone that walks up to a church. It's connected to someone that is not, she's 60, she needs to have been faithful to her husband, well known for her good deeds, such as bringing up children
they're hedging
and showing
against
hospitality.
people taking advantage of the generosity of Christians.
In the same way, my brother, we hedge against people coming into our church and wanting to know information that they don't have any commitment to knowing.
What does that have to do? Like,
I'm building it out.
stretch.
I mean, I don't think it's a stretch. I'm saying there's access based on unity and maturity. If a widow has unity and maturity, then she is taken care of. This is a principle. I'm not saying it's a one-on-one.
You're playing the victim card. You're saying like the leadership is this victim who,
no one is
someone
saying
comes in to
anything.
ask for a transparency.
No one is saying anything about victims, okay? That's the least in charitable verse. Let me keep going. Let me keep going. And is well known for her good deeds, such as bringing up children, showing hospitality, washing the feet of the Lord's people, helping those in trouble, and devoting herself to all kinds of deeds. As for his younger widows, do not put them on such a list, for their sensual desires overcome their dedication to Christ. They want to marry. Thus they bring judgment on themselves because they have broken their first pledge. Besides, they get into habit of being idle and not about and going about house to house, and not only do they become idlers, but also busybodies who talk nonsense, saying things they ought not to. So I counsel young widows to remarry, so on and so forth. And so he's going on. If any woman who is a believer has widows in her care, she should continue to help them and not let the church be burdened with them, so the church can help those widows who really need, who really are in need. Okay. So there's an order here in terms of who's getting help and who isn't getting help. There's an order to charity within the context of the church.
Where are we going?
I'm getting somewhere. So one, there's an order of access and to charity. There's an order to access to information with regarding this sort of stuff. Now here is, I don't know.
Christ never gave any order to charity or grace.
That's an argument from silence. Okay.
No, I'm saying like you're trying to prop up the fact that they're saying, hey, younger women should remarry and have kids, and yet let older women really pour into the community, washing feet. Like
if they're going to be taken care of by the church, it has strings attached. Yes.
Yes. Like if they're fully going to be taken care of by the church,
they should be of good reputation.
Yes.
They should have they should have been faithful to their husband.
They're putting conditions on the hospitality for a widow.
Yes, they're putting conditions. They're putting
what is this? I'm trying to put conditions on a pastor. So I'm trying to say, hey, there's conditions on legal architecture for churches. There should be conditions on transparency. And you're saying no. And
I'm giving you here in this context, these are conditions to receive what? To receive care financially. Yes, we agree?
Maybe financially, maybe food, drink, it doesn't matter.
It's all the same thing to me. Okay?
Hospitality.
Money buys food and drink. Food and drink can be exchanged for money.
Where are we going?
The elders who direct the affairs of the church, the presbyters who direct the affairs of the church, are worthy of double honor, especially those whose work is preaching and teaching. Okay.
Do you know what that original elder translated to? You should look it up.
It's presbyter. It's the title for a priest, presbyter, priest.
No, it translates to servant.
Okay. If we go into the Greek, it's going to say presbyter. Okay. Yes?
Yes, that translates to servant. That original idea was a servant.
Okay. And a servant can serve through work by preaching and teaching. He's an overseer. He's an elder. He's an overseer of the affairs of the church, worthy of double honor, which is financial, especially those.
No. Nowhere does double honor say financial. I'm going to sleep here. You almost caught me there.
Okay.
No, nowhere does double honor say financial.
It's in the context
of
widows.
No, you're adding that context.
It's the verses right before it.
Because guess what? You say, I have no, what did you say, bone in this fight or whatever. You do, because you've added financial to that idea of double honor.
Okay. Double honor. According to every historian, according to John Chrysostom, according to anyone, any 400. Okay. You want me to go earlier?
Yeah, I want you to go because what I'm saying is,
according to the Didache, they were workmen. Okay, there is
worthy of food and drink and shelter.
Yes, and what does money buy you? Food and drink and shelter.
This is a jump you're making.
I'm not making a jump.
Because guess what? As soon as I give you money, you are no longer subservient to the generosity of the people you preach to.
So let's finish the verse.
You're subservient to a corporation, and you've signed that contract, and you are going to live and die to protect that corporation.
That's the least charitable interpretation of that. But let's keep going. For Scripture says, and there's the verse, do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain, and the worker deserves his wages. Okay, so we can go into the Greek.
In the King James, that's meat.
It's not. It's not.
Bet?
That's a different word. I know where you got that from. That's not here.
That's the King James.
Okay, you want me to prove it to you?
Yeah.
This says
Prove it to me.
reward wages.
We've scanned King James.
Here's where you got it from, because I actually did the work for you. It's actually from Matthew 10:9. This is the first time Jesus sends out the disciples. And in this word, in the original Greek, no bag for the journey or extra sandals or staff, for the worker is worth his keep. This is where you got it from. Maybe it was an honest mistake. In this context, it is for food and provision.
Okay.
First time Jesus sends out his disciples, he says that a worker is worth his keep. Here, it says wages, two different Greek words.
Look up the wages. Let's see what it says.
I just did. Here's the Greek word. Let me close that out. Sorry, I got a lot of windows open. And again, shout out to Logos for holding this down. Okay, here's the word. I could pull it up.
Higher.
Okay, hold on. So you see I got the word selected. Yes? I'm going to hit study. Boom, there's the Greek. Reward, wages, pay.
Okay.
Pay, wages, recompense. That's the word there. Now, where you got the word meat, I've only found it once. I scoured it. The word Matthew.
Okay, so I was in the wrong book.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh. Let's just look it up. No bag for the journey or extra shirt or sandals or staff, for the worker is worth his keep. This word in Matthew that Jesus uses, which is in the context of sending out the disciples for the first time, not the second time. Second time he tells them, pack a bag, bring a sword. Look up that word. And
Why
that
did he
word,
ask him to bring a sword, by the way?
Hold on. That word is trophe, which is food. Two different Greek words. One means wages. Okay, one means food.
There was multiple descriptions of it. Wages was one of them.
Okay, I mean the first one I see is wages. Reward,
His
wages,
higher,
pay.
Like reward.
Maybe I say salary. I know you're gonna hate the salary.
He's a day laborer.
Okay, whatever, man. So what I'm saying is,
it's not.
Can you wait? Hold on.
Can you concede than me saying, hey, you owe me $100?
Can you concede that you were just wrong?
I didn't realize what book you were in. Yes.
Okay, I was in 1 Timothy.
I don't have a Bible in front of me.
So in your video, I forgot which
you were
video.
in 1 Timothy.
I was in 1 Timothy.
Sorry. So you are using Paul's words, not Christ's words. Guess what?
So Paul
is already trying to build an institution and a system to corral this. I would prefer to lean on
Christ. Is the Bible the word of God, inspired and good for correction and all that sort of stuff?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, but he is trying to build a system. Christ came to tear down systems.
So Paul.
I love it.
Paul has drifted.
Christ any day
over Paul has drifted. Paul was
a man, a fallible man. No,
Paul has drifted.
Was Paul a fallible man?
Absolutely. Paul was drifted, but he is inspired in writing the word of God. Yes.
Sure, I'm inspired. Okay. Do I sin sometimes? Do I make mistakes?
Okay, so do you believe the Bible is inspired? I'm not going to get to the inerrant. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe that it's God's breath? It is spirit filled.
It's spirit filled. It's definitely not God's breath. God's breath.
That's what inspired means for the Bible, and we're getting because now we
got
to get
into God's breath is much different than spirit filled.
Okay, so check this out. You want to see something cool?
Yep.
The Logos is getting the best, the best thing. Has Jesus ever used the word wages?
I'm sure.
Okay.
He talked about money a lot. Yes.
Okay. So here we see Jesus also. This word is used multiple times.
Where can I read what you're?
Matthew. He's talking about Matthew, vineyard. When the evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages."
Yes.
So Jesus,
it's a business owner.
Yes, but it's a different word. That's all I'm pointing out to you, Nathan. I'm pointing out to you that you kept saying.
You're saying a different word from what Paul said.
Listen to me. You kept saying when it says meat.
No, I said I thought you were using that other scripture. I don't have a Bible or the verses in front
when
of me.
we're looking at Jesus also using the word for wages. He's also using the word for wages. So contextually, we're dealing with two different situations. One situation, Jesus is sending out the disciples to go and preach. It's the first time he sends them out.
This is awesome. You're right. Jesus sent them out with nothing.
Yes.
Because you want to know what? He said, you need to be like the generosity of others is what's going to keep you alive and sustained.
So it's a descriptive passage for the first time he sent them out. Yes?
Yeah.
The second time he sent them out, he said, when I sent you out without purse or bag or sandals, did you lack anything? Okay. They answered, nothing they answered.
Nothing.
He said to them, but now if you have a purse, take it, and also a bag, and if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. Okay?
Why did he say to sell your cloak and buy a sword in this passage?
Because they were probably going to face persecution this time around. This is the second time he's sending them out into the world. The first time I'm with you. They were working for their keep. Eat what's in front of you. The second time he's sending them out, this is a different context.
War.
This is post post the cross. This is all the craziness that's happened to him. So it's a different context. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't say to charge salaries and start making money.
Okay, but you're arguing from silence. That's an
So
argument
are you.
from silence.
You just said he probably.
No, I did not say probably. I said if we're looking at the word for
Roll
wages.
it back.
Let's roll it back. When I said the word wages, I'll take you again to the Greek. The word wages here is wages.
Yeah,
pay.
He's not talking about
Pay,
paying
hired
pastors.
service.
He's talking about a land.
He is. No,
when
he's,
Jesus is
no,
talking.
No.
Where are we in the Bible?
In 1 Timothy,
Yeah.
he is talking about wages in the context of elders who direct the affairs of the church are well worthy of double honor. Again, you will not. I couldn't find a single scholar that interpreted double honor as anything besides this. Even guys that you would agree with, Mike Winger, all these guys, everyone. And Mike Winger is not on staff at a church, but he is a.
I do not think I've had lots of scholars break that down, and not every scholar says this is wages.
I haven't heard one scholar. I can't find one. I've looked. Maybe you have them. I can't find them. And then he then emphasizes it by explaining it. It's like there's no way around this. For the scripture says, "Do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain."
Okay, right there.
And the worker deserves his wages.
This is my favorite, and this is what all pastors do. They go to the lowest common denominator to judge or to explain their requirement for a salary. Paul didn't take a salary. Why? We talked about this before we rolled.
Paul did accept help.
He accepted help. He didn't take a salary.
Yeah, but you're caught up in this. Hold on,
Nathan, ministry was traveling. He needed resources.
Nathan, you're caught up in the minutia of a salary versus a day wage.
That is not a minutia. That is a day laborer compared to a CEO.
That is a minutia.
That is not minutia.
That is a minutia because
how is that minutia?
Because you're getting in the weeds.
You in the beginning you said, "Hey, when I was younger and I didn't make much money, I would look at these big salaried guys and I was totally like biased." Then I could say that's just minutia, bro.
No,
it's someone who doesn't make much money and someone who makes a lot.
I'm sharing a story. I think what I'm saying is, hey man, here these people deserve to make a living, earn wages, and in the same way that the widows were supported from wages, right in that same context, the pastors are supported financially, double honor. You want to say it's a day rate.
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay,
it doesn't matter. These passages are about a laborer, a day laborer.
That's what a pastor is, Nate. What do you think a pastor does, man?
Most pastors, do you think Mike Todd's a day laborer?
I don't know Mike Todd.
Do you think Steve Furtick is a?
I don't know Mike. I think they work. probably pretty hard. I don't know any of these guys.
Who's the pastor of North Coast? Is he a day laborer?
Chris Brown.
$150,000 a year is not a day laborer.
They work every day, and you're caught up in the type of compensation. But you here
because there's massive compensation differences between a day laborer and an hourly laborer and a salaried employee.
Nate, do you concede that these people were compensated, not salary? Can you just concede that these pastors were paid a wage, and according
based off of what Paul said, yes, not based off of what Christ said.
That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. So according to you, Paul says that pastors and elders are worthy of a wage. Fine. Yes.
Worthy of a wage. In regards to sustaining.
Come on, man.
Double honor. You're the first. Double honor is not like salary. You said this is salary.
Nate, you keep using the word salary.
They are day laborers.
This is what I mean. We're caught up on day labor or salary. I'm saying, man.
No, it's not. Because guess what? Me as the landowner, if you came and worked for me, or if I was giving to Paul as the laborer, I could say, hey, thank you. Here's some money.
Yeah.
No. But you won't even churches won't disclose salaries. That's the opposite of that.
I just told you there are churches that disclose salaries. I told you that there are churches that don't do any salaries. I told you that at my church, the people who need to know.
Again, now you're taking fringe. Oh, some churches don't have salaries. Some churches do this.
No, there's a spectrum of churches. My issue, the whole issue we're having, Nate, is we're taking the fringe of the fringe. People that I would probably agree with you on. People that don't want to sit down with me, that we're actively working. I'll tell you who they are off the record. And we would probably lock arms and agree
that they're not being transparent.
There's some probably sketchy stuff going on. I think they could be more transparent. I think the mandating of tithing is weird. I don't think that should be happening. And we can lock
up. But then your pastor sort of teaches tithing.
Okay, that's a mandating of tithing. What I'm saying is we can lock arms on that, you and me. Yes?
On what?
On some of the fringe stuff that's happening. The Kenneth Copelands, the folks with these elaborate housing allowances.
It's not fringe, it's systemic.
Okay, so what I'm saying is me and you can lock arms on that. Mike Winger can lock arms on that. The question becomes, how prevalent is this? And that's why I keep bringing it back to the BLM issue, where people made the same argument. It's systemic. Police and law enforcement is racist through and through. The country is systemically racist. And what happened? What happened? Cities were burnt down because of that type of thinking.
See,
It's
this is
all or
interesting,
nothing
though.
thinking.
You try to paint me as a anti-police. What
Oh, no, I'm not trying to paint you as anything. You
I'm
probably
using this as
love
an
police.
analogy.
Yes, I'm pointing to the
defund
type.
the police.
Yeah, defund the
so
police.
You're saying, Nathan, like defund the churches. No, I'm saying bring transparency into the system. That's like me saying, hey, we need more police to fix the problem.
Okay, so
but you're saying, no, Nathan, no. The problem doesn't exist.
I'm saying our definitions of transparency are very different. Our
well,
definitions,
you said it's unity and trust, which is the antithesis of
You think
of
anyone that
transparency.
pulls up to a church and gives any money should know everything about the church, and that's
No, I
where we
never said
disagree.
that.
Okay, what do you're saying churches should file their 990s and the congregation should know what the pastor makes.
Could you pull up the definition of transparent, please?
Sure, I could pull up the definition of transparent. We're getting into minutia and the weeds
No,
of
it's not.
words.
This is the benchmark of the whole thing.
And I'm saying transparency has levels to it. And there's different types of, you don't have internet here, huh?
No, I have like no service.
Sorry, dude.
Saboteur.
My bad. The quality of allowing light to pass through so that the object behind can be, that's probably not the definition we're looking at.
No,
right
but
now.
you can see what it means though.
Yeah, the quality of being open to public scrutiny. Yes, public scrutiny. And so
thank you.
No.
There's nothing about unity, nothing about trust. It's being open to public scrutiny.
If I say transparency is anchored on these values, right? These values.
But it's not
in the context of a local church.
No, see, you're bending the definition to the local church.
Listen to me. I'm not bending the definition of a local church. I'm not bending anything. I'm saying, hey man, within the context, within different contexts, we have various degrees of transparency based on the season of life we're in, based on the access people have to us. That is wisdom. That is healthy. That is wise. In the same way, my 10-year-old doesn't know what I spent on my 4-year-old's present, and vice versa. They don't need to know everything about everything.
That's not a corporation.
Okay, so again, we can go back to the corporation. We're going in circles here.
We are.
We talked about the corporation. I already explained to you. I read the IRS filings for you. I explained to you why churches are exempt from filing 990s. You disagree. I want to keep the government out of as much stuff as possible.
Cool.
Okay,
So
and on top of 400,000 churches are now having to file these things, are now having to have the accounting to do all these extra things. There's a lot of small churches that, as I'm sure as you know, oftentimes are less efficient with finances. They're spending higher amounts on salaries. You guys are astonished they were spending 37%. That's like a crazy, because you know that, yes, churches, different systems work out well. And I told you that, hey, man, yeah, I think that some pastors do need to be more transparent. I have no qualms with that. To the degree of transparency.
So you would agree that pie chart that you guys have in there is transparency?
Yes, I think it's phenomenal.
Okay.
I think it's great. I think it allows people to know where the money is generally being spent.
Generally being spent. That is a very loose term. Who defines what generally is?
We define what generally is. The church defines what generally is. And if they don't like it, they can ask questions. If they don't like the answers, they can find a different church.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So there's no accountability. If you don't like our answers, find another church.
There's accountability to the boards. There's accountability in relationships. There's accountability with folks that are the core of the church. There's tons of accountability. You just don't like the accountability. You don't like the answers I'm giving you. And so you're saying it's my way.
You're morphing the.
No.
Nathan, you literally said transparency is unity and trust.
Nope. I said we can pull the tape back. I said transparency is built on maturity and unity. That's what I said. Transparency in the context of many things is built on that. So with my wife, full transparency on all things. With my buddy Chris Robertson, not as much transparency, right?
Gotcha.
Unity and trust.
So let's go to the bedrock because we are kind of dancing around.
We are going in circles.
So
and then let me know if I can ask you some questions because you've been getting me with the questions for a while.
I love questions. Yeah, ask them. So can we agree that the Ekklesia is the gathering? What is
the local gathering?
The local gathering
is an Ekklesia.
Is an Ekklesia.
Yes.
So it's just it's people. It's that organism.
Yes.
What is the buildings? What are the stages? What are the salaries?
It's tools. It's different tools. Just
it's
like me filing
a business, right?
Just like me filing as an S corp saves me some money versus filing as an LLC.
Yeah.
It's just
it's a business structure. It's a corporate structure.
Sure, but hold on. The idea that corporate structures are always bad. Or the idea that
I never said corporate structures are bad.
Okay, but that's how most people hear it. Again, we're living in a hyper skeptical.
Yeah, no, I said we need to reform corporate structures.
And I'm telling you how we reform corporate structures is from within the church.
I agree.
Is by people who are actively giving to their churches, getting on those boards, going to those meetings and serving. That's how we reform things. We don't reform things from the outside.
You need to bring transparency into that system.
Yes, but you're out. This is how you're perceived, Nate. You're an outsider who has no relationship with any of these people that you're reaching out to. And you're
I've emailed
creating,
and called them in
that's not
dozens of times.
That's not a relationship, though, Nathan. You have no relationship.
So you want me to trust and be unified before a corporation opens up?
So yes.
Really?
I think anybody that is a member of a church, it's not the same as a corporation. It's not the same as a nonprofit. I've already made the case why they're different.
It is a corporation. On your articles of incorporation, it says corporation on the top.
We're using the same word different ways. By corporation, you're saying entity. I'm saying the same way that every other corporation is. It's different. Okay. And I'm saying it is opt out of certain things. You don't like that it's opt out of certain things. I understand. My issue then becomes, is this a Nate's way or no way? That's my issue.
All.
Yes, it is.
No.
You're Nate, you're saying every church,
seen the religion business.
every church needs to file a 990. That's what you're saying.
I think that would be the best structure for a corporation.
Okay. And I've given you reasons on why I don't think it's good. I don't want the government in the church's business. I don't think it's efficient. I think it creates a bigger burden on the local churches that are already understaffed. I think it creates a bigger, and I think it's going to overwhelm the IRS on top of which.
That is the biggest. I think it may overwhelm the IRS.
Let's table that. Fair enough. You're also talking about a federal government that wastes billions and billions of dollars. I don't think they need to oversee anything. And I don't think outsiders need to oversee anything in a church that they're not a part of. What I'm telling you is, generally speaking, if you're a part of a church, you will get various degrees of the questions that you have. That's generally
various
true.
Degrees of answers to the questions.
You have. Yes.
So
depending on your commitment, depending on your unity, depending on your maturity. I don't know why that's unreasonable to you.
Because it is a corporation.
Okay.
That has often 1.2 million for a smaller church coming in every year. You're saying 2 million. You're clearly growing. As you grow,
we're killing it. We've doubled.
That's awesome. Yeah. As you grow, more, that is demanding more transparency in that system. So here's what I want to do.
So we have outside audits. I've
already explained the audits are bonk.
We have inside audits. We're about to go through
inside audits. What does that mean?
Internally, we have to, everybody has to do.
No,
I
get what you're saying, but I'm like an inside audit with no legal document.
No, we have to have a P&L. Like we have to have a P&L.
You can doctor and do whatever you want.
And the person filing the 990 can lie too.
Sure,
if people want to lie, they will lie.
But then that document is a public document,
and
that everybody can see and go, "Holy smokes!
Yes,
this organization lied."
And the church,
and then they're held to account for it.
Can be held accountable and can get in trouble if they don't follow the regiments of the board and they don't properly assign
salaries.
That's not
true at all.
What do you mean that's not true at all? Legally, can they get in trouble? Yes or no?
What are the steps that have to take place if someone?
That's not what I asked you. I said, can they get in trouble?
With who?
With the IRS.
And not really.
If you're not keeping notes, if you're not tracking stuff, you can get audited and get in serious trouble with the IRS. You know this.
No, the IRS does not audit almost any churches.
Okay, almost. Yeah. But can they? That's that I'm talking about. Can they?
Phil Hackney, who oversaw the nonprofit sector, he goes, Nathan, it basically appears into a black box.
But it can happen.
What, like PTL stealing hundreds of millions? Yeah, sure.
Yes.
They go after.
I don't even know who PTL is.
They go at the PTL ministries. Jim Baker, Tammy Baker.
Yeah, bro. Like again, Nate, you're pointing to the most fringe.
Because you just said the IRS might come after you.
Yeah, they could. They technically could legally.
After one,
they could
because they have to make a
nonprofit church can get in trouble if they don't properly keep order and notes. I got buddies.
Sure.
Remember I told you, hey man, they're trying to get me to start a nonprofit for the Blessed God Summit. They have nonprofits.
Yeah.
And they got to go through meticulous orders. They got to have meetings.
Because they're a secular nonprofit, right?
No, because they're a Christian nonprofit. Because they are filing as a Christian nonprofit.
That's still a nonprofit. That's still a secular nonprofit that files a 990.
Oh, okay. Hold on. No. I'm not talking about 990s. I'm talking about Christian YouTubers.
Yeah, they are still a nonprofit that has to file 990s.
They're not. I don't think they have to file. I think they're counted as ministries.
Ministries have to file 990s. Churches.
Sorry, I think they qualify as churches.
So you're telling me a YouTuber is a church?
Don't quote me on that. I think that there are YouTubers that are churches though, and they have to file their they have to have their meetings and their notes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so
that's what I want to go through this list right now of what defines it.
I don't think Christian YouTubers file 990s. I could be wrong on that. I think I'm
pretty sure they
function
do.
as like parachurch ministries.
Or auxiliaries and conventions, but that's a very bizarre deal.
Well, hey, this is why I'm not creating one. Yeah. Like this is where me and you have unity on. Yeah. Like a Ruslan doesn't have a nonprofit, right? I don't have a parsonage. Okay, so where were we? We're all.
I wanted to. We were talking about the Ekklesia,
the local Ekklesia,
in the corporation, and I want to just for a fun game, I want to go through what the IRS defines as a church.
Sure.
And I want to say
Hell's Angels.
No. The 14 points, and I want to say. Sure. Is this biblical? Because some you might be able to point to, but some aren't. So distinct legal existence, corporation. Is there anything in the Bible that says you need to file a corporation to?
No, but that's an argument from silence.
Recognized creed and form of worship.
Yeah, most churches have a recognized freedom.
But is that biblical?
Is it biblical?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a creed in 1 Corinthians 15.
Yeah, so there's ties to the Bible on that one.
Sure.
Definite and distinct ecclesiastical government.
Definite and board. That sounds like a board.
Okay, so you got two. Well, and that's sort of biblical.
You should have
with the
elders.
and
Yeah.
all
For
that.
Acts 6, yes.
Formal code of doctrine and discipline.
Should you have a formal code of doctrine?
No,
and
these are
discipline?
the checklists for the IRS that define a church.
Yeah, that's good. I think
is that biblical?
Is it to have a formal code of
doctrine and discipline?
Is it biblical? It talks about knowing doctrine and
like there's
yeah, sure. So I would say yes.
Okay, so distinct religious history.
Yeah, I mean the Jews became the Christians.
Okay, so this is where it gets fun. Can the Hell's Angels, does it have a distinct religious history?
I don't think so.
Like Scientology.
They didn't meet it. They have to meet every week though. Is it one of the
That's
12?
they have to meet once every 30 days. That's where we're getting.
Yeah, okay.
So membership not associated with any other church or denomination.
Membership not associated with any church.
With any other church or denomination.
Okay, so they can't be like two churches.
Can't be going to two churches.
I mean, sure. Again, it's an argument from silence. Like whether or not it's in the Bible.
I'm saying what's biblical or not, because I'll keep going. Organization of ordained ministers.
Yeah, you should have pastors that have been had hands laid on them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ordained ministers selected after completing a prescribed course of study.
Yeah, I think people should be educated, but I don't think that's like a make it or break it. You know, Paul did go to Arabia for a couple years and study with the apostles.
Literature of its own. So not the Bible, but other literature.
I would count the sermons as that. So like, there's talking.
Established places of worship, physical houses.
Yeah, I think so.
That's biblical.
They rented homes. They don't have to be buildings
but not
outside.
Established, like this building is for this church.
I think in the scriptures, I could pull up the archaeology. There are buildings that were homes converted into churches very early.
Okay.
Very, very early.
Regular congregations. That's the meeting at least once a month.
Yes.
Regular religious services.
Yeah.
That's meeting up. Sunday schools for the religious instruction of the young.
Yeah, you should have childcare.
Cool. Schools for the preparation of its ministers, seminaries.
A church has to have a seminary?
No. But this is there needs to be schools for like the so you need seminaries basically.
I'm sorry, you're losing me there.
Schools for the preparation of its ministers. So this is what the IRS sees as if you have a school for your preparation of your ministers. So if you're a Baptist and you go to some Baptist seminary, then there's that school for you. There's that seminary.
So can you connect to a school?
Basically, like where are your staff?
I think that's I don't think that's biblical. No, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, cool. So the reason why I wanted to go through these is when you look at these were written in the 1950s. When you look at this and then you look at the American Christian landscape today, it is a mirror replica of this.
Okay.
Some of it's not biblical. It's cultural.
Sure.
It's tradition.
But not everything cultural is bad.
No, I'm not saying it is, but what I'm saying is the American Christian church today is defined off of these 14 points.
I love that you wrote those in hand.
I lost the other page. I lost a lot of pages today. They were like ripping off.
I don't quite understand your point because
my point is the American church is not a biblical church. So it is based off of the IRS definitions to receive tax exemption.
The American church is not a biblical church.
This isn't this bottle.
Yeah, I actually can use some water too. Did you drink from that bottle or no?
No.
Can you pour something for me?
Yeah.
Don't poison me. Yeah. So what I'm saying to you, Nate, is so here's my thought on that. One, I don't think that just because something is not biblical that it therefore can't exist. There's a lot of stuff.
I'm not saying that either.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that we do that's not biblical, right? The way we celebrate Christmas is not biblical, but we still get together and we reflect on Jesus being born.
Yeah.
But it's not biblical.
There's
a whole controversy on can Christians celebrate Halloween?
Yeah, that's in my so what bucket. I don't care about that.
Yeah. So let me just flesh this out. So what I'm saying is, just because something is not biblical doesn't mean it's bad. And the way I see the church, local ecclesial gathering, under harsh persecution. Okay, they couldn't be legal. They were persecuted, yet they had these house churches that then start evolving to these distinct house churches that were repurposed for places of worship. And they start utilizing the things that's available to them, whether that's a building, whether that's an amphitheater, whether that's a sound system, whether that's a stage, whether that's a worship band, whether that's a choir, whether that's an organ, fill in the blank. And the church has always flowed in and out of things that are technologically beneficial for it.
Yeah.
And to me, and you might disagree with this, and you're totally fair to disagree with this, in the same way I have a legal document for my marriage and we get certain tax benefits, is in the same way I have an S corp for my business. I get certain benefits. Is in the same way a church says, hey man, I want to take advantage of this 501c3 and we're going to get certain benefits and we can build a parsonage or we can buy the pastor a parsonage and so on and so forth, which has its own risk. So I just see it all as one extension. So this idea of like, it's not biblical, I would say it doesn't have to be biblical. So much of our day-to-day life is not biblical. It's probably not biblical for me to sit and read a chapter of Proverbs every day and then go read a chapter of the New Testament. That's probably not biblical. It's right? Think that through for a second. They didn't have Bibles. They didn't have quiet devotional times. They had scrolls, and then there was oral tradition, right? So it's not biblical, but it's good. It's healthy. It's you. I'm sure you've read through the Bible, like in a personal devotional. Like there's something, whether you think Paul is on the same level as Jesus, there's something transcendent about taking in God's word. These things aren't biblical, but they're good for you. And so I would say, man, most of those things, childcare, I think that's great. Some churches don't have childcare.
Yeah, but
are they super curious, and then you can go. If a church doesn't have childcare, can they get in trouble with the IRS?
You don't have to check all these boxes. You have to check a certain number.
So like I just think of like I think Eastern Orthodox folks and I want to say Lutherans, like they take their kids into church with them. My kids, my 4-year-old is not a fan of childcare right now. 10-year-old loves it. He serves. If they're taking in they don't have anything for the kids, can they get in trouble?
No, like I said, you don't have to check all 14 boxes.
Oh.
Phil Hackney is like, he basically, there's another thing called the associational test, and it's if you have a building, if you meet regularly, and then you have a congregation. And he's like, if you have that form, the IRS is usually like, okay, that's why the Hells Angels can get in.
Okay. So your point with this,
my point with this
is that IRS has all these things, and they're not biblical, and this is kind of now shadows the modern day church.
Yes.
And you think that's bad?
No, not necessarily bad, but what I'm saying is we've created a system, a cultural system, and we call that church. Okay. And a lot of times this institution, this corporation eats the Ekklesia alive.
Okay, how does that happen?
Because it demands your money, because it's an expensive corporation.
Okay.
It demands your time. Okay. Like you say it in your book, time, talent, treasure. The corporation absorbs it all. Okay. We're building stages and productions to worship ourselves and what we've created.
Okay, you just made a huge jump. So let's go through that. So the church has stages, has lights.
No. The corporation.
Okay.
Has stages. You have to separate the two.
Okay. The corporation, which the church files under, has stages, has lights. Why are those intrinsically bad? Help me understand why those are bad.
The church doesn't file. A couple individuals that want to start a religious institution files for corporate.
I love how surgical you are. Why is that bad?
Because words matter.
Okay. Why is that bad?
Why is that bad? Why was what bad?
The stage, the lights. Why do you have an issue with those things?
Because you're building a brand, a corporation in and of itself that's using the true body and bleeding the true body dry as you build these entities. Even like look at Rhythm. With the best intentions, Jeff stands on stage and preaches tithing. He says, oh, this is not a law anymore, but it's a prescription. Yeah. So he's encouraging you to give 10%.
Yes, let's not keep going back to that, because I think people can watch that and they can decide for themselves what he was saying, and if what he said is what you said he said.
We use scripture to justify the corporation we've built today, which is tithing. It's the easiest, because tithing disappeared.
I think you and me agree on tithing. Would you agree that like, hey man, living on 90 and giving 10 is just a good financial principle?
I think it's I don't know, not necessarily.
So you don't think generosity, like the regular practice of generosity,
right? That's different than living on 90.
I just gave you a percentage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think percentages are legalistic. Generosity is a very big deal.
So if I'm being honest, the percentages in the Old Testament, and I would say radical generosity in the New Testament, I would say would probably go above higher than 10%. Okay.
For sure.
And that's what we're striving
for. The original tithes, which was
25%.
Agriculture,
yes.
23.3.
23.
Agriculture and livestock. It wasn't money.
So fine. And we've went over that. Now, do you think that being generous in a consistent rhythm, whether that's 10%, 5%, 25%, 50%, 100%, do you think that's good for people?
100%.
Okay, so it is good to be generous.
I said generosity is good.
But how about budgeting generosity?
This is not a biblical
regular
mandate.
rhythms. Regular rhythms. Is it good for you to take a day off from work every week? Is it good for you?
I don't know. Sometimes I take 2 days off. Sometimes I take 4. Sometimes I take none for a month.
Taking at least a day off, I would hope you would say, man, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
It's good.
So giving regularly is good.
Generosity is good.
Tomato. Generosity and giving.
Because the American Christian church is obsessed with money.
But based on what?
Based off the demands of the institutions we've created.
Nathan, I don't know how many churches you've been a part of, my brother. I don't know. I don't know any churches that are obsessed with money. Money is a means to an end. I know
churches that have to preach on tithing once a month because they have such big overheads.
And man, we praise God we don't have to do that. And there are churches that don't ever teach on tithing, and they're doing just fine.
See, but where you're conflating tithing is legalistic. Tithing is not generosity. Tithing is legalism.
We already went over tithing. I said tithing is a principle. I'm gonna have to use the restroom in a second. I think tithing is a principle, just like Sabbath is a principle. If you want to go, hey man, I don't want to take a day off every week, I would say, man, I don't think that's wise, but you do you, bro. In my life, we've always given at least 10%, and goodness gracious, I feel extremely blessed, and I feel like it's good for me.
So this is why words matter. When a pastor's on stage and says the word tithe, it immediately goes to legalism, and Christ was not illegal.
No, it doesn't. Because in the same way I could say Sabbath,
10% is a legalistic number. There's no generosity behind tithe.
Let me make the point. In the same way someone can say Sabbath, the Seventh-day Adventist is going to hear this and go, what do you mean I'm not supposed to take a literal Sabbath? How dare you? Those people exist. We would say, yeah, those folks are legalistic, right? But when a pastor says Sabbath, you and I both know, John Mark Comer, all this stuff about practicing the way, they're not always talking about a literal Friday to Saturday Sabbath. You and I both know that. He's using it as shorthand for, hey, there's something to this principle, and I'm using the word, I'm not using it the way the Jews practice it today. I'm using it in shorthand. So what I'm saying is when folks are saying tithe, in the same way that some people, the Seventh-day Adventist type about finances can hear that and go, yeah, you got to give it. It's 10%. If you don't, you're a bad person and you're going to go to hell. Okay. I think most people are just hearing it shorthand for the same way we say Sabbath. That's how I've always viewed it. Maybe you can point me to examples of prosperity churches and hyper-charismatic churches that use it different.
I can point you to your own pastor.
And my own pastor nuanced it, and then you put words in his mouth.
Not really. No, he said, tithing, we should be giving 10%. And he even had dollar bills. He goes, I'm going to give another dollar bill.
Yes, yes. And he nuanced it.
That's legalism.
That's not legalism.
If you say you should tithe,
no.
Tithe means 10%. There's no generosity behind that.
Sure there is, because for some people, any amount is generosity. Most people don't give anything.
See that right there is generosity. When you said if there's a struggling person, if there's a struggling single mom.
Yeah, she's probably, listen, in the same way, there's probably seasons in both of our lives, man, where we probably said, man, I got to put my head down. I got to grind. Maybe I just had a new baby, right? And I'm not taking no days off, right? There's a Proverbs 6, give your eyes no rest, go to the point of exhaustion. There's a time and a season for that. If a single mom is coming into the church and she's struggling, I don't think anyone is expecting her, anyone in my circles is expecting her to give 10%. I don't think anyone's taking her under church discipline.
I can name 10 pastors around the U.S.
And again,
do that.
I would say hasty generalization fallacy. I would say you're pointing to the fringe. I'm saying within general.
No, but see, your own pastor leans towards it.
Okay, leaning towards it versus teaching it as a law are very different things. I lean towards it as a principle. I lean towards it because I've done it and it's been transformative.
See, I would rather look at Christ and go to Christ's words on how he talks about generosity.
Okay, and the way Christ talked about generosity was that he was extremely generous, and I would argue way above 10%. I would say way above that. I would say Christ was extremely generous.
Christ didn't put a percentage on it.
Okay, and what I'm saying is I think it's a good financial principle. Me and you might disagree. This is a
good financial principle that props up the institution because the institution's expensive.
So the institution can be expensive. I'm not saying it's not expensive. I'm saying I think
your institution's expensive, $1.2 million a year.
That's subjective though. There's institutions that are $60 million a year.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, to most people, $1.2 million a year is a big spend.
I don't think so.
To raise $1.2 million a year is a lot of money.
I think we would say institutions are just means of operating. You want to go down this conversation because I'm really curious on what do you mean by institutions and systems and all this sort of stuff?
Legal corporate structures in the U.S.
Okay, so when you say the system or institution, what are you specifically talking about? Are you talking about the nonprofit church, the local church, or the entire idea of organized ministry?
Sorry, what?
The entire idea of organized ministry.
So
organized ministry.
What about it?
Receiving funds, giving, the missionary.
What is ministry?
Ministry is gathering and according to the church, gathering and doing the sacraments, teaching and preaching the word, worship, corporate worship. That's what ministry is.
Corporate worship.
Corporate worship.
Okay.
You don't like words, man. It's like corporate doesn't mean corporate doesn't mean
definitions.
Yeah, so corporate doesn't mean corporation. It means gathering. It means corporately we're getting together to do a night of worship or a Sunday morning gathering or a
The gathering,
church service.
where two or more gathered in my name, right?
Yes. So when you have issues with the system, what do you exactly mean? Like is
I don't have issues. Well, I have issues with the current legal structure of the religious exemptions here in the U.S. because it creates no transparency.
Let's
it
move,
is a dark system.
Let's move to solutions. So if the institutional church is corrupt by design, according to you, what would
I never said the institutional church was corrupt by design.
Okay, corrupt.
Good intentions pave the way to hell.
Corrupt.
You don't want the government involved, so you say, hey, stay out of my business. What does that do when you have a corporate structure with no external oversight?
I think the government being involved.
No. What does it do if a system has no external oversight to make sure that it's keeping in line and being transparent and accountable?
Nate, there is external oversight. There are boards. There are audits. You don't like the external oversight.
Dude, you won't even.
You don't like the external oversight.
In the for-profit, publicly traded world, everything is public knowledge. In the secular nonprofit world, everything is public knowledge.
And the church is distinct.
Both of those.
And the church is distinct from both of those. You don't like that answer. I've given you the history on it.
You leverage generosity or legalism to build an institution.
I don't leverage anything, and I'm not building a church.
The entire religious system in the U.S.
So if the institutional church is corrupt. Because
I didn't say.
What are you saying? Is what is flawed? Is unaccountable?
There's no accountability or transparency.
So let me rephrase this.
System.
If the institutional church is unaccountable, what would a healthy biblical alternative look like in your mind? Who would lead it, and how would they be supported?
That's not for me to say. Everybody's faith is their own.
Okay.
If you want to file for tax exemption, if you want to enjoy the tax benefits or the tax breaks in America, then you should be held accountable to either one of two groups, the government or the people funding the institution.
Okay. So you don't have a coherent replacement for us. You're just saying that's bad. You're saying that's bad.
Replacement for what?
Give me an example of how this can look like in Nathan's utopia of churches.
They need to start being accountable to their congregation. This isn't rocket science.
So if I'm telling you there's accountability, just not to the degree that you like, that's not good enough.
There's not accountability.
There is accountability.
Unless you hit a certain tier of giving and involvement.
No, unless you're unified and you're mature.
Institutional, you are a corporate structure. You file documents with the state and the Fed. At that point, you should be liable.
Can you give me a coherent replacement for this? Like, what does it look like in Nathan's? Like, how would you build a church? Whether they're small or big, whether they're meeting in a bit, like how would you build it in a way that is stable?
I wouldn't build a church. I wouldn't build a corporation.
Okay.
I think the corporation is a legal structure that Christ fought against. Every church has its own name.
Based on what?
Rhythm Church, the revival capital of the world. It doesn't say Jesus. There's only one church. It's Christ Church.
There's churches that have Jesus in them.
What I'm saying is you've created brands.
Okay, it's a name for a church.
No, it's not. It's a brand.
Oh, a brand is a name.
It's a differentiator because you need to be different than every other church around here because guess what? Congregants are consumers.
Okay, again, you keep saying you. I haven't created anything.
Okay.
I am a member of Rhythm Church. I love my church. I'm going to
Churches
celebrate my church.
are their own brands. That's why they grow. That's why they get bigger stages.
You're a brand. Nathan Apffel is a brand.
I'm not saying, hey, I'm an example. I am an example
all I'm
of
saying
Christ,
is everybody has a brand. And if a church wants to have a brand, and oftentimes, you may not know this, but man, churches have t-shirt lines and they have coffee shops. And a lot of times that subsidizes the expense of the church. So they don't have to be.
Do you want to go down that avenue? That's called UBIT. And guess what? Churches should be paying taxes on that. And they
do. Oftentimes they say they pay sales taxes.
No, unrelated business income tax.
No. What I'm saying is, okay, so we're getting into the weeds. I got a buddy that's a city council member. We're trying to get a building. He says, hey man, if you want to get a building, work with the city, what they're after is sales taxes. Here's how you guys could do it. Have a retail space that's paying sales taxes so that you can get access to a building because it's going to be very hard for you guys to get a building.
So see, this is the weird
thing
we
would be paying sales taxes within regards to that. So I'm just using that as an example.
See, but you're building a corporation. Christ never told us to build a corporation. You literally just said we should do a coffee shop, a clothing line.
Nathan, Christ also never said get up and read a chapter of Proverbs a day. That's an argument from silence. You keep making arguments from silence. Just because Jesus didn't say anything, that doesn't mean that having a church in a building is wrong. That's what I'm trying to point out to you. Now, with regards to example of a church, I just went to a church. great church, smaller church, they have a t-shirt line in a little coffee area. That t-shirt line is ran by a couple in a church that has their own silk screening. The ability to sell merchandise from the church, and people might say, this is terrible, Jesus flipped the tables. That church can subsidize some of the revenue, pay that family a livable wage to generate the apparel, and they sell it way beyond the church.
Do you hear yourself? Christ flipped tables because you turned his father's house into a marketplace.
He flipped
like
tables.
You are literally talking about coffee shops,
No.
clothing lines,
Listen,
buildings,
he
stages.
Flipped
You're like,
tables.
let's do it, Nathan.
Nathan, he flipped tables because people were doing unethical money exchanges as they were traveling in to buy doves at astronomically marked up rates.
So your pastor
the money changers
is using a legalistic term like tithe to get
you.
people to
I like how
give.
you couldn't engage with the context of what I just developed, and you went right to attacking my pastor. Engage with what I just said.
What did you,
he flipped tables. Why did he flip tables? Because there was money changers, and people were coming in from all over.
Yeah.
Why are you engage with what I'm saying? Don't attack me.
Because you
Don't
aren't being
attack my
transparent
church.
or accountable. You
Nathan,
put up a four-colored pie chart and said, ha-ha.
Nathan, this is ad hominem, brother. I just said the context of that passage. You said Jesus flipped tables. And I said the reason he flipped tables is not because there was a Christian t-shirt. It's not because
you turned his father's house into robbers' den.
Because how did they do that? They charged money changers in exchange of money at astronomical rates to buy sacrifice. That's the context.
To take a rip off the top, basically.
Yes, that's the context of the passage. So engage with what I'm saying.
So what is a housing allowance that's not unknown? Or that's not known? That's taking a rip off the top.
Listen to me. No, it's not. It's not the same as people coming from all over the world, the known world, and they're going to the temple to worship. And then you're saying, hey, man, to get this dove, it costs this much, but we're going to take your currency, we're going to double it, we're going to triple it, we're going to charge you more. That is not the same thing, Nathan.
It's not the same thing as taking a housing allowance without your congregants knowing.
No, it's not the same thing. And again,
it's not the same thing as taking a clothing allowance if your congregants don't know it.
I don't like clothing allowances. I think that's kind of cringe.
Okay, well, but it's
me
not
and you would probably agree on the clothing allowances. That's pretty cringe.
It's a slippery slope because now you're saying, housing allowances don't need to be known.
Okay.
That's taking advantage of the generosity of others.
I never said they don't need to be known. I said they're known to a board of elders and a board of overseers. That's who they're known to, and they're known to people who are givers and active in the church and have unity and maturity. Let's move on. So, do you believe any system involving human beings can remain uncorrupted long term, or is corruption inevitable
in human systems?
Any system.
Well, are we talking about divine systems or human systems? Human systems ultimately corrupt, and ultimate authority ultimately corrupts. And just the fact that pie chart is ultimate authority. I can bury whatever I want in those colors.
Okay, so if that's inevitable, how do you guard your own heart from sliding into cynicism? Like if everything is going to hell at some point, and it's going to be corrupted in
everything's not going to hell at some point.
Okay. Going to be corrupted. Any human system
Any
is going
man-made
to,
systems
is going to be corrupted.
Yes.
How do you guard your own heart against cynicism?
I look to Christ and find hope in Christ and mirror my life after Christ alone.
Okay.
I don't look to systems. I don't look to institutional churches or corporations for hope. I look to Christ alone.
Okay.
And when you do that, and once you have that lens of Christ, you start looking around and you go, man, even our most well-intentioned systems and our most well-intentioned leaders are so flawed that they'll create an institutional structure with good intentions that's so dark and so opaque that the true church that's supposed to be shining out of it is eaten alive by it.
So your statement is no one can take money from the system and not be eaten by it. Okay.
No pastors, like that was referring to pastors, no full-time pastors can take money from this system that has no legal accountability and not be eaten by it eventually.
Did Paul and Peter and the apostles who took money, did they have legal accountability for the money that they took?
Paul rotted in jail and died. Most of them died.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
The money that they took, the support that we took, that we went through 1 Corinthians 5, did they have oversight, legal oversight, IRS? Did they file 990s?
I don't know if they had friends that were being held.
Friends? Now it's just friends.
Where did Paul, why was Paul doing those money raises, by the way?
To support other churches.
Support churches. Support the poorer churches.
Yeah. And then he would ask the wealthier churches to take care of him. We see that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4.
Yeah, so it was always about the poor. It wasn't about building an institution. It wasn't about building a building and a stage and making it flashier and clothing lines and coffee shops.
The church.
It was about helping the poor.
Yes, and Christians, according to the data, help the poor practicing Christians who go to church every week, help the poor, are less likely to get divorced, are more likely to adopt than any other demographic.
That has
of
nothing to
people.
do with the church,
everything,
bro. It has everything to do with the gospel.
You just said the church is the gathering of people. And so if I'm keep pointing to you, hey man, these folks going.
You're blending it again. You take the institution, this corporation, and you smash it with the Ekklesia, and you go, it's one and the same.
No. I'm saying all I'm saying is the institution is just a system to house the Ekklesia, to protect them from the government.
System, right? A human-driven system.
We've already agreed that every single system is going to be flawed at some point in time.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so all I'm saying is that is just a vehicle to take advantage of tax benefits, to keep the government out of our business, just like an S corp is, just like a marriage certificate is. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So you keep saying these words, systems and structures and all that sort of stuff.
So why not go fully to, like, you're teetering on the fence here. You're like, I want transparency, but certain things shouldn't be known.
I think we have adequate transparency.
At what point, who defines that adequate transparency?
I think each congregation, each local ecclesia can define their own systems, and the congregation can work within those systems.
You have to hit a certain tier and be involved at a certain point.
You have to build maturity. You have to build trust. You have to build consistency. You have to build unity. Yes.
So who defines all those? You do.
What do you mean I do?
Jeff does. Like, this is the thing is, at what point... You're fence riding. You're saying, "Oh, I want transparency, but."
No, I'm saying our definitions of transparency. I think your definition of transparency is everybody knows everything.
No, my definition of transparency is the literal Merriam-Webster's definition.
And
yours is unity and trust and
I said the anchors of transparency are unity and trust. So you can
the anchors. There's no anchor to transparency. Transparency is just being transparent.
You know that there's a way. That
holding up to public scrutiny was the
as an influencer can overshare on social media. Yes.
Oh yeah, I assume so.
Yeah. So is that healthy transparency?
I'm not trying to be transparent to my audience in regards to every aspect of my life.
Okay.
Why? Because I am not a corporation stewarding donor money.
Okay. But you are a corporation. What if you had a nonprofit and you were saying that everything about your life should be transparent to the world?
What does my life have to do with a nonprofit? My life is my personal life.
You're missing the point.
You just said if you had a nonprofit, guess what? If I had a nonprofit, it would file an I-90 and be transparent to the state and Fed and all my donors.
And there's nonprofits that do that. So what I'm asking
all
you
nonprofits do
that. Not every. We keep going back to the transparency. I don't understand how you don't get the point that there's boundaries.
That's the bedrock of the religion business.
And there's parameters.
It is a business that plays in the darkest
it's the flag
legal structure
that you decided
in America.
to build everything on. And so when I'm pushing back in a very reasonable and logical fashion, hey man, join a church that does have the transparency you want. If you don't like that church, join a different church. Hey, if you're at our church, this is what we provide. If that's not enough for you, ask questions. If you don't like the questions, join a different church. All very reasonable. But for you, you've planted your flag and there is no reasoning with you.
I planted my flag in what?
In this idea that every church needs to tell you and everybody else through a 990, through a 990,
congregants who are funding it.
And what I'm saying is there are churches like that exist. There are churches like that are congregational, deacon, all types of different churches. There are home churches. And there are churches that you get more access.
And they're all based on the same guidelines that have no external accountability or oversight.
Okay, and we went over external accountability. We went over all that. Okay, so if earning a wage always corrupts.
I never said earning a wage always corrupts. If you work
earning a salary.
If you work for an institution
earning a salary
that has external accountabilities, if you work for Microsoft, guess what? Your salary is public knowledge. That's not a corrupting factor because why? That data point is it's transparent. You can't even, like when we pulled Merriam-Webster's dictionary up, you couldn't even say, oh yeah, that's transparency. You made your own Christianese version of it.
I said accountability is something that churches have now based on the legal filings and the boards that they have.
Churches do not file legal filings. You just said
they file their taxes. What are you talking about? Churches file taxes all the time.
What?
Churches don't file taxes every year, Nathan?
They do not file anything with the Fed.
They don't file. No churches has to file anything ever.
They file things with the state for salaries.
Yes, of course. They file stuff. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Churches have accountability. They do file stuff.
They have accountability. They do not have accountability over the budget, though.
Okay, yes, they do. There's CPAs. There's HR people.
We already went through the audits.
There's accounting. There's accountants.
Any information you as the church
you're saying there's no accountability. I'm saying there is accountability. I'm saying there is transparency. It's just not to the degree that you would like.
No, and it's not to what I like. If you're a legal corporation, there should be a legally binding document that you're held to account for.
And we went over why churches are exempt from that. They're not like nonprofits and they're not like regular corporations.
Yes.
They're different. They're distinct.
What
they're
do
unique.
you like? So $500 50 billion is given by individual Christians here in the U.S. to Christian institutions a year. We're at about $1 trillion globally. 92 billion is stolen annually by church staff.
I'm so glad you brought that up. You brought up this thing about 52 billion, which I want to go into.
92 billion.
Yeah, which I want to go into with you.
Yeah.
The entire federal government we're talking about trillions in the past 20 years. So I just don't want those folks overseeing everything a church does. I think there's a hell, and that's why I don't want to do 990. So we don't have to keep going in circles there. Okay, so let's go over this. So I looked into this ecclesiastical crime article that you put out. I wish I could pull it up here. So here's what I found. Applying findings on fraud from the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, it is plausible that and I looked at the 22 numbers, so forgive me if I'm not up to date, approximately 52 billion or 6.5% of all funds given by Christians globally was lost to fraud and embezzlement. Okay, so one, we see that there's a couple things. One, that the word is plausible. Okay, two,
you got to estimate it. You can't go around the world and talk to every church. Yeah.
Sure. Two, they apply the FC generic 6%, 6% fraud rate from secular nonprofits as well. Okay, and business to global Christian giving tools. So this is not a direct study of church financials. This is
they take
secular nonprofits, churches. It's global, and this is based on an estimate according to the ACFE's generic 6% fraud rate. So they looked at what's generated. It's like $1 trillion now. They applied an arbitrary 6% based on their own estimates.
Based on what their estimates found.
Yes, and they said it is a plausible rate. So this idea that keeps getting thrown around, like applying the findings on fraud from the Association of Certified Examiners, this is not data. This is an estimate. This is literally what it is.
Do you think a think tank at Harvard can go around and interview every church in the world and say, "Hey, how much has been stolen internally?"
But it's not just. It's not just churches. It's secular nonprofits as well.
92 billion is stolen annually by church staff.
That's as well.
Ministries like your buddies with YouTube, same thing. Guess what? Secular nonprofits file 990s. So the fraud rate is actually lower in 990s than in religious organizations, or it's plausible that it would be because guess what? They at least have a legal document they're held to account for.
Yeah, oddly enough, the same study says that nonprofits organizations, especially those that begin as small, are under-resourced volunteer-run organizations face even tougher challenges in combating this financial fraud.
Yes.
So they're not saying that churches
Wait, read that again?
Not this in a thing.
Yeah.
Non-church or nonprofit organizations, especially those that begin as small, under-resourced volunteer-run organizations face even tougher challenges in combating financial fraud. They're not saying that churches are uniquely corrupt. They're saying small nonprofits of any kind are vulnerable when they lack administrative oversight. And everything we've been talking about has been about administrative oversight.
You just, wow. When you lack administrative oversight, fraud happens. The religious exemptions lack administrative oversight from a legal perspective.
But Nathan,
all of them. Okay. Thank you for proving the point of the religion business.
But the number comes from a projection. They didn't audit churches because according to, they can't, right? They took the secular CFE fraud rate and multiplied it by all global Christian giving, including secular nonprofits with Christian donors, then call it plausible. Not proven.
The only
it's
thing
not
you
proven.
can track is in secular, religious ministries.
Yes. So the authors admit
secular religious ministries, religious nonprofits.
Yes. The authors themselves admit that the true extent of fraud is unknown. So it's not
it's much higher.
So it's not an account of what's stolen or what's embezzled. It's an extrapolation based on whatever consensus they have on secular nonprofits.
Hermeneutics professors do. They study data and they say, this is the estimate. And that's a conservative estimate. They think it's much higher.
So it's an estimate. I guarantee you what's going to happen is, and you can go, listen to me. Listen to me. What's going to happen is, I guarantee you, and I saw it happen. I saw it happen when I posted, I think pastors should be paid more. And there was folks that love you that instantly said, $100 billion is embezzled.
92.
Okay. Whatever the number.
What was I'm a big advocate of proper statistics.
I love it. 92 billion. And they're saying it with certainty and confidence without having read that this is an estimate based on global Christian giving and includes secular nonprofits.
Yes, it is the best estimate on what is stolen inside churches and secular nonprofits, because guess what? To your point, you don't want anybody to know the full extent of your financials.
Yeah, we want our board to know, we want our overseers to know, and we want those that audit us to know. That's who we want to know. So these are not, this is not, in my opinion, anyone that looks at this, and I'll encourage everybody, we'll link it below, go read the actual study. This is an estimate of what is unknown that is plausible.
Yes.
And it's been presented over and over. You said this to me on the phone the first time, and I was like, what? This is crazy. You were like, bro,
92 billion. Yeah.
60 billion, 92 billion. And then I go look at it.
Oh my God.
And
hey, so 68% of people that go to churches have a lower risk of death from despair, quoted per you on Shawn Ryan. Have you interviewed every single person that's ever gone to a church?
No.
Okay, so that's an estimate, right?
No. That's,
no. Is this an estimate? No. You're saying my dad is an estimate.
Nathan,
is this
my brother.
5 times more likely to die by, or less likely to die by suicide if you go to church?
My brother.
Did you talk to everybody?
That is a survey of people sharing information that they're being asked. And then within data, you know that 1,000 people or plus, or was it 1,500, considers good data. It's a good enough sample size. One of those is like 75,000 people that are being surveyed. So they're self-surveying and giving you the data based on surveys. This
study from Harvard, they went around and talked to churches too, all over the world.
This
you have to
is
estimate,
an estimate.
Just like this is an estimate. No?
That's not an estimate. That's a survey. People are providing.
They went around and surveyed too.
No, they used
data.
an arbitrary 6% number, and again the claim, and you can go look in your comments right now.
Yeah.
When people are arguing with me,
Yeah.
and the claim, and I don't know if I've heard you say it exactly this way, but the claim is, man, 60 billion, 92 billion just stolen. It's just flat out embezzled, and you're saying something with certainty without no audits, no surveys. Nothing outside of an estimate.
These are the leading Christian statisticians in the world that track this stuff. They have traveled the world, talked to churches. They make estimates, yes.
It's an estimate, though.
These are estimates, too.
Those aren't estimates. Those are surveys based on
You're
people
taking a 1,000
revealing.
person survey and saying,
I said
this is what Christian...
I said one of them was like 75,000.
This is... No, you said 1,000. This is the 2.3 billion Christians around the world, or this? No, you interviewed or you've surveyed 1,000 people. Come on, that's an estimate too.
Yeah, it's a sample size of 1,000, but there's no sample size of anything here. They didn't report any data.
Yeah,
they didn't. How many churches did they survey?
None. Read the whole article.
None. I did.
How do you know what churches generate then? How do you know what the global church generates? That almost trillion.
That's also an estimate.
Because they have to.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is all an estimate. It's not. It's not.
Of course, it's an estimate, dude.
It's not this magic bullet that like churches are.
I'm not
corrupt.
saying it is. I'm saying
but
this
you
is
throw
their
it
estimate of the smartest statisticians
you've thrown
in
it out.
the United States that are Christians, by the way.
But you've thrown it out, and your audience throws it out as if it's an absolute statement.
And you throw these stats out on Shawn Ryan
because they're surveys based on data compiled
Mm-hmm.
from people actually answering them. This is saying, hey, globally, and not to mention, this is all nonprofits that are given to by Christians. So of course, there's going to be global nonprofits that have waste. There's probably going to be global churches. There's going to be all sorts of issues on a global level. But this
100%.
number is consistently thrown around as a dogmatic statement, and that's my deep issue. Like if we can get to the core, the crux of our issue, is I think you're entitled to your opinions, bro. I think, man, if you love the house church, praise God. I think the frustrating part is that when I sit here and I reason with you for goodness gracious, we're going on 3 hours, and I'm reasoning with it. It's like, hey man, this is how we do it. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. This is how we do it. This is why we do it this way. Man, it can create envy, it can create jealousy. This is how we do it. And I do know my pastor's salary, and I do know what our church generates, and I do know what's in reserves, and I do know what we're working for. The issue goes, well, no, that's wrong, and it has to be done this way.
I've never said it has to be done anyway.
And there's no transparency unless there's a 990.
You said we're going around in circles.
So clarify.
Yeah.
When I sit here and I go, man, bro, God bless you. Home church, probably a great fit for you.
You have no idea about me.
Okay. I'm having a simple conversation.
I'm not trying
and
to tell you where to go to church.
What?
Yeah, home church is good for you.
No, I'm not. No. Nate. I'm really trying to do my best to just engage you and not demean you. So if I'm coming up, if that's my tone, bro, count it to
you make a lot of assumptions.
Count it to the Armenian in me, and as do you. You make a lot of assumptions in you, but count it to the Armenian in me. Maybe it's my tone. My brother Chris can relate. When I say, man, I think home church can be good for you. I think congregational church can be good for you. I'm saying, man, that's a fine system. It has more of the checks and balances that you probably like, and I think you should do that. And that's great. And praise God. And maybe by the work of your documentary, there probably will be some churches that start filing 990s. And I think that's good too.
Yeah.
And Church Disrupted, you know Jeff from Church
Jeff,
Disrupted. He's doing the spiritual abuse thing, and they're working on the Safe Church Pledge. And they're and I'm a partner of his. Like I give to him regularly. I really like the work he's doing. And they want to create, I think it's like a system of a Rolodex of churches that say how many pastors or how many staff members make over 6 figures. And I'm like, man, that's great. Praise God.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, they're working on it. The spiritual, you should look into that. I think that's actually a no.
I thought they were working on an NDA deal.
They got that, but they also have like a directory that they're working on of a Safe Church Pledge, so they could say, hey, here are safe churches that have pledged this, and based on their degree of transparency, they say how many people make 6 figures on staff, and then they don't give that information publicly, but they have it. And that's Jeff's way about doing it. And I go, praise God, that's awesome. The frustrating part is outside of like the hermeneutical issues and should pastors get paid and should they not get paid. The frustrating part is that when we're having this conversation, there can't be that, hey man, well, you like Rhythm Church, and Rhythm Church seems to be doing good, and praise God. Ruslan, you are a byproduct of the local church, as flawed as it is. Man, you love Jesus, you're a solid husband, you've never had scandal, you don't got a nonprofit, you're not doing any of the shady stuff I'm railing against. Why can't that be extended and saying, hey, unless if a church doesn't want to do a 990, if a church doesn't want to disclose their pastor's income to everyone that goes to the church or every giver at the church, why can't that just be conceded and just be like, man, cool, different strokes for different folks?
Because I'm not conceding that. You are a corporation that takes in money, and then you're masquerading as the biblical church, that Ekklesia, and a select few at the top decides what to do with those resources, and then you give a pie chart to your congregants and say, this should be enough. And the thing that frustrates me is from the very beginning, our entire mission is to bring transparency into this $1 trillion system. Because guess what? Christ, I'm a Christ follower. I'm not a Paul follower. I'm not a rhythm follower. I follow the words of Christ, my Savior through and through. And he gave very specific people who we should be helping in Matthew 25, in the orphans and the widows. And then he talked very specifically about generosity. When I look at the institutional church, these corporations, very little goes to what Christ called us to do. Instead, most of those resources are used to build the institution.
Do you think
we can't even, like, this is why this is potentially just a total loss for me, is we can't even define transparency equally.
Yeah, no, I think we have the same definition of transparency. I added, this is what transparency is usually built on. We had a whole conversation off the record about it. You guys don't like it. That's fine. You can say
transparency is we need to define
yes,
terms.
And what I'm saying is not everybody is transparent in every context, and not every church needs to be transparent about everything with everyone. That is very reasonable.
Legal corporations need to be transparent.
I don't think so. I don't think every legal corporation needs to be transparent about everything with everyone. I'm
not saying with everyone. There has to be a
their top
benchmark
givers,
standard of transparency.
I don't think that's
because
necessary.
of the abuse.
Okay.
You can speak down to some of the most brilliant Christian hermeneutics professors and statisticians in the world that aggregate that data. I can speak down and laugh at your 1,000-person polls all day long too. At the end of the day, there is a major problem in Christianity, and Christians feel it. Christians are trusting of the institution now.
No, I think Christians, I think people are skeptical of institutions because of the last 5 years of what we've gone through, everything from BLM to the vaccine and the trans stuff. And I think people are skeptical of institutions. And then I think we take this and we spotlight it, and there's good pastors that are making $50,000 a year, and they're doing the praying for the sick. They're discipling the teens.
Not.
But the issue is when you say stuff like, and they're eaten by the system for taking a modest salary.
That is interviews I've had with pastors that have retired and left the system.
That's fine.
Your stat alone, you said 47% of pastors feel like they're going to quit.
Yeah.
Is it because the system is broken?
No, Nathan. It's because they're doing great ministry work. They're going to the hospitals. They're praying for people. They're living sacrificially. Their kids are often having to eat from soup kitchens. They can't always provide for themselves. They don't own their homes. They don't have anything from retirement. And then you drop this whole nuclear docuseries, and it's pointing some correct things, but you speak in these broad generalizations around people that you don't know. And then it affects them.
The only generalization, the main generalization I make is they all play by the same legal IRS
Yeah,
rule.
but they're all
which they do.
corrupt. They're all corrupted and eaten by the system. That's your generalization.
They
eaten
will
by the
eventually.
system. They're eaten by the system.
Whether they leave
Okay.
because they're burned out, which is 47%. And so this is actually
And I'm
brilliant.
telling you, I think why they're burnt out is because of the hyper-skepticism. The stereotype around pastors is he's the goof Homer. He's easy to dunk on. He's the Al Bundy of this generation.
Not
That's
at
why
all.
they're burnt out.
Extremely like
No, the
That's
1%.
your
The
perspective on
1% are that. Nathan, the 1%. The average dude isn't that, dude. He's not taking an exorbitant housing allowance. He's not crushing it in his
again
in his
the
finances.
system. Well, guess what? We don't know that. Like this annual report didn't even get. You said it's revenue, but it says expenses on it. That's how gimmicky these little
Yes.
books are.
Why is it giving you don't
Because you have no data in it.
There's that. It is the definition of data. There's an expense and there's a budget and there's where the money has went.
There's an
I don't
expense
understand.
column, and then it has
Yes.
three or four little words that says what
Yes.
this 200 grand
Yes.
went
And
to.
you want to know what every dollar on every stapler was
don't-
spent on?
it
You
is
think our
our-
congregation cares what the staplers cost?
they should
care what the staplers
They
were
should
spent on.
care where
and they should
their
care about
generosity goes.
the numbers spent on soap and tissue.
They should care where their generosity goes. Yes.
The generosity is there, and if they care, they'll look at it, they'll see it. It's available
Okay.
for any person that walks in.
So I want to go over this. There's an awesome study. You can call it conjecture or
Hold on.
whatever.
Let's. I want to unpack this institutional. Like, there's no part of you, Nathan, that worries that demonizing institutional ministry, you're actually discouraging the very
I'm
people.
not demonizing. That's your words.
Okay.
but okay.
What's a fair word?
Exploring.
Okay. Exploring.
Mm-hmm.
You're just exploring. Okay.
Yeah.
In your, I would say, uncharitable. There's some of the stuff you said to me here. You guys are taking the Ekklesia, you're packaging it with the corporation.
You are. That's not rocket science, dude. That's
No.
straight
That's
scripture.
that's the
We can
least
take
charitable.
the biblical.
That's the least charitable
We can take
view.
the biblical
And we went over the-
verbiage,
Nathan.
and then we start a corporation. Those are two different things.
Nathan, respectfully.
And the fact that you
Nathan,
say I'm uncharitable about it, I'm
you
just
are.
pointing it out.
You are uncharitable, bro. And you
You
don't
start
see
a
it 'cause
corporation, you
Nathan,
incorporate.
you
That
keep-
is not
I know
the body
that.
of
I know that your
Christ.
audience hears that and it's like, ooh, boogie word, corporation. Corporation is a vehicle to use tax benefits. When we went over Scriptural, you fumbled the scriptures this entire conversation. Bro.
No, I didn't,
You
dude.
fumbled
You-
the Greek. You fumbled 1 Timothy 5.
You fumbled the Greek. You
fumbled
said living was money, and then you pulled it up, and there was not money listed.
It said
once.
wages.
So don't.
Nathan, I just
You're
pulled it up.
talking about that one
yes,
verse in
yes,
Timothy.
the verse you
I'm
said
talking
meat.
about the other verse.
And I'm talking about the other verse in 1 Corinthians, which says wages. I'm talking about multiple wages that talk about pastors.
You
I'm talking
used
about
an entire widow's story to explain.
I'm using the widow story in the
Yeah.
same way the widow was taken care of by the church financially is the same way the overseer is worthy of double honor. That's why I read it to you in context.
Oh, that was a double honor. You said was salary too. No, that's
It
not.
was a double
salary.
honor, and then it says wages, which is pay.
Dude,
Okay, and you
your
said it was
entire
me.
interpretation of Scripture is based around protecting the institution that we've built and
Nathan,
the system we've built.
that's a great talking point, but you've just proven yourself that you're not actually arguing anything based on Scripture. You don't even know if Paul was inspired by God. Is his
I didn't
words
say that.
Okay, you said.
I said he was a fallible man.
Okay, are Paul's words Scripture? Yes or no?
They are in the 66
Are
book canon,
they
yes.
Scripture? Is
They-
it God breathed?
Sure, yes. The Scriptures are God breathed.
Okay, is
Yes.
Paul's words
He is a
authoritative?
fallible man.
We're not talking about
Is
fallible.
he a fallible man or not?
Yes, he's a fallible man.
Okay,
All the
thank
writers,
you.
but all the writers of Scripture are fallible men. We
Beautiful.
still approach Scripture with reverence
Correct.
and allow
so
it to
you need
teach us.
to read the whole Scriptures
Yes, and the
to
whole
understand
and,
it.
and the whole Scripture. Again, we can go back to it as
And where
much as
in
you want.
Scripture
Or
is this corporation that we build?
I'm not talking about corporations. Or is
Where
it
is it that we
only
kinda
I?
sorta take a
Or is
tithe,
it only
you know?
I and Barnabas who lack the right to not work for a living? That is what Paul is saying about people in the church.
Paul did work. He said, I want to preach the gospel unencumbered because he
as
knew
an exception to the
people-
rule. As an exception to the
Ah.
rule. As an exception. We go over it.
I find it funny
Nathan,
that pastors
come on, bro.
will go to the lowest common denominator
No,
and
it's
say, you
not
know what,
the
I wanna
lowest
be an
common denominator.
ox.
Nathan,
Paul
you're
and
fumbling.
Jesus?
Nathan,
Nah,
Nathan,
I'm going to be an ox.
Nathan,
I'm going to be this
Nathan,
animal.
you're fumbling Scripture, bro. Or is it only I and Barnabas who lack the right to not work for a living? He goes on and on to make the principal point that those who preach and teach the gospel have a right. I could pull up the Greek for you there to make a living, to not have to work.
Pull up
to
the
say-
list. Wait, are we in Timothy?
We're in 1 Corinthians.
Okay.
Okay, so you want me to pull up the word wages again, and it's not meat, that it's in wage, it's pay?
We pulled up and you're like, oh, this one's meat.
No. I told you where you got the meat verse was in Matthew.
Correct.
When Jesus said
When
that.
Jesus.
Okay, that was one time.
I'll leverage the words of Jesus, or I'll place the words of Jesus
over the
Jesus'
words of Paul?
trump everything. Yes.
Okay, over the words of Paul.
Yes.
Even though Paul is giving not descriptive, Jesus is giving.
So you wouldn't
No,
put
no, no.
Christ's words over Paul's.
I'm not taking descriptive passages about how Jesus sent out the disciples and using those as prescriptive teachings of how churches should compensate people fairly.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not doing that.
You are, that is what you're doing. You're saying they deserve wages, Nathan.
Yes, they do, according to what Paul said.
You are the one taking scriptures and pointing it to the system, saying,
No.
deserve wages.
Nathan, you keep saying system. We're talking about the local church. What I'm saying is,
The
according
local
to
church
Paul,
is not the
stop cutting me
corporation.
off, bro. The local church, according to Paul, according to 1 Corinthians 9, according to 1 Timothy 5, repeatedly says that those who preach in the local church should make their wages, not meat, wages. I helped you out and say, hey, I think this is where you got the word meat from. It's a different word. Jesus used it
Day laborer
descriptively.
again.
Descriptively sending out the disciples for the first time. It was a descriptive
You're
passage.
protecting a modern system and saying they deserve salaries
that
and
is
houses
that
and
is
everything
an ad
else.
hominem and an appeal to motive fallacy.
No.
You keep saying what I'm doing. I'm talking about the scriptures. Engage with the
You
argument.
can't even define transparency to your audience.
Nathan, I already defined transparency for you.
You said unity,
I said
trust, and
I said no. What I said
something
was
else,
transparency. I never defined transparency.
Because
I
you
said
can't, because it
no,
flawed your whole system.
No, it doesn't.
Your whole
no, it
argument
doesn't.
fails
I said
on transparency.
transparency is built on unity and maturity. Based on where someone is with unity and maturity, that's how transparency works.
Okay.
I never gave you a definition for transparency. I said unity and maturity.
Because you can't define transparency, because as soon as you define it, your corporate structure and the lack of transparency in your corporate structure comes to the surface.
It doesn't.
And the house of cards
No,
collapses.
it doesn't. Because the church is still producing the fruit. The church is still.
What is the fruit?
What is the fruit? People that are more likely to stay married. People that
That's
are more
the
likely to
gospel.
give.
That's the life-giving bread
yes,
of the gospel.
and where do most people hear the gospel and get taught about scripture? In the church, Nathan.
No. Why don't you tell them to read the scriptures alone? And this is what I
And
want to get into.
And we do. We tell people to read the scriptures, and they're discipled in the local church, and they're counseled in the local church, and they're loved in the local church, and they're developed in the local church. And then because of that, Nathan, they produce the fruit through the local church. That is what's happening. By the data, Christians are overall doing better. Practicing Christians, people that go to church are outperforming on every measurable metric.
Sure,
my
you're
brother.
taking the benefits of the gospel and Christ's word and applying that
The
to
benefits of
institutional
the benefits of
corporation.
the gospel are preached from a local church that takes advantage of institutions
No, they're
and
not.
tax
'Cause-
benefits.
well,
That is what they're doing.
I'll tell
That
you
is what
right
they're
now.
doing. In the
I
same
would
way,
argue your pastor preaches a false gospel because he preaches tithing. He preaches that he's the Levitical priest.
no, he doesn't. Nate, we
He
pulled up the
said it.
clip.
I
We're gonna
kinda like a
put the clip
Levitical-
here.
The Levitical tithe was the first that you would give. So you had your 10, and you'd be like, okay, this is for basically the priesthood. And the priesthood were the ones, the Levites, they took care of the temple. They were like, I guess you could say like kind of modern day like church staff. They're the ones that run the temple. They're the ones that take care of the temple. They're the ones that are doing the sacrifices.
We're going to put the clip here.
Church staff is kind of
nuance
like the Levitical priest.
Nuance it. I think you do a really good service to yourself and to your entire project and hopefully season 2 by just nuancing these stuff a little bit. You speak with such certainty and absolutes.
I just quoted your pastor.
Yes. But the first time.
But somehow I spoke.
No.
I didn't use the word kind of.
Yes, you were moving specific words. That word kind of.
You shoved full sentences
What
into my mouth
sentences
earlier.
did I
and
shove
I'm like,
in your
I
mouth?
didn't say that.
What
I didn't
sentences?
say that. I didn't say that.
What sentences?
Dude, I don't remember. You
Exactly.
Roll the
I never.
tape back again.
I never. I
You've
never
added lots of words.
I have
said, I
never
didn't say
put a.
that.
I
didn't
never
say
put.
that.
No, I read your quotes word for word about people being corrupted by the system.
Yes, and I said,
eaten
yeah, I
by
said
the
that.
system. And my concern.
You're missing.
My
I was
concern-
talking about a long time
My
ago.
concern is if the public absorbs your message that everyone who takes money from the church is corrupted, that will negatively affect men. And specifically young men that need the local church. They're in a local church. You want to say, oh, it's a corporation and it's bad and it's an institution. I'm telling you, lives are being transformed, Nathan.
In community.
In community, sometimes in a local church building, sometimes at my house, from Rhythm Church.
So the
That is happening.
institution that's on
And the
top
institution-
of it needs to be transparent.
And the institution that's on top of it is accountable and transparent with a board.
What
and
is
the people,
transparency?
They need to be transparent to fully reveal yourself, like the light that shows. I could tell you the actual definition.
and
We
to
looked it
hold
up.
up to public scrutiny.
And hold up to public scrutiny. And we do that. We do that in the context of the local church. So
you won't tell me your
this-
board. You won't tell me the pastor's
I told you
salaries.
why I won't tell you the board, Nathan. I told you why I wouldn't tell
But
the
you're
board.
missing my point. I can pull up any 990 on a secular nonprofit or a
And a
publicly
church
traded
and a
company.
church is not a secular nonprofit.
You're right.
A church is not a
play
secular
in a
nonprofit.
much darker world
Nope.
legally.
Nope. They play
don't? Are you saying
outside. They play outside of the oversight of a government that was intended to have a separation of church and state and not be in the affairs of the church.
And that's why the system is abused.
No.
And that's why people are leaving the church. And you
No,
can call
people
it
aren't leaving the church, bro.
They're looking for hope
Nathan,
in Christ's message.
Our church has doubled from this time last year to this year. Church,
Yeah.
People aren't leaving. Young men are flooding the churches.
They're trying to find truth.
They're flooding the churches and they're staying and they're coming in droves.
I'm
and
stoked
they're,
for that.
And they're bringing their friends. And you are saying institutional church bad. I'm sorry if I put words in your mouth. Whatever.
Yeah, I never said that, but okay.
Institutional church, they're eaten by it. They're corrupted. They're eaten by it.
I said the institutional church plays in the darkest legal structure in America when it should be the brightest and the lightest based off of the definition of transparency, which you finally sort of agreed to just now.
I agreed to your definition of transparency. And I said repeatedly, Nathan, those churches exist.
So the join
those churches.
Corporations should be transparent.
Join those churches and pour your life into those. Join those churches that you think are doing it the right way, and pour yourself into. Highlight those churches.
I do.
Okay, so but you're not highlighting those in your work. You're consistently pointing out.
You haven't seen the religion business.
I haven't, and I wish you would have said that to me. And
I don't need to. I bought your book, bro.
I didn't ask you to buy the book.
I don't need to ask
and
you for things.
And listen, no, hold on, Nate. If someone's coming here to do my podcast, do not act like it's beyond some reasonable conclusion that they usually will send me their book or they will send me something for me to check out.
I wanted to support
That's cool,
you.
man. I'm glad.
Book,
I didn't want to support you respectfully. I didn't want to because
Okay.
of all the press I've seen. So if someone's coming to have a conversation, even if I'm disagreeing, and I'll tell you some of the people that want to come, sending me their book, don't want to come because they're afraid to have a conversation. Those people send me the things I'm supposed to engage in. So don't hold that over my head as if I did something wrong because I didn't want to support your docuseries.
Well, maybe you, instead of being pigeonholed, should actually want to explore this topic because everything we've been talking about for the last 2.5 hours.
It's actually 3.5 hours.
3.5 is covered very nuanced with the smartest theologians and historians and statisticians in the world.
That's fine. What I'm saying is, hey man, you could have sent it to me. I wish you would have sent it to me. You're coming on my podcast. Usually when people come on my podcast, they send me the work they want me to engage in. You didn't do that. Don't hold it over my head like I'm some bad guy because I didn't want to support your docuseries. I did not support your docuseries. I did not support your docuseries.
So you said you were coming at this with or not an unbiased. You're like, I have no bone to pick with this fight. Clearly you do.
I said I have no dog in the fight.
Dog in the fight because clearly you do because you don't support my work. So you're like, hey, you know what? I'm not even going to watch it.
I don't support your work. Because I've demonstrated repeatedly in this conversation that I think it's a hasty generalization fallacy, creating unnecessary stereotypes. You're taking a too small of a sample, and you're generalizing it across all pastors. That is my opinion, and I gathered that from your work. I gathered that from your work. And when you reached out to me back in January, I said, "Man, let me check it out. I think I'm down to have a conversation with you." Told you churches I was affiliated with, the people that planted us. I told you everything. I didn't keep anything from you. Okay. And you didn't send it to me. That's cool. You don't have to send it to me. Then the more I watched of your stuff, the more I saw you on Instagram, the more I saw you on Shawn Ryan, the more I saw you go back and forth with Russ B. Johnson, who's an acquaintance of mine. The more I said, man, it seems like Nate has slid into this Julie Royce, big church bad type of. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm saying this is what I'm gathering from you, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to support that. I don't want to back that.
Okay.
Why is that unreasonable?
I'm not saying it's unreasonable. I just think it's funny that you'd have a guest on. And not even do any,
I guess I disagree with. You're here because when I had Tim and I'm not going to compare you to Tim Whitaker from the New Evangelicals, but when I had Tim Whitaker on from the New Evangelicals, I didn't support his Patreon. I didn't buy his whatever he had going on. I didn't buy any merch. I had him on. It was a conversation we knew we were going to disagree about.
But see, I even came on and promoted your Patreon, and I read your books because I actually care about altering the culture of our church closer back to Christ. I would expect someone who actually cared to do that to remove themselves from their bias lens enough to say, hey, this might be a journey. The show might be a journey I want to go on, even though it's a hard pill to swallow.
You have a 9, how many episodes? 8 episodes? 7 episodes. My wife is about to have a baby.
6.5 hours.
My wife is about to have a baby.
So don't blame me for not sending you the show. Clearly you're busy.
I am busy, but I did ask for the show. Okay, and so we could bicker about the show or not the show. I think you could have sent it to me, and I would have been. And I even asked you. I said, "Hey, man, if you want to talk about the documentary, could you please send it to me?" You really are going to tell me you have no way of sending people screeners without them paying for it. You have no way.
Not via Amazon.
I didn't say Amazon.
We had it in the past before Amazon.
Okay, but there's no unlisted links on YouTube.
I
There's
actually
no
find
video.
it a little disrespectful, to be honest, that you'd ask for a free like it's so
Really?
bizarre. 100%, dude.
Okay,
It's like I'm supporting you. We're blasting your Patreon.
I don't understand why you would find it disrespectful if you're coming on my channel and you're saying, and I didn't ask you to do that. That's very kind you did that, but I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't ask you to buy the book. And if I was coming on your channel, which hopefully we will have this conversation outdoors with panoramic red cameras and all the great stuff, I would have sent you the book. I would have given you the book and said, hey man, let's talk about the book. There's a chapter in the book that relates to your docuseries. I would have given it to you because I'm coming on your platform.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we don't need to
I read it in your conclusion of your book. You quote Hebrews 10 and it's, let us consider one another to provoke into love and to good works, not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together, as is the manner of some. As is the manner of some.
You want me to pull up the verse?
Yeah, pull it. Well, I've got it. Yeah. But to exhort one another, and so we've created these corporate structure churches that are so money hungry from an overhead perspective that we demand and require everybody to stay in this church.
We don't demand and require everybody to do that, though, Nathan.
Subconsciously, bro. As soon as you stop missing budget,
that's an appeal.
You're off.
Nathan, that's an appeal to motive fallacy. You don't know the intent or the consciousness of people. We never tell people if someone, bro.
You never tell people what.
If like I'm giving you an example, and this is probably going to get me cooked. If someone's like flirting with Eastern Orthodoxy, and they want to go explore that, we don't tell them they can't go explore that.
Yes, because you need another butt in that seat because you've built this model that has this 1.2 million a year in expenses.
What butt in the seat? I just told you we're cool if people want to leave.
I know we've built systems though. Every church is a system. In this Willow Creek study, which I want to talk through, is, do you know Willow Creek?
Yeah, I know Willow Creek, man.
Big church.
Big church.
Bill Hybels, right? So they, in their humility, and I tip my hat to them, wanted to see how to deepen the faith of their congregants. And this is when they were at their peak, 20,000 members cranking. And his the executive pastor was Greg Hawkins. And I'm going to read, it's a long study, but I'm going to read just a couple paragraphs. Greg wondered, of all the things the church did, what really made the greatest impact. If a generous donor gave Willow $100,000 to invest in making the biggest impact on helping parishioners grow in the discipleship of Christ, would Hawkins and the church leadership really know what to do with the money? And so they hired Stanford. Yeah. Stanford came in, did all this research.
Yeah, I got an amazing story of a biggest church in Nashville is doing the same thing.
So the first data point came back. And according to Hawkins, the data didn't make sense. Despite questions designed to measure everything from church participation to spiritual maturity, and despite the application of state-of-the-art research techniques, the answers we were looking for weren't showing up. It turned out that the data made perfect sense, but as Hawkins admitted, we were just blinded by our bias that increased participation in church leads to spiritual growth. Once we got over ourselves and let the data do the talking, we learned 3 shocking facts about our congregation. 1, increased participation in church activities alone barely increased love of God and others. 2, Willow had a lot of dissatisfied people. 3, many people were so dissatisfied that they were ready to leave the congregation. This is one of the biggest megachurches in the U.S. The conclusion was higher levels of church activity did not predict an increasing love for God, nor for other people. People who were very involved in the church did not express more love for God than people who were less involved. Participating in church did drive some Christian behaviors, what the team defined as being more likely to serve at the church and to tithe. However, higher levels of activity did not seem to impact spiritual growth. And the conclusion was they came back and said the number one thing, and this is a secular think tank that came back, and they said the number one thing, the driver that everyone correlated is this whole Bible engagement thing. Not just Bible knowledge, but Bible reading, reflecting on it, letting the word of it influence your life and more areas of your life. This came out of NFO's work, and NFO is a secular company that has no spiritual bias whatsoever.
Amen.
This Willow Creek study came back, and it was basically, what are we building because it's not deepening people's faith?
What year is that?
2012.
I mean, I'd say it's a little dated in the peak of like the attractional model. You know, I think we've talked about that.
But
this is what
the
I'm saying.
attractional model is like, look at kingdom builders. They are all these massive church planters are wanting to be Willow. They're trying to launch.
Listen.
Their taglines are launch large.
Yeah, I can't speak to ARC. I can't speak to Willow. It's 2012. I'm so pumped they did that study. That's great. I would probably agree with them. I think, there's not a through line of like go to church more and then you'll be more like Jesus.
But hey, if you go to church more and get involved more, what are the two things that you end up doing? Serving at the physical institution and then giving more to that institution.
So one, again, serving for me. And again, maybe you disagree with this, bro. As a dude, you trying to get our attention? As a dude, no father in my life, no mentors.
Yeah.
Serving at the church taught me so much. One, about people. Two, how to communicate. Three, the very stuff I'm doing now with all this. I mean, you see my guy Chris left. It's just me and you here, right? Yeah. I'm running this entire stream. All of this was learned because I served at the church. Like there's hard skills being developed within serving at churches. Now, I do think that people can go to extreme. Like if you're having folks come and it's a mobile church and, folks got to get volunteers are there 5 a.m. to set up. I don't know if you saw the Hillsong New York docuseries, but this is a couple years ago. And it was like, man, these folks are getting here and they're cooked and they're there all day. Like I think there's a you can go to an extreme with that. But for someone like me, bro, like no hard skills, no knowledge of cameras, no knowledge of audio, no knowledge of anything to get into a church and work with, a mixer, a camera, a video switcher. Like the reason I got a video switcher is because I borrowed a video switcher from my church and started cutting cameras and live streaming. So I think serving is good. Can you overdo it? Absolutely, you can overdo it, right? Can you be so active in the church that you're not reading your Bible and you're not studying? You could totally. I mean, again, you read my book. Like my book is not like serve. There's one chapter in there about church, and then it's like, hey man, get committed to a church. That's a good anchor for you. Giving is a good anchor for you. It's a good rhythm for you, pun intended. And then go out and build something. Build some useful skills. Help people. Usher in goodness and beauty. So I wouldn't disagree with anything that they found there. Again, 2012. Yeah, I think people should serve. Should they serve 3 times a week, 4 times a week? I've gotten in trouble, by the way. I got roasted for this and got chopped up for saying, if you're trying to get out of debt, you may not want to serve at church every night of the week. And I got torn apart for that, right? So again, we have overlap. Like, man, like probably shouldn't be at church every night. Like probably should go build some skills. Like a lot of the young men I'm talking to is like, cool, man, you're here on Tuesday and like you come to Thursday, which is our regular service. I was hoping to take you guys to. And then you're also here all day Sunday. Like maybe you want to carve out some time to go and volunteer somewhere else or go build some skills or go learn cameras the way you have learned cameras and do some other stuff. But I do think, man, for most people that are coming from poverty, for most people that are struggling, stepping into a local church context, specifically the non-denominational type that's so easy to dunk on and make fun of, is an amazing launch pad to develop hard skills that are transferable to develop someone as a competent man. And that's becoming harder and harder to do in today's society. Like, when we grew up, average people can make a decent living. They can make a comfortable salary. They can get married. They can have a house and they're cool. Yeah. In 2025, that's impossible. Like it's very difficult. Like if you're not an outlier and you're not exceptional, it's not going to happen. So anyway, I say all that to say, like, I don't have a problem with that study. I think it's a good study. From what you read, I would agree with it. I'm not saying going to church more is a one-to-one. I'm saying going to church more and living out what God has worked in, getting into your scriptures is a great thing. I think rhythms of giving and rhythms of serving are awesome for most people. If I meet guys all the time that are like, what is the medical program? They're becoming doctors. And they're like, man, should I be serving? Should I be? It's like, no, you shouldn't. Like you shouldn't be serving. You shouldn't be giving. Like you need to just focus on what's in front of you. So there's ebbs and flows in their seasons. I'm trying to speak to the widest group of people with young men and just saying, hey man, dude, it's probably good for you to get your butt in a local church, to serve and to give, even though the institution is flawed, even though there may not be as much transparency to whatever degrees as you would like, it's still good. And if you have questions, ask the questions. Most churches are handling the tough questions, not afraid of the questions when it's built on relationship. Yeah. So I listen, can we do this? Let's do this again. If you're like, bro, it hurt me that you didn't watch. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Trust me, I'm gonna sleep just fine.
I feel like, Ruslan, I feel like you weren't an adequate interviewer because you didn't watch my docuseries and you didn't pay for it and you didn't support me. And I don't want to send it to you because I can't. let's no, I'm being for like you can't because it's on Amazon and it's exclusive or whatever. I'd love to have this conversation again with you on your platforms with your amazing quality and anamorphic lenses, and you dropped all that stuff on me. I was like, this sounds awesome. And let's do this again.
Yeah.
And
I would like to give like a final pitch, and you can give your final pitch. I think viewers should be into that.
Yeah, go for it.
So our whole deal is we've built institutions, corporations that file corporate documents and receive tax exempt status. There is no legal document holding these churches to account. So audits, all of that are technically just hot air, because whatever financials that church hands to the auditor, they have to believe and put faith that that data is accurate. Right now, I totally disagree that your pie chart in Rhythm Church's annual report is transparency. There's a million ways you can read that you have hundreds of thousands going down into like just simple descriptor words. So this to me is not transparency. The institutional church in and of itself is not bad, but the institutional church is a corporation, and the body needs to regulate that corporation and regulate the leadership, because right now all the power silos at the top in these organizations. It's the opposite of democracy. And so we are all for stewarding your faith. We are all for generous giving, but Christ told us in Matthew 25 to give very specific people and people groups help, and that's through our generosity. The data is proving that we are not doing that. Pennies on the dollar are going to help those communities. So the model is upside down. So we got to flip it around. And at the end of the day, with that Willow Creek study, we love to build brands and build productions. And that's not what Christ told us to do. So it's time for the church to get, the real church, the body, to get back to what it's called to do. And it needs to regulate the institutions that we've built. And right now, there's no way to properly regulate them.
Can I give my pitch?
Oh, of course. Yeah, that was mine. Thank you, sir.
Do you want to be on the screen when I'm giving mine? Or
no, give your pitch.
Okay. Full transparency without maturity isn't accountability. It's chaos. And that's a lot of what's happening with this conversation around institutions, the hyper-skepticism around institutions. And I think that accountability is great. Accountability with transparency is built on relationship and trust and unity. And I think most churches are beyond reasonable in being accountable and transparent. And so my encouragement to you is get your butt in a local church, plug into a local church. Institutions, corporations, nonprofit status, marriage certificates, S-corps are all just vehicles. Brands are all just vehicles to be efficient with our time, talent, and treasure. Technology, the advancement of stages, lights, beautiful art on the walls are all things at our disposal. Just because it's not in the Bible doesn't mean it's against the Bible. That is an argument from silence. And I think we need to acknowledge the amazing pastors that are doing a great job, that love Jesus, that are living simple, quiet lives, that oftentimes their kids go to food kitchens, and they are, to me, the Navy SEALs of the faith. They're on the front lines. They're marrying people. They're burying people. They're doing counseling. They're preaching every week. They're leading a staff. And I think those people need to be paid more and not less. And I think those people need to be taken care of per 1 Timothy 5, that they are worthy of a double portion. And hopefully you come away with this conversation and go deeper into the scripture and see whose exegesis made the most amount of sense, who handled the Greek well, who made the most coherent argument according to scripture. That would be my heart for you, according to not just descriptive passages when Jesus sent out the first time, but according to prescriptive passages of how we are to care for those who handle the word and preach the word. So anyway, Nathan, that's my pitch. Thank you so much for doing this, bro.
Brother.
All right, guys, we're out of here. Love you guys. Check out Nathan, The Religion Business. And read your Bible. Go to church. Peace.
Read that Bible.